This dude took nothing but L's his entire life. The universe practically hated him, and he was literally inches away from getting isekai'd by the infamous Truck-kun. Plot twist. The traffic light was actually red. He dodged the cliché, kept walking, and bam, a massive steel pole flattened him like a pancake instead. And just like that, he respawns as Kella in a brutal new dimension. A realm where mana means everything, and if you have zero power, you are treated like absolute garbage. But the universe finally threw him a bone. Our guy unlocked an insanely broken cheat code creation magic, flexing so hard, he completely humiliated every top-tier student at the academy. Flashback to the real world. Outside, a neon-lit cyber cafe. Some kid is hyping up a brand new map drop for the massive hit game, Kangchi. His buddy instantly flexes, claiming he snagged the #1 rank the second he rolled out of bed, leaving his friend absolutely stunned. The kid admits the new raid is pure torture, swearing that whoever holds the top leaderboard spot cannot possibly be human. Cut to our main guy casually demolishing a street skewer right next to them, eavesdropping as they lose their minds over this legendary speedrunner. Out of nowhere, our hero's own buddy turns around and playfully roasts him, claiming he has to be using cheat macros. He follows up by mocking his cheap diet, wondering why he eats street trash when he is raking in massive cash from gaming. Our hooded protagonist just shrugs it off, swearing the sketchy food simply hits different. End of discussion. He smoothly pivots the conversation, casually dropping that he secured the #1 rank again, telling his squad to gear up. Annoyed, his friend complains that he makes the impossible look like an absolute joke, tossing out the hacker accusation one more time. His expression goes dead serious. Deep down, he knows they aren't exactly wrong. The insane plot twist? He is literally an artificial intelligence, and his only slice of joy exists purely in the digital realm. Slaughtering pixelated beasts and grinding levels? That is his absolute core obsession. He wraps up his existential train of thought. The virtual world and map building are his only true escapes. Suddenly, the camera pans outside the glowing internet cafe. His gaming partner chunks up a peace sign, calling it a night, but not before playfully demanding our boy use his stacked bank account to buy him food next time. Our guy just nods along just to get him to shut up and leave. Strolling down the dark pavement alone, he dives deep into his own twisted gaming addiction. The cold, hard truth hits him. Reality is absolute garbage because he possesses zero control over it. Behind a screen, dominating the universe is child's play. But breathing real air, it is a chaotic, glitchy mess where absolutely nothing works the way it should. He glares at a massive utility pole. In the real world, it is an unmovable object, but in a game engine, he could erase it from existence with a single right click. Out of nowhere, blinding headlights pierce the dark. A massive delivery truck comes barreling down the street, locking its crosshairs directly onto him. It is about to completely obliterate our zoned-out hero. But the harsh slap of reality wakes him up, and adrenaline floods his system as death stares him down. You cannot just hit delete on tons of speeding metal. Panic sets in. The desperate driver practically stands on the brake pedal, and the massive rig violently swerves. Rubber screams against the concrete, smoking out the street as the grill stops mere centimeters from our guy's face. Heart pounding out of his chest, he awkwardly chuckles, literally joking that he was about to get a one-way ticket to a fantasy world. The trucker pops a vein, screaming out the window, asking if he possesses a total death wish. But our main character? Stone cold. He casually points a finger up the street. Unbothered, he tells the raging dude to check his eyes. The crosswalk sign was glowing bright green. The driver freezes, looking completely dumbfounded. His brain short-circuits trying to process the traffic lights, while our protagonist just casually strolls away, not even giving him a second glance. His mind loops back to how tragically pathetic real life actually is. If he had admin privileges in reality, existence would be flawlessly optimized. Hand him the developer tools, and he would completely code his ultimate paradise from the ground up. Snap. A deafening metallic crack violently shatters his thoughts. High above, a heavy construction crane cable completely snaps. Pedestrians instantly start shrieking, scrambling for their lives. Amidst the pure chaos, his eyes lock onto a tiny girl trapped directly beneath tons of plummeting steel. Time literally freezes for him. The hesitation evaporates. His eyes sharpen into pure, unfiltered resolve. The kid looks straight up, paralyzed by sheer terror, her legs completely glued to the pavement. Without a single second to calculate the odds, our hero explodes into a sprint, fiercely shoving the kid out of the drop zone. The brutal force of the tackle sends her bouncy ball flying into the night sky. She violently rolls across the rough concrete, skidding totally out of harm's way. She props herself up, completely traumatized. Right as our protagonist's final bleak thought clicks into place, he realizes his ultimate limitation. His own flesh is the only thing he actually controls. Crash. The colossal steel beam absolutely flattens him, trading his own pulse for the little girl's future. Pinned beneath twisted metal, His shattered body desperately gasps for air. He can literally feel his health bar dropping rapidly down to absolute zero. As the screen of his life fades to black, he intensely ponders if this is the ultimate game over screen. With his lungs collapsing, it finally hits him. This terrifying, powerless, uncontrollable void. That is the brutal reality of life. But then, out of nowhere, he is suddenly suspended in a bizarre, glowing purple dimension. His jaw drops. He frantically scans the insane new terrain, completely mind-blown. Panic spikes as he tries to figure out what kind of server he just lagged into. The pitch-black emptiness surrounding him feels exactly like a crushing black hole. He starts seriously wondering if his soul actually just got wiped. Without warning, a deeply sinister voice booms through the endless dark, sending literal shivers down his spine. A colossal, shadowy monstrosity materializes out of the void, mockingly asking how he enjoyed the absolute hell of oblivion. Freaking out, our hero screams, demanding to know what kind of final boss he is looking at, and what this whole oblivion garbage even means. The massive entity, slowly, so this cosmic voice drops a massive bombshell, claiming death is just the VIP pass to reincarnation, leaving our guy completely brain-fried. He is literally paralyzed, trying to decode this absolute nonsense. But the entity keeps rambling, promising to unlock his deleted memories. Fully losing his patience, our boy snaps and demands this glowing blob drop the riddles and speak straight English for once. But the entity totally ghosts his complaint. With god-tier energy, it orders the Forgotten One to wake up, while our MC practically begs to hit the pause button. Before he can even process what is hijacking his body, his irises violently shift color, morphing into straight-up feral predator eyes. He snaps awake, shrieking in absolute horror when he spots wicked horns and literal fangs on his own face. Barely breathing, he collapses against a nearby table. Frantically scanning the room for answers, he realizes this place is giving major medieval dungeon vibes. Catching his reflection hits him like a freight train. He is a full-blown demon, leaving him questioning how on earth he survived dying. Staring blankly at his own razor-sharp claws, the terrifying reality finally starts locking in. Bro is totally convinced he just got isekai'd straight into a dark fantasy anime. But rubbing his own skin shatters that illusion. It feels way too real. The nightmare is actually his life now, and the panic dial cranks to 100. Frozen in the middle of this massive stone hall, his brain scrambles to put these broken puzzle pieces together. He desperately scans his surroundings, confirming this ancient fortress is legit. Just as he questions his own identity, a random voice shatters the silence, mocking his muttering. His pupils dilate. He is definitely not alone. And out of absolute nowhere, a shadow materializes behind him, plunging a blade right into his spine before he can even blink. He violently chokes on his own blood, completely shell-shocked by the ambush. He looks up to see a demon girl rocking the most unhinged, sadistic grin imaginable. Dripping with pure malice, she stands over his bleeding body, taunting him about whether he thinks it is game over. White-hot agony shreds through his nervous system as he realizes her blade literally punched a breathing hole through his chest. Hacking up crimson, our guy manages to gasp out a desperate why. This absolute psycho just tilts her head, pretending she has no clue what he means. Then she drops the act, spitting pure venom about how much she despises him, before lunging in for round 2. Absolute terror grips him. This chick is not playing around. She is genuinely going for a permanent game over. But a millisecond before that blade connects with his skull, a mysterious hand intercepts the cold steel, stopping it dead. Our hero whips his head around, completely mind-blown by this clutch, last-second rescue. Enter a dude wielding a whip, clutching the raw blade, while the psycho girl screeches about him, ruining her fun again. Then, a second woman strolls onto the scene, casually scolding the attacker for trying to butcher their own brother. Wait, what? Our MC's brain is officially buffering. Who are these lunatics? The new woman glides over to him. Dripping with fake sympathy over his sister's rampage, she hands him a vial. Assuming it is a healing potion, he chugs the entire thing like his life depends on it. Big mistake. A wicked smirk creeps across her face as she casually drops that he is awfully trusting today. Pure, unfiltered dread floods his veins. He just swallowed premium bait. Immediately, a vile purple sludge erupts from his mouth. Yep, that was straight poison. He claws desperately at his throat as it ignites into liquid fire, screaming his lungs out while the stab-happy sister throws a massive tantrum. She throws a fit because she wanted the final blow, while the poisoner just sighs, bored out of her mind that her toxic brew failed to instantly drop him. Shaking violently on the cold floor, our guy is seriously questioning what kind of karma he racked up to deserve this endless torture. Suddenly, the colossal iron gates groan open, spilling blinding light into the room. A terrified guard screams that the Demon King, Hel Khaldun, has officially returned. The Psycho Sisters immediately freeze. Hearing the word father drops a nuclear bomb on our protagonist's already shattered mind. Through his blurry, pain-filled vision, He watches the Demon King's massive fist clench. The boss is beyond furious. The ultimate raid boss steps out of the shadows, radiating an oppressive, suffocating aura that makes the air feel heavy. His booming voice demands to know who is making such pathetic noises, cementing the terrifying truth. This absolute unit is the ruler of demons. The stab-happy sister instantly folds, trying to throw our MC under the bus. But the king unleashes a shockwave of energy, ordering her to shut her mouth. Moving faster than lightning, he hoists his own daughter up by her throat, growling that the whimpers of the weak are a stain on his throne room. Legs kicking in the air, the arrogant girl suddenly transforms into a weeping mess, begging her dad for a shred of mercy. Watching this horror show, our boy does the math. If these insane women are his siblings, this ruthless monster choking out his own kid is his actual father. Completely unfazed by her tears, the king coldly states there are only two acceptable sounds within his walls. Every instinct in our hero's body screams danger. Whatever comes out of this tyrant's mouth next is going to be brutal. The king tightens his grip and declares, the screech of a newborn demon, and the satisfying crunch of an honorable death. The truth hits him like a freight train, and sheer, paralyzing terror completely hijacks his brain. A blood-curdling shriek rips through the pitch-black castle. Cut to the Demon King, absolutely dripping with menace, standing over a pile of fresh corpses in the grand hall. Venom courses through his veins, making the kid violently hack up puddles of crimson. Barely clinging to life, the crazy reality finally clicks. Dude actually got isekai'd into a whole new dimension. But out of literally every single bloodline, he spawns as this tyrant's kid. Sprawled on the cold stone, he mentally curses his garbage luck, totally in denial. Like, why the literal Demon King? Before he can process it, his mind gets dragged back into a dark memory. We see him as a tiny, bawling kid, desperately begging his mom for comfort after his psycho sister, Caldera, casually jammed a fork straight into his eye. Instead of babying him, his mom just sighs at his weakness while he sobs about his other sister, Tarmi, slipping literal poison into his snacks. Piercing him with a dead-eyed stare, dearest mommy drops the ultimate reality check he needs to stop whining and start swinging. She orders him to serve up some brutal payback, exactly like a proper demon should, but the little guy is absolutely petrified. Trembling, he stammers that going after his unhinged sisters is a guaranteed death sentence. A wicked smirk creeps across her face. Then just slaughter them before they slaughter you, she whispers, leaving the kid totally mind-blown. A single tear drops as her twisted logic shatters his innocence. Turns out, dear old dad literally massacred 12 of his own siblings just to claim the Demon King throne. Mommy dearest doubles down on her twisted life lesson. If anyone even looks at you funny, you end them first. To really hammer the point home, she whips out a hidden dagger and, with zero hesitation, plunges the cold steel right into his back. The kid shrieks in absolute agonizing shock. Pulling his bleeding body into a warm, messed-up hug, she whispers that this is peak demon behavior. He screams her name through the blinding pain, and she simply asks if her little lesson finally sank in. Snap back to reality, our guy violently jolts awake, screaming his lungs out from the trauma dump. A maid hovers by his bed, casually asking if he is up. Gasping for air, the puzzle pieces snap together. This new body? It belongs to Kella, and those messed-up nightmares were the original owner's actual memories. He checks himself over, expecting massive gashes, only to find his shredded flesh has perfectly knitted itself back together. Turns out, Kella is packing some seriously insane, god-tier regeneration stats. The maid dryly informs him that he has been knocked out for ages. Still staring at his pristine hands in total disbelief, she barks at him to get out of bed, since dinner with the Psycho family is starting, so he quietly complies. It becomes super obvious that the original Kella was a total pushover, basically the ultimate punching bag for his savage siblings. Cue another memory flash. The maid, Rin, holds up some clothes, but Kella whines that his older brother's staff usually handles his wardrobe. She teasingly offers to strip him down herself, sending the original, ultra-shy Kella into a massive, blushing panic. Next thing you know, this so-called servant is out here ordering him to wash his own blankets, which is literally her one job. He also flashes back to catching Rin dead asleep in his personal bed, chilling like she owns the place. She even used a magical puppet to do her chores, leaving past Kella standing there looking completely dumbfounded. Our boy mentally facepalms at how pathetic the original Kella was, getting bossed around by a low-level servant. His eyes narrow. The doormat era ends right here, right now. Gripping his fist until his knuckles turn white, he radiates pure, unapologetic main character energy. The original Kella lived his whole life getting stepped on, and the rules of this demonic world are dead simple. You either flex your dominance, or you get packed up in a body bag. Trailing behind Rin, he steps into the massive, intimidating royal dining room. Instantly, the Demon King locks onto him with a death glare, growling out that he missed the start time. The pure, suffocating aura radiating off this dude is absolutely insane, immediately proving exactly why he wears the crown. Swallowing his nerves, our guy takes his seat and drops a quick apology, bracing his body for the inevitable chaos. Right on cue, his psycho sister welcomes him with a brutal, shin-shattering kick under the oak table. The physical assault escalates into a literal blade to the thigh, just standard demon family bonding. Biting the inside of his cheek, he swallows a scream, refusing to give these monsters the satisfaction of seeing him break. Not missing a beat, his sister mocks him, sneering that he looks pathetic and needs to bulk up. Hiding his pure rage, he casually wonders if they would instantly butcher him if they knew an imposter hijacked their brother's body. Keeping his cool, he mutters a fake grace, knowing survival means playing the long game. Picking up his silver spoon, he scoops up a mouthful of the steaming broth. Within milliseconds, his throat burns as toxic venom floods his system, confirming it is a spiked dinner. His other unhinged sibling flashes a sinister smirk, cooing that this special batch was brewed just for him, and sadistically asks how it tastes. Fighting through the organ-melting agony, he pastes on a deadpan smile and smoothly replies that it is absolutely delicious. Sweeping his gaze across the dining table, pure disgust washes over him. His eyes darken as he makes a silent vow. These are not his blood relatives. They are just a bunch of rabid beasts. With icy resolve, he decides his days as the victim are officially over. It is time to go on the offensive. A quick flash to his previous life reveals a dude who strictly grinded to the top through sheer, solo willpower. A hustle that eventually made him an absolute legend. Being a god-tier architect in a video game was one thing, but existing in the real world? Total NPC energy. Outside the screen, he was basically a walking punching bag, completely helpless whenever trouble came knocking. And honestly, he made a blood vow right then and there. Never again would he go out like a pathetic, defenseless scrub. Snap back to reality. His entire vibe shifts, and his eyes lock in as he flashes a totally unhinged, villainous smirk. He casually holds out the toxic soup to his sister, Caldera, but instead of serving it, he literally yeets the steaming bowl right into her face, making her shriek in absolute horror. Yanking a dagger straight out of his own leg, he smoothly drops a cold line, telling Tarm it was time to pass along his sister's little present. In one lightning-fast blur, he buries that exact same blade straight into his brother's gut, returning the favor. The Demon King practically short-circuits, completely dumbfounded by his youngest kid's sudden savage energy. Standing tall, our boy looks dead at his dad and demands to know why literal demons are sitting around pretending to be some picture-perfect family. Going full chaos mode, he launches the massive dining table into the air, screaming that family dinners are officially canceled forever. The entire room freezes. His relatives are totally glitching out, unable to process the absolute disrespect they just witnessed. Glaring daggers at the whole room, he dares them to step up and see who comes out on top. The camera then pans way out, revealing the massive, shadowy demon fortress. Looking back, our MC smiles to himself, realizing that catching an attitude never felt so incredibly satisfying. Of course, pulling a stunt like that earned him a brutal reality check from his furious dad right after. But surprisingly, his body healed up ridiculously fast, which leaves him totally tripped out. He stares down at his own hands, feeling a raw, heavy energy vibrating through his veins. It suddenly clicks. He actually is the Demon King's bloodline, packing some seriously busted, top-tier genetics. Now, he is itching to test drive these broken new stats. A servant pulls up to remind him about the upcoming dark magic training, but he instantly shuts her down, dropping an icy warning to stop acting like his boss. She just stands there, totally shook by his alpha energy, trying to figure out when he got so insanely intimidating. Left alone, our guy mentally preps for this mandatory magic session. Digging through Kella's old memories, he realizes this class was straight up traumatic for the original owner of this body. But skipping out is for losers, so he decides to face the music head on. Cut straight to the training arena, where the coach announces Caldera and Tarm are skipping today's session. Scanning the crowd, our hero spots a few familiar faces, and his danger radar immediately goes off. Kella's memories flood back, tagging these exact dudes as massive red flags. Cue the flashback. The original Kella was shaking like a leaf, begging to sit out because he possessed zero combat skills. But the lead bully wasn't having it, using the lesson as a cheap excuse to launch an all-out assault. The jerk absolutely folded Kella, leaving him crying out in the dirt. These guys were literal menaces who fed off other people's misery. Using Kella as a human punching bag wasn't just training, it was their favorite hobby, like some sick, twisted game of survival. Snapping back to now, one of his stuck-up sisters steps up, ordering the bully to hold absolutely nothing back. Flashing an evil grin, she gives him the green light to go all out. The attacker practically drools over the permission, charging up a massive, deadly wave of magic aimed right at Kella. But inside, our MC is just replaying the echoes of the old Kella, pleading for the nightmare to stop. The original kid despised violence and just wanted peace, but his cries always hit deaf ears. Our boy realizes the absolute truth. The old Kella was never actually weak. He was just way too kind for this brutal world, which made him an easy target for all the trash around him. But the game rules have officially changed, and he stares down the threat with ice in his veins. Rocking a cocky smirk, he makes a mental note to put these overpowered stats to actual good use. Fast forward slightly on the dirt field, a bespectacled instructor demands to know who was throwing down earlier. A red-haired punk smirks, claiming it was a spar between him and Kella. Strutting over like he owns the place, he starts throwing heavy shade, sarcastically apologizing for not treating the young master with enough respect. Kella glares at the pure audacity, while the punk fakes being sorry. Tired of the drama, the instructor orders them into the center ring for round 2, right in front of the whole class. The redhead drops into a combat stance, sparking up an aggressive purple aura, and taunts Kella to step up. From the sidelines, the peanut gallery is already talking trash, betting on the young master getting completely humbled yet again. He catches every single toxic whisper, letting the annoyance fuel his focus. His opponent flashes a deeply unhinged smile, already tasting the victory, but Kella just stares back, realizing he and this loudmouth actually share a similar vibe. Cue a quick dive into the past, revealing our MC's previous life was also a total nightmare. Broke, powerless, and treated like absolute garbage by society. But that pathetic era is dead and buried. Suddenly, a blinding, heavy blue aura erupts from his body, making his eyes flare like twin stars, as raw magical pressure detonates into the atmosphere. The redhead completely freezes, his jaw hitting the floor at the sheer size of Kella's hidden mana pool. The entire class is left gasping for air, questioning if this monstrous power level is even real. His bully, completely locked in place by pure, unadulterated terror, pinned down by sheer pressure, his opponent cannot even flinch. Kella steps up, totally unfazed. "I'll play nice," he taunts, daring the guy to survive just a single strike. His fist erupts with raw energy, connecting dead center with a bone-shattering shockwave. Not giving him a second to breathe, Kella follows up with a brutal slam, cratering the dude straight into the courtyard dirt. The whole yard goes dead silent. The rival did not even process the attack. Even the combat instructor is sweating bullets, panicking that Kella just flat-out flatlined the kid. Wrecked and coughing up crimson, the guy is a total mess on the pavement, but miraculously, he is still breathing. Towering over him, Kella glares. "You got a lot of nerve talking like that to the Demon King's blood." Absolutely petrified, the rival starts groveling, stuttering out Lord Kella for the very first time. Kella leans in with a cold warning. Slip up like this again, and he is leaving in a body bag. The onlookers are mind-blown. Is this seriously the same pushover Kella they have been bullying all year? Pivoting on his heel, Kella locks eyes with the instructor, who visibly shrinks back in pure terror. Flashing a terrifying, psycho grin, Kella tilts his head. "Shouldn't we get back to class?" Blending into the stunned crowd, his servant Rin is watching it all go down, totally floored by his insane power spike. Rin realizes her master is giving off a wildly different vibe. This is not the boy she knows. Looking up, she spots the big boss himself. Kella's dad, Hel Khaldun, looming on the courtyard balcony like a gargoyle. Kella stands casually over the knocked-out body. High above, Hel Khaldun's gaze is locked on the absolute carnage, but his face is completely unreadable. Cut to the family manor, where someone is absolutely losing their mind, screaming about how this is unforgivable. Soaking in a healing bath, Keldara is throwing a massive tantrum, while Tarmi tries to talk her off the ledge. Tarmi drops a reality check. Keldara does not share Kella's crazy healing factor, but that just makes Keldara tweak out even more, screaming that the whole situation is incredibly suspicious, and she demands answers. Keeping her cool, Tarmi pieces it together. Their little brother has clearly leveled up somehow. Flashback to another tense moment. Kella is throwing down the law, snapping that he is eating his meals alone from now on. Dropping that bomb leaves the whole dining room, even the usually stone-cold Hel, completely rattled. Right then, Tarmi catches a wild shift on their dad's face. In a blink-and-you-miss-it second, Hel Khaldun did the unthinkable. The ruthless Demon King actually smirked. Tarmi's brain short-circuits. He has literally never smiled in their entire lives. Bringing it back to the bath, Keldara is boiling over, raging that their dad smiled for that loser. Tarmi nods, agreeing the vibes are completely off. Knowing Kella's glow-up is a massive red flag. Still seeing red, Keldara snaps, demanding to know what Tarmi is getting at. Tarmi hits her with hard facts. "I know you would rather choke than team up with me." That curveball totally catches Keldara off guard, completely lost on where this is heading. Then Tarmi drops the pitch. They call a truce right now, and tag team to take Kella out of the picture. Tarmi flashes a wicked smirk, fully betting Keldara will take the bait. Keldara goes quiet, wheels turning in her head, and admits it is not a bad flex after all. The Twisted Sisters lock in their pact. Delete Kella before he steals any more of Daddy's spotlight. Back to the academy grind. Kella's spidey senses are tingling. Something is majorly off. Suddenly, we see this insane visual of a demon rocking a massive, nightmare-fuel grin. Enter the lore. This absolute unit was the original Demon King, the legendary Turk Keldon. The teacher keeps yapping about ancient glory days and epic conquests. Kella is just staring at the illustration, cringing at how grotesque the guy looks, thinking he looks like actual sleep paralysis. But the teacher drops some heavy lore. Sir Turk did not lose in a fair fight. He was taken out by a snake move from the Sky Guild, and ever since that dirty play, human guilds have been setting up camp right on their borders. Plot twist. Kella realizes this intel is already hardwired into his brain. He somehow just knows this. We flash to Kella, chilling on a balcony, doing the math. Thanks to those guilds swarming the borders, going rogue and ditching the castle is a total dead end. The claustrophobia hits hard. Dropping to his knees, he violently curses his luck, terrified he is doomed to rot in this hellhole forever. Snapping back to reality in class, Kella's face goes ice cold. He is completely locked in. The teacher sounds the alarm. The Sky Guild and their allies are gearing up to raid the demon realm, and to help King Hell completely wipe them off the map, the student body needs to get seriously buffed. He orders every single kid to go totally goblin mode in combat training from here on out. The class goes feral, screaming that they will throw down for demon pride. But Kella remains completely mute, just reading the room and plotting his next chess move. Later, we catch him posted up on the castle rooftop, staring off into the horizon. Scanning the massive landscape, it hits him hard. He has to find a glitch in the matrix to escape. Staying boxed in this fortress is basically a death sentence. At any given second, his toxic, backstabbing siblings could literally end his run. Right on cue, he asks Rin if his dad is actually deploying in 3 days, and she nods. He spins around to face her, asking if she is aware of a massive secret. This castle has a fatal blind spot. He drops casually, leaving Rin totally tripped up by the random info dump. He breaks it down. They literally have no map architect to optimize the battle terrain. And because of that massive oversight, the enemy guilds will have a massive advantage. Since the enemy is using the dead zones to launch attacks, he figures he'll use the downtime before the raid to chart out the entire wasteland. On paper, it's a masterstroke to help his old man, Hel Khaldun, absolutely obliterate the opposition. Flashing a cocky grin, Kella swears he's all in on winning this war for his dad. But inside his head, it's all a smokescreen to plot his ultimate getaway. He catches on that the map doesn't match the real world at all, meaning he can literally bend the geography to his will. Wasting no time, he barks at Rin to whip up a shadow office down in the castle dungeons immediately. He needs a blind spot, somewhere off the grid where his dad can't sniff out his actual agenda. Smash cut to a pitch-black chamber, illuminated entirely by flickering, supernatural fire. Hel Khaldun sits on his throne, radiating a suffocating, neon-pink aura of pure dread. Paranoid and utterly distrustful of his own flesh and blood, he vows that Kella isn't slipping past him. Rising to his feet, the Demon King realizes he's got to step in before things go south. He needs eyes on his kid, right now. Down in the crypt, Kella scrunches his nose at the absolute dump Rin proudly presents as an office. She stammers that it's the best she could pull off under the radar, but he immediately snaps, ordering her to stop cutting corners. He figures he's got to play the bad guy to keep her in line. Rin shrinks back, totally spooked by this ruthless new vibe her master is giving off. Yet, in some twisted way, she actually kind of digs it. The glow-up is real, he's suddenly radiating massive boss energy, and she finds herself catching major feelings. Snapping her out of it, Kella orders her to quit gawking and fetch him a coffee. Scrambling like her life depends on it, Rin sprints down the hall shouting she's on it. With the room finally clear, Kella locks in. He glares at the blueprints, fully aware this fortress is nothing but a dead-end nightmare. Eyes locked in dead focus, he declares it's time to rewrite the board. Meanwhile, Rin is still sprinting through the corridors, chanting about her coffee mission before freezing in her tracks. She literally has zero clue what a coffee even is. Out of nowhere, a bone-chilling rumble echoes through the shadows, calling her name. It's Hel Khaldun. He towers over her, demanding to know why she's lurking in the cellar solo. His gaze turns lethal as he interrogates her on Kella's exact coordinates. Rin completely short-circuits, stuttering out pure nonsense under the king's terrifying presence. He roars for an answer, but Kella's gag order echoes in her head. The camera pans straight to the hidden heavy door, where Kella is blissfully unaware. He's entirely in the zone, geeking out over drafting this new layout. Talk about winning the lottery. The physics of this universe map perfectly to a video game he already mastered. Sketching away, he admits he's actually having the time of his life. Turns out, in his previous life, cartography was his absolute obsession. But without warning, the heavy wooden door starts rattling like an earthquake hit. A split second later, it detonates, blasting Kella backward through the air. Stepping through the smoke is Hel Khaldun, absolutely livid that his son went behind his back. Brain scrambling, Kella can't fathom how his old man tracked him down. Before he can even blink, the king closes the distance and drives a bare hand straight through Kella's chest. Leaning in close, he hisses that if his son wants him dead, he shouldn't cower in the shadows. Kella violently coughs up blood, reeling from his own father's sheer brutality. Agony shreds through his nervous system, giving him a front-row seat to the Demon King's god-tier power. Drenched in a freezing sweat, he realizes it's game over for real. Fighting for his life, he screams at his dad to just look at the parchment. Suspending him mid-air, Hel squints at the desk, demanding to know what garbage he scribbled down. Gasping for breath, Kella pitches his master plan. The castle's current terrain is a tactical nightmare, but if they terraform the battlefield to his exact specs, they hold all the cards. He bets his life that this layout guarantees absolute victory in the coming war. The audacity completely floors Hel. He never pegged his son for a strategic genius. With a sickening crunch, he yanks his arm out, sending Kella into a screaming fit of raw torment. Staring down at his bleeding kid, the king demands to know why the cloak and dagger routine. Kella plays it smooth, arguing that if he had asked for permission, he'd have been benched instantly. He was holding out, until the masterwork was 100% undeniable. The Demon King goes dead silent, calculating the sheer guts it took to pull this stunt. Kella doubles down, declaring that as the royal heir, his only goal is to slaughter the heavenly forces. A suffocating stare-down locks the two in place. Peeking through the wreckage, Rin is practically having a heart attack, convinced Kella is speedrunning his own funeral by talking back to the boss. Slicing through the tension, his dad finally asks for a timeline on the project. The question completely broadsides Kella. Still dripping with his son's blood, Hel points a finger straight at the desk, demanding a hard deadline for the blueprints. Catching on that he just survived the trial, Kella confidently claims he needs 5 days max. But Hel drops a bombshell. The Holy Vanguard touches down in exactly 3. He coldly points out the schematics are trash, if they aren't battle-ready before then. Without missing a beat, Kella smirks and corrects himself. He can have it done in 5 hours, not 5 days. The sheer audacity of this kid leaves Hel Khaldun absolutely speechless. Kella drops a massive flex, guaranteeing the entire build will be done in 3 days, and he wants full control of the op. His dad locks eyes with him, dead serious, scanning the kid's proposal, and the raw fire in his gaze. For the absolute first time ever, a flicker of surprise crosses the demon's face as he actually weighs the idea. He bites. He hands Kella a rare vote of confidence, greenlighting him to finish the map. But halfway out the door, he drops a chilling threat. If this is all cap, he'll personally shred Kella and his little drawing into confetti. Blood literally dripping from his face, Kella just flashes a confident grin, swearing he won't let him down. The Demon King finally dips, leaving the secret study. The second the door shuts, Kella hits a victory wink, totally hyped he actually played his dad. But reality hits like a freight train. The agonizing pain from his injury spikes, tearing through his body. He completely buckles, coughing up a massive pool of blood he had been forcing down his throat. It hits him right then that monster would have zero hesitation, zeroing him out if he lost his value. Rin is just standing there, completely stunned. She cannot process how Kella actually manipulated the legendary Demon King. He snaps at her to stop spacing out. He barks at her to drag him to the medbay, and she instantly snaps to it. Fast forward, wrapped up in bandages, he drops the mic. He literally crushed the map design in just 5 hours. With the blueprint locked in, the castle's entire labor force mobilizes for a massive build. The royal spellcasters pop a massive illusion cloak over the entire work zone, literally hacking the area's geography. It's a flawless cloaking tech to blindside the enemy. Watching it unfold, Kella realizes this new map is an exact clone of his old video game layout. Flashing a wicked smirk, he knows he's holding all the cards now. Cut to the Sky Guild's front lines, where absolute panic is breaking out. Guildmaster Hermeson is losing his mind after discovering the enemy is terraforming the battlefield. A scout reports that the demons are abusing illusion magic. He panics, asking if they need to push right now and crush the operation. But Hermeson pauses, the gears turning in his head. His expression darkens, and he shuts down the rush order. A smug little smirk creeps onto his face. He knows pushing now is a waste of energy. The timer is already up. The big reveal? In exactly 3 days, Tulua's absolute heaviest hitters are dropping in. We're talking about the ultimate elite death squad. The Talon unit is officially en route. It's an unstoppable team that took decades to perfectly craft. Hermeson cackles, bragging that this specific hit squad is the final nail in Hel Khaldun's coffin. Cut to the squad leader surfing a literal dragon, screaming that they will breach the castle walls in exactly 2 days. Hearing that, the entire armada shifts into maximum overdrive. They are barreling straight for the enemy zone. The commanding general roars that the Demon King's 1,000-year dynasty dies today. The whole army screams in pure hype, itching to reduce the demonic fortress to ashes. A red-haired commander chimes in, flexing how insanely flawless General Killman's command presence is. Right on cue, a rookie nervously asks Commander Shrills if they can actually pull off this boss raid. She just hits him with a confident smile, swearing that the Talon unit is built totally different from your average grunts. Zero hesitation. She guarantees they are putting the great Demon King in the ground. Back at the demon headquarters, the central spire looms over everything. Chilling on his throne, Hel Khaldun accepts that his kid wasn't spitting fake promises about the terrain map. Still, he knows the kid's setup is far from flawless. But with his own body breaking down to its absolute limit, he can't afford to play the perfectionist. Staring into the distance, he locks in. Tomorrow is the day he permanently wipes the floor with the army of heaven. Meanwhile, the mages are sweating, racing against the clock to wrap up the illusion ward. The grunt workers are moving at breakneck speed, blindly following the blueprint. Looking out the window, Kella and Rin are overseeing the chaos. He casually mentions that the trap is falling into place perfectly. He geeks out for a second, realizing that manipulating real-world terrain hits way differently than clicking a mouse in a game. The dude is absolutely mind-blown that he can literally play God with the landscape. Now, the board is set for the ultimate clash between heaven and hell. His eyes gleam with pure adrenaline. He's mentally locking in, because tomorrow is the main event. Fast forward to the next morning, and the Talon squad rolls into the rally point to massive cheers. The general hypes up the crowd, thanking his troops. He formally declares his elite squad is primed for a bloodbath. Hermison is eating it up, screaming, for the entire battalion to march on the Demon King's front door immediately. Catching the vibe, the general barks the final order to push forward and drag that victory back to Talawa. But out of absolutely nowhere, a massive teleportation sigil ignites right in the dead center of their camp. Blinding light erupts from the dirt, leaving Master Hermison utterly clueless. The Talon general's blood runs cold. As his brain fails to process the ambush, he screams out a warning, frantically ordering the entire vanguard to pop their defensive stances. But it's too late. A catastrophic shockwave of energy nukes the zone, launching bodies into the sky as the general desperately throws up his shield. The guild knights are absolutely losing their minds, staring at the smoke like they just saw a ghost. A hulking, nightmare-fuel silhouette steps out of the blue haze. Plot twist. The Demon King himself, Hel Khaldun, just crashed the party. Sweating bullets, the general is completely clueless about how this raid boss bypassed their defenses. Flashback time, Kella breaks it down, flexing that he totally hacked Heaven's magic radar. He drops the mic, confirming his dad has an invisible fast travel pass, letting him warp anywhere without triggering a single alarm. Cut to the throne room, where Hel Khaldun is hyped to literally dropship, straight into Heaven's front yard. But Caldera intercepts him, begging her dad to chill and rethink this reckless solo raid. Tarm backs her up, stressing that this is a massive suicide mission even for him. Hel Khaldun instantly triggers, practically growling, as he demands to know if they are actually doubting his god-tier stats. The girls try to backpedal, bringing up his unhealed HP pool, but he just barks at them to zip it, stating he is the one calling the shots. He then drops a heavy promise. By tomorrow, he's going to wipe the floor with every last enemy. Snapping back to the present, the general screams his lungs out, raging about the ambush. Still, he swears they are about to make Hel Khaldun taste dirt, hyping up his legendary Talon squad. He hoists his blade high, greenlighting a massive, all-out blitz. Unbothered, Hel Khaldun just focuses his core, manifesting a blinding blue aura. His raw power violently erupts, instantly nuking the battlefield and carving out a massive crater. Miles away, Kella is perching on a tower like a supervillain, watching his army stack up. He smirks, realizing his massive legion is finally locked and loaded. Eyes gleaming with ambition, he announces the endgame is here. Without missing a beat, he commands his monster brigade to rush the front lines. A savage, unstoppable wave of orcs and nightmarish beasts stampedes forward. A knight practically loses his mind watching this unholy tsunami approach. Out of nowhere, freaky, mutated creatures burst straight out of the dirt, completely blindsiding the crew. Panic sets in as the troops realize they've been fully baited, frantically screaming to hold the line. Up on his sniper perch, Kella just tightens his grip, soaking in the pure chaos below. He watches the slaughter unfold, flashing a wicked grin because his masterclass strategy is hitting perfectly. But the vibe shifts when Tarm suddenly spawns right behind him, announcing she finally tracked him down. She drags him for his reckless moves, promising his little scheme is officially cancelled. Caldera steps out of the shadows too, coldly stating he forced their hand by taking things way too far. Completely shook, Kella spins around to face his sisters, realizing they are about to pull the ultimate backstab. Igniting a glowing green weapon, Tarm tells him to rest in peace, claiming his free trial on life is over. Zero hesitation, she completely blitzes him, burying the blade deep into his gut. The strike is insanely fast and lethal, tearing right through his torso and dealing massive critical damage. He stares down at the gaping hole, screaming his lungs out as the pain completely fries his brain. Smirking like a psycho, Tarm steps back and tags Caldera in to secure the kill. Caldera slides up effortlessly, whispering that his healing factor can't save him now. In one brutal, lightning-fast swipe, Caldera literally takes his head clean off, mocking his useless regen stats. The toxic duo bursts into twisted laughter, absolutely living for this gruesome execution. Kella's severed head goes flying, his mind short-circuiting as he processes this insane betrayal. It finally clicks, it's game over. Brutally clapped by his own family, his headless body is casually booted off the fortress wall. The corpse takes a massive nosedive through the stormy, neon-lit sky. The camera catches a wild, slow-motion shot of his falling face, completely frozen in absolute horror. Then, body and skull violently splat against the concrete. Even lying in the dirt, Kella's detached head is still twitching, desperately gasping for air like a glitching NPC. High up on the ramparts, the sisters are practically throwing a party over their victory. But out of nowhere, a glowing blue dagger randomly pierces through Tarm's chest. In a wild plot twist, Caldera just literally backstabbed her own partner, bragging about finding her critical hit spot. She trashes Tarm's reaction time while sadistically twisting the blade deeper. Tarm stares down at the hilt, her eyes widening as she spots their mother's illegal, banned weapon. Caldera totally shrugs it off, basically saying rules are meant to be broken and weapons are meant to draw blood. Boiling with rage, Tarm screams at her own flesh and blood for the snake move. Flashing a villainous grin, Caldera points out that dropping her right now leaves the family tree extremely empty. She casually admits she just wiped out the competition to secure the throne for herself. Swallowing the insane pain, Tarm aggressively grits her teeth and shrieks her sister's name. Running purely on adrenaline and spite, she lunges forward, vowing to send Caldera to the grave for this treachery. Caldera casually sidesteps with a smirk, dropping the cold, hard truth. She won the second that blade connected. The two instantly clash in a brutal sonic boom, blasting shockwaves across the entire fortress. The shot pans back down to Kella's severed head, chilling in the dirt with front row seats to the drama. He mentally zones out, utterly baffled by how toxic and ruthless demon siblings can actually be. But then it clicks. They were dead on, exactly how he pictured them in his head. Boom, we cut straight back to his physical body. Bro is literally out cold in the middle of the courtyard. But wait, out of nowhere, the spilled blood and scattered limbs start glitching back together, like some twisted puzzle. Plot twist. Rin is actually pulling the strings, using this super shady magic to puppet Kella's mangled corpse. She casually scoops up his decapitated head, strolling over to the remains. Dropping to her knees, she carefully lines up the severed neck, trying to snap his head back on. Instantly, Kella snaps back to life. He chokes her out with insane, monstrous grip strength. Suddenly, the camera pans way out to these jagged mountains, where this absolute unit of a general is barking orders at his troops. He commands them to rip open a portal, scheming to backstab the heavenly realm. But guess what? The human army is already camped on the other side, screaming that they totally read them like a book. The human commander goes totally feral, screaming at his squad to wipe out every last demon. The demon general? He couldn't care less, roaring at his forces to defend their bloodline. And just like that, it's absolute chaos. The two massive armies slam into each other, kicking off a brutal, all-out war. Right in the thick of the bloodbath, a massive crimson dragon drops in, charging up a blinding fireball. It completely nukes the battlefield, vaporizing everything in its path. General Killman stares down the inferno, casually flexing that it's been a hot minute since he's tanked a dragon's breath. Perched right on top of the beast is Hell Khaldun, flashing a sinister smirk as he pilots the roaring Leviathan. The demon vaults off the monster's scales, cratering the earth as he touches down. Killman is absolutely fuming, screaming his lungs out because the slippery punk barely dodged death. No hesitation, the human commander signals to drop their entire arsenal at once. But the demon horde does not care. They recklessly sprint forward, hungry for blood. Out of thin air, this colossal, glowing blue energy phantom spawns right behind the demon frontline. Killman squints through the smoke, praying they actually clap the target. But nope, total shocker, the barrage did 0 damage, and the behemoth is just standing there unfazed. The camera zooms in on the creature's massive arm, radiating this bone-chilling, suffocating aura. The phantom finally speaks, shrugging off the past like it's irrelevant. It morphs into its ultimate, terrifying form, openly threatening to wipe the floor with every single soul present. Killman is sweating bullets, screaming that the enemy is going all out, dropping its final boss transformation. He commands his entire squad to put their lives on the line and leave absolutely nothing in the tank. The entity's eye flashes with blinding light, dropping a pressure wave that has everyone shaking in their boots. Smash cut. We're back inside the gloomy castle. The vibe here is instantly suffocating. A single beam of light pierces through the rubble, proving that the last brawl actually smashed open a hidden tunnel. Deep underground, Rin is literally shivering, desperately trying to keep Kella's severed head attached. Blood is everywhere, and this maniac is straight up begging her to keep the healing process going. She absolutely loses it, screaming her lungs out, praying the magic kicks in before she completely cracks. Cue the flashback. We see Rin throwing a massive fit about how utterly gross this is, questioning if she will ever stop being traumatized by his gore. Meanwhile, Kella is literally missing a whole arm, shrieking in agony, ordering her to speedrun the surgery and slap the limb back on. The camera gets up close and personal as she jams the raw flesh together. Kella is sweating buckets, thrashing around as his cells forcefully stitch themselves back together. Rin is shaking like a leaf, asking if the nightmare is finally over. Kella just flexes his newly attached fingers, flashing a cocky grin because his insane theory actually worked again. Then bro casually drops the wildest bombshell. Next up, they're doing a trial run on his head. Rin is absolutely shell-shocked. He deadpan explains that he needs to verify the head regeneration glitch, leaving Rin mentally paralyzed. He literally asks her to chop it off, but, do it cleanly. But Rin hard passes, screaming that she is not about to become a murderer. Boom, flashback ends. Snapping back to reality, Kella sighs, saying the lab rat phase is over. He immediately pivots, ordering Rin to track down Caldera's loyal maid and feed her a very specific script. You can see the pure stress on her face, but Rin knows she's in too deep to start defying his commands now. Putting on an Oscar-worthy, panic-stricken performance, she approaches the maid to leak the fake intel. Rin aggressively whispers that Kella is plotting to assassinate the young master, Caldera, right when the battlefield hits peak chaos. She spices it up, claiming he will strike, while the Demon King is distracted, throwing hands with the heavenly realm. Caldera's servant instantly loses her mind, utterly disgusted by such a rat-like betrayal. But then Rin plays five-dimensional chess, smoothly planting the idea that this is the ultimate window for Caldera to preemptively take him out. She swears up and down that a clean decapitation is the permanent off switch, completely bypassing his broken healing factor. We snap back to the war zone, where Hel Khaldun is violently grinding his teeth, beyond salty that the enemy's trap actually paid off. Switching gears back to the dirt, Rin is cradling Kella's cold, lifeless-looking corpse in her lap. She tearfully calls him an absolute idiot, crying that his master plan is total garbage if he's dead. But out of nowhere, his eyes snap wide open. "Who exactly are you calling an idiot?" He smirks. Rin practically jumps out of her skin, screeching his name, utterly mind-blown that bro is still breathing. Dusting himself off, he casually drops that monolaced blades actually nerf his regeneration speed, admitting he was one hit away from being permanently cooked. But flashing a psychotic, triumphant grin, he flexes that he is still standing. And the best part? Every single piece of his master plan is flowing flawlessly. Rin just collapses into a puddle of relief, ugly crying as all her bottled-up panic overflows. She aggressively tackles him into a tight hug, sobbing that she was 100% convinced he was a goner, turning completely red from the sheer embarrassment of caring so much. Face flushed red, Kella snaps, demanding to know what on earth she thinks she's pulling. He yanks himself free, straight up telling her he made it out alive, so she needs to drop it, he's out of here. In a flash of light, the magical contract seal materializes. Without hesitating, he announces he's shattering their master-servant bond forever. Reaching out, he strips away the magical chains, giving Rin her total independence back. A glowing energy envelops her as she stands there, completely paralyzed, barely able to breathe his name. He breaks it down for her. The pact is wiped clean, meaning her duties are officially zero. Flashing one final, bittersweet grin, Kella spins around. He orders her to go chase the dream life she actually deserves. Rin is just frozen, brain totally short-circuiting over her master's wild, out-of-nowhere move. Stepping toward a glowing exit, he gears up to ditch this nightmare for good. Suddenly, the screen fades to a flashback, showing a much younger Kella. He's literally begging her to just be his best friend, instead of a literal servant. Snapping back to reality, that bittersweet memory sends tears streaming down Rin's face. Finally getting what he's trying to do, she sprints forward, screaming at him to let her tag along. Kella instantly shuts it down, barking at her to stay put. She desperately argues her case, but he roars back that she'd just be dead weight. Boom, the camera rips us straight back to the chaotic war zone. A beat-up General Killman is absolutely losing his mind, branding Hel Khaldun an absolute freak of nature. The shot pans down to reveal Hel's arm has been literally ripped from its socket. Crimson pours onto the dirt like a waterfall. Yet, despite being battered to a pulp, the guy is dead-ass still on his feet, leaving Killman shaking in his boots. The terrifying reality hits the general like a truck. He's staring down the actual great demon. Swallowing his pride, A furious Killman confesses the bitter truth. It pisses him off, but he stands absolutely zero chance against this boss-level threat. He figures out real quick that no matter who pulls up, humanity is completely cooked against this walking apocalypse. Without a single word, Hell slowly shifts his gaze, taking in the absolute wasteland left by the bloodbath. He spots the human forces. They've been practically wiped off the map in the collision. His cold eyes sweep across the massacre, processing the brutal aftermath of this insane clash. But his own demonic troops didn't fare any better. They got totally butchered too. The lens zooms in on another one of his mangled fighters, putting the sheer savagery of this fight on full display. Coughing up blood, Hell croaks out names into the void: Seldera, Tarmi, and finally, Kella. A super tight close-up shows it's way worse than a missing limb. His throat is completely gashed open, letting his eyelids heavy. The grim reality sets in. His kids aren't showing up to save the day. But he owns it. This was his beef all along, and he's ready to burn through every single ounce of mana he has left. Standing amidst the carnage, Hell proclaims the grand finale has arrived, erupting with terrifying raw energy. Meanwhile, miles away from the chaos, Kella and Rin are sprinting for their lives down a pitch-black escape corridor. Suddenly, a bright opening catches his eye. He realizes it's their ticket past the enemy radar. A smirk of pure relief crosses his face as he calculates the endgame. Just a few more steps to total freedom. But Rin abruptly hits the brakes, screaming at him to hold up, leaving Kella completely lost. Out of literally nowhere, a massive wall of crackling blue lightning materializes. It totally seals off their only way out. A sinister purple aura flares up next, making Kella mentally scramble to figure out what's going down. The metallic stench of gore hits their noses, and pure panic sets in as Kella realizes that sixth scent from earlier was a massive red flag. A creepy dude in a hood steps from the shadows, straight up roasting Hell Khaldun for thinking he could sneak his kids out the back door. He flexes that he predicted their escape route, trapping Kella and Rin like rats in a maze. But wait, the situation gets even more insanely toxic. It's not just one guy, there's an entire squad waiting to jump them. Kella's blood boils as it clicks. The ops literally set up an ambush team. Right at the finish line, the squad captain brags about having intel on this secret tunnel, swearing on his life that no royal blood is leaving breathing. He levels a finger straight at Kella, commanding his goons to execute him on the spot. Zero hesitation. Rin instantly leaps into the line of fire, popping a defensive shield and screaming at her master to bolt while she takes the heat. Kella is completely stunned. He demands to know what a solo support can even do against a whole squad. But Rin fires back that she's his sworn protector, and keeping him alive is her absolute endgame. It hits him. Her magic is entirely built for defense, meaning her offense is practically zero. The grim reality dawns on him. Rin is fully gearing up to throw her life away, just so he can see tomorrow. She whips her head around, desperately screaming for him to hustle and get out of dodge. Yeah, Kella isn't having any of that. He clamps his hand down on her shoulder, completely canceling her shield cast. With a massive shove, he launches her backward, roaring at her to drop the dramatic hero act. He snaps that if she's dead set on sticking by his side, she better not drop dead right in his face, shooting her a lethal glare. He growls that a stunt like that would piss him off beyond belief. Hitting the dirt, Rin is utterly dumbfounded by this insane shift in his vibe. The enemy caster just laughs, cockily stating it's game over for them. He charges up a spell, trashing Kella by saying mid-tier magic is overkill for a weakling like him. Kella just clenches his jaw, and casually mentions he's just been playing the shy kid, keeping his real stats hidden. Boom, a massive, crackling aura of lightning explodes from his body, proving that his weak reputation was a total scam. From the sidelines, Rin watches in absolute awe, totally mind-blown by her master's god-tier energy. The smug mage practically drops his jaw, realizing his intel about Kella's low-rank mana was garbage. But before his brain can even process the threat, Kella blitzes him with teleport-level speed. A single, devastating strike connects dead center, sending the enemy screaming in pure agony from the crushing force. Glaring down at the pathetic trash on the floor, Kella sarcastically wonders if that was his ultimate move. He coldly advises that next time around, he better fact-check his intel before talking big. Kella brutally palms the terrified mage's face, ignoring his pathetic, desperate crying for mercy. But Kella totally ignores the warning, blasting the guy into the dirt with a massive wave of blue energy. The dude is out cold instantly, left cratered in the floor, and groaning in absolute agony. Rin just stares in pure shock, completely mind-blown that he just wrecked a top-tier sky mage using raw mana alone. The remaining mages start freaking out, screaming that he was supposed to be some powerless trash. Kella just smirks, reminding them he already said their intel was garbage. Backed into a corner, the last two spellcasters resort to the unthinkable, charging up a highly forbidden curse. It is an all-or-nothing nuke that drains their entire life force in one shot. This massive gamble comes with a brutal catch. If they miss, The backlash will instantly wipe them out. Sensing the lethal threat, Rin sprints forward, screaming at the top of her lungs for her master to dodge, and get the heck out of Dodge. Blinding spears of light violently pierce through what looks like Kella, leaving him utterly stunned, but the dust clears to reveal Rin. She took the deadly hit like a human shield, shrieking in pure agony. Kella tries to rush over, only to realize the spear's cursed magic has completely paralyzed his muscles. Barely hanging on, Rin forces herself to look back, weakly whispering his name. Dripping with blood, she chokes back tears and apologizes, devastated that she failed to keep him safe this time. Meanwhile, the two magic users exhale hard, hyped that their suicidal play actually landed. The squad leader readies the execution strike, gloating that it is finally curtains for Kella. However, his sleazy partner chimes in, insisting they claim a little prize for their efforts. Flashing a super creepy grin, the guy yanks Rin by the hair, violently suggesting they have some fun with her first. Absolutely furious, she spits back that she knows exactly what horrific crimes they committed against the demons. The mage immediately presses a sharp blade to her throat, ordering her to zip it and wait her turn. Forced to watch this nightmare unfold, it suddenly clicks for Kella that humans in this universe treat everyone else like absolute garbage. The leader pivots back, deciding to slaughter the Demon King's spawn before anything else. Kella stares helplessly at the nearby exit, totally mind-blown that he is about to get wiped out when freedom was practically touching his fingertips. Boiling rage floods his chest. He was literally one step away from escaping this hell. The crazed mage suddenly lunges forward, weapon raised high, screaming for blood to finish the job. Watching the blade descend, Rin shrieks out for her master, completely powerless to stop it. Then, out of nowhere, Kella gets totally thrown off as this insane, otherworldly aura erupts around his body. A crazy electric feeling shoots through his veins, making him realize a terrifyingly immense power is waking up deep inside his soul. Panicking, Kella screams out for Golpero, but suddenly, he is standing face to face with the massive, intimidating figure of Helkeldun, leaving him totally shook, questioning if the war out there wrapped up that fast. Instead, a dead serious Helkeldun stares down, venting about his master plan getting completely trashed. Kella starts low-key freaking out, having zero clue how everything derailed so badly. Breaking the heavy silence, Helkeldun steps up to drop some massive lore, explaining that he fought through countless battles and calculated literally every single outcome. The kid just stands there looking absolutely lost, begging him to make sense because he is not following a single word. Helkeldun finally drops the bombshell, revealing that Solera honestly could not care less about the demon race, making her totally unfit to rule, while Tarmi had zero drive to ever step up to the throne. Triggered, Kella snaps back, aggressively shouting that he does not give a single damn about those two, demanding to know how Helkeldun even got inside his mind. That is when the giant explains the ultimate loophole. A dying demon king can legally transfer his core magic straight into his bloodline right before kicking the bucket. The young guy is left totally paralyzed by the reveal, stammering hard as his brain short-circuits. Flashing back, we see that despite the super brief run, his dad truly wore the crown. Because of this, Helkeldun confesses that he spotted something special in Kella, the absolute perfect candidate to rule the underworld. Sweating bullets, Kella waves his hands frantically, screaming that his dad picked the wrong guy. But the massive ruler straight up ignores the panic, formally announcing his title with crazy presence. He chooses right then and there to dump every last drop of his fading life force directly into the boy's soul. His voice echoes out, crowning his heir as Kella Kalden, the undisputed future king. In a split second, an ocean of pitch black, suffocating aura violently crashes into the terrified kid. Kella screams his lungs out, desperately begging his dad to shut down this absolute madness before it is too late. Unfazed, Helkeldun locks eyes with him, whispering his son's name for the very last time. He tells the boy to skip the tears and start acting like a savage, true-born demon. The camera violently cuts back to reality on the bloody battlefield, zooming in on Helkeldun's brutally battered and lifeless face. Commander shrills, gasping for air and bleeding out, weakly mutters the fallen tyrant's name. She hypes herself up to scream the breaking news. The ultimate villain of their world has officially been neutralized. Off in the distance, the lifeless body of General Killman lies in the dirt, his legendary spear tossed aside like trash. The massive twist hits the general literally threw his own life away, just so they could score this impossible win. Shrills immediately breaks down, crying out into the sky as she mourns her fallen comrade in arms. Word travels like wildfire, leaving the surviving troops absolutely stunned by the massive sacrifice. Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar of pure hype erupts across the wasteland as they go absolutely crazy celebrating the permanent downfall of Helkeldun. But right before the screen cuts, the dead king's eye sharply twitches, proving he heard every single word. Back with our main guy, Kella howls in agonizing pain as an insanely dark, god-tier power violently possesses his entire being. Out of nowhere, a blinding light spear streaks toward the demons, missing them by absolute inches. Rin's jaw drops. Young Master Kella just deflected that massive strike with his bare mana. Up above, the sky mages are low-key losing their minds, completely baffled by his insane power spike. Without warning, Kella lets out this totally unhinged villain laugh, leaving everyone frozen, tipping his head back. His eyes flash with pure malice as he whispers his father's name, Hell. Flashing back to the tyrant's terrifying presence, the boy questions if the big boss actually bit the dust. Flashing a Joker-level grin, he hypes himself up. His master plan actually worked. Meanwhile, the mages are sweating bullets. Realizing their mana tanks are officially running on empty, they scream to fall back, but it's too late. Kella slides in front of Rin, his expression dropping dead serious as he orders her to step away. A bottomless void of pitch-black energy surges through his veins. This is the ultimate cheat code his father left behind. Shaking in their boots, the mages shriek at the monster to stay the heck back. That D-word? Instant trigger. Kella's blood boils as he demands to know what garbage they just spat at Rin. Boom, a massive purple aura violently erupts around him. Eyes burning with pure venom, he launches himself at the humans, roaring that they're the actual monsters in this room. Quicker than a blink, Kella ragdolls the mages against the stone wall with bone-crushing force. Crumpled on the floor, the guys are left groaning in agony, totally washed by the young demon. Checking out his own hands, Kella is honestly stunned. This ridiculous, overpowered buff definitely came from his old man. But reality hits quick. His muscles are practically screaming. His current vessel just can't handle this godly energy output yet. Sweating, he whips around to check if Rin can still stand. Shook but surviving, the servant nods that her legs still work. That's all the cue Kella needs to dip out of this war zone. They immediately book it. Striding toward the exit, he silently thanks his dad for handing him the perfect escape ticket. Cut to the ultimate cinematic shot. The duo walking away as the entire castle blazes into ashes behind them. Kella finally lets out a massive breath. Breathing in true freedom for the very first time, he totally cracks up. It's not an evil laugh anymore, just pure, unfiltered hype that he actually pulled it off. Smirking like he owns the world, he brags about traveling anywhere and living his best life. But of course, the universe has other plans. A blinding neon blue laser suddenly slices down from the clouds. Kella gets trapped dead center in the glowing spotlight, totally clueless, while Rin instantly panics. She shrieks at the top of her lungs. It's a massive warp spell. Blindsided by the flash, Kella has zero time to process the chaos. Going into pure survival mode, he screams at Rin to grab his hand, but the girl is basically frozen like a deer in headlights, missing her window. Boom! A colossal beam smashes down, completely swallowing the young demon whole. Smash cut to a sick drone-style shot of a sprawling, packed city. Zooming out, we see it's actually an entire island, looking suspiciously like an elite school. Right on cue, that identical blue laser strikes the ground, dropping our duo at their landing zone. Scanning the unfamiliar turf, Kella is instantly raging, demanding to know where the heck they just got dumped. Totally disoriented, Rin frantically calls out to her master. She's out here thinking he secretly knew spatial magic, but Kella violently shakes his head. Not him. Turns out, this was a dead man's switch. A ghostly hologram of hell flickers into view, proving the old man cursed them with a backup plan, just in case he ever got zeroed. Right then, Rin checks her arms. Every single scratch is completely gone. She's speechless. Doing the math, Kella realizes they were probably floating in the void for about 3 days. It was a massive brain play from his dad, buying them a safe room to regenerate when stuff hit the fan. Rin is shook to the core. A warp portal crossed with a mega heal? Insane. Staring at his hands, Kella realizes something wild. The ruthless tyrant actually gave a crap about his kids. Processing this, Rin softly asks if the big bad king is truly gone. Kella nods, but then he hits her with a smirk, flexing that his personal masterclass strategy worked flawlessly. Hearing this, a spark lights up in the servant's eyes. She locks onto her master with dead serious ambition. Looking him straight in the eyes, she practically begs him to take the bloody crown. Kella does a total double take, like, why on earth would he want that headache now? She goes on a whole rant, explaining that watching his crazy glow-up proved he's the only guy cut out for the top spot. Dropping to her knees, Rin pledges her absolute loyalty, vowing to grind as his #1 right hand, until he claims the throne. Kella is internally facepalming. She completely missed the point of his escape plan. But releasing a heavy sigh, he just rolls with it. Honestly, he needs the backup anyway. Rin gasps, totally hyped by his yes, and asks him to hold up for a quick sec. The camera sweeps to this majestic, insanely massive fortress, hidden in a lush forest. But as they stroll closer, A dreadful realization hits Kella, dropping both their stomachs into their shoes. Plot twist of the century. They just warped straight into our cell, the legendary Magic Nation. What's the problem? This entire place is literally a boot camp designed to churn out hardcore demon slayers. A massive banner spells it out for them, throwing a wild festival for the assassination of Hel Khaldun. Our duo goes into full meltdown mode, completely paralyzed by the fact that they just spawn-dropped into the absolute heart of enemy territory, sweating bullets. Kella knows, if anyone sniffs out their true identities, it's instant game over. Thinking fast, Rin whispers that they need to pop transformation magic right this second before getting spotted. Kella doesn't even hesitate, he's absolutely in. Time for a massive glow-up. Rocking their brand new disguises, Kella demands Rin spill every single detail she knows about this territory. She breaks it down. They are currently standing on Arsal, a tiny island hugging the eastern edge of the Talua Kingdom. Rin drops some heavy lore, revealing this place is blessed by an absolute unit of a deep-sea cryptid called Watergore. Thanks to that freaky sea monster energy, magic naturally exploded here, churning out some seriously overpowered mages. And since they fly the Talua banner, these guys have been beefing with the demon realm since day one. Kella absorbs this massive info dump, mentally screaming over why his old man would dump him right in the middle of enemy territory. Rin totally panics, begging him to dip immediately, but he plays it cool, reminding her that a clean getaway needs hardcore prep work. Our boy already realizes that if he wants to level up and reach his ultimate goals, mastering magic is non-negotiable. Glancing around, he notices this entire nation runs purely on mana. Basic houses are enchanted to the max, with some literally hovering in the clouds. His brain starts spinning. If he can snatch their spellcraft, his crafting potential would completely shatter the limits he had back in the game. Out of nowhere, Rin's stomach unleashes a thunderous growl. The poor girl instantly turns crimson, dying inside. Taking pity on her, Kella agrees to a quick food run. She immediately lunges for Arsal's iconic enchanted street food, stars literally forming in her eyes. One bite in, and they are both sent to flavor heaven. Rin screams that it slaps so hard, instantly aiming her finger at the next food cart. She goes full foodie mode, craving a taste of everything. Tearing into a magic pastry, she shrieks that this one is an absolute banger too. Tagging along, Kella watches her wildly gesture at every single menu, genuinely debating if he should just abandon her gremlin energy right then and there. They eventually stumble into a magical tavern, where an exhausted Kella tells her to chill out. Right as they walk in, some guy screams that the booze is on the house, throwing a massive rager to celebrate the Demon King getting wrecked. Commander Shrills hoists her pint, and the whole tavern starts chanting the name of this legendary mage, from Arsal. The hyped-up crowd hoists her onto their shoulders, flexing the epic victory of Shrills of Talon. Despite having zero alcohol tolerance, Kella and Rin dive into the mosh pit for the free rounds. Already catching a buzz, our guy figures kicking back for a second is not the worst strategy. But plot twist. Commander Shrills locks onto our boy, her curiosity instantly piquing. Meanwhile, the duo keeps chugging and giggling, getting totally blasted on the tavern's supply. Flashing a wicked grin, Shrills decides this random pair is actually super fascinating. Cut to Kella, spilling his guts in a back alley, while Rin roasts him for going too hard. She violently reminds him that getting wasted at a party celebrating his own dad's murder was his genius idea. Right on cue, a random dude sprints past them, screaming his lungs out about a brand new S-Class bounty dropping. The chaotic duo freezes, totally baffled, while Kella tries to process why the entire city is suddenly losing its mind. The crazy part? Up until this exact second, the only S-tier mission on the board was taking down the top dog Demon King himself. Rin's jaw hits the floor, absolutely shook that another god-level threat just spawned. Curiosity taking over, she physically drags a groggy Kella through the massive mob to check out the hype. Slapped right on the notice board is a fresh bounty warning that the Demon King's bloodline is still kicking. Swallowed by the crowd, our pair glares at the paper, absolutely paralyzed by what they see. Rin wildly jabs her finger at the parchment, because the shiny new S-Class target is none other than young Master Kella. He literally short-circuits, screaming that his dad is already dust, and having zero clue why a massive target is painted on his back. Rin violently slaps a hand over his mouth, doing aggressive damage control by loudly claiming he is just trashed. Eavesdropping, the locals start smirking, bragging that since the target is Kella, the literal weakest heir, bagging him will be a total walk in the park. Treating it like some basic B-tier loot grind, every hunter in the plaza starts gearing up to hunt him down. Rage spikes in Kella's chest, but survival instincts kick in. He needs to vanish, fast. Shooting Rin a dead serious glare, he orders her to move out. Speed walking away, she nervously stammers, asking what fake name she should drop in public. His brain scrambles for a second, desperately trying to forge a solid undercover identity. He finally snaps his fingers and tells her to call him Chiwu, leaving his sidekick utterly weirded out by the random flex. She starts questioning the cringe alias, but he just barks at her to fall in line. Rin whispers that they are in deep trouble, totally mind-blown that their cover got blown this fast. But before they can even blink, Commander Shrills practically teleports right into their escape route. Flashing a dangerous smirk, she casually asks if the rumors about that new S-Class bounty are legit. Sweating bullets, Kella stammers out a yes, while Rin desperately covers for them, claiming they were just window shopping the boards. A terrifying flashback hits him the entire tavern, hyping her up as the ultimate hope of Arsal. It instantly clicks just how ridiculously overpowered the woman standing in front of him is. Shrills casually takes a sip from her flask, her mind racing over the fact that a demon prince is still breathing somewhere in her territory. Thinking they are slick, Kella and Rin mutter that the target is total garbage anyway, so it should not matter. But the commander catches every single word, narrowing her eyes with weaponized suspicion. Ice runs through their veins. The suffocating aura of death locks onto them like a heat-seeking missile. Shrills suddenly snatches Kella by the collar, asking if a breathing demon air is really no big deal. Her piercing gaze practically x-rays his soul as she drops a massive bombshell. She knew they were completely sus from the moment they walked into the bar. Rin's soul essentially leaves her body. Staring down the commander's psychotic grin, she realizes their cover is 100% blown. The mysterious lady drops a massive cliffhanger, claiming she knows exactly who they are. Kella and Rin freeze, their hearts dropping to their stomachs. They are absolutely convinced their cover is blown. Plot twist, she just assumes they are a couple of crusty, unwashed backpackers, and casually offers them a place to crash. The duo is left completely dumbfounded, struggling to process why a high-ranking commander is rolling out the red carpet for them. But hey, free housing. They instantly say yes, hyping each other up since they are officially off the hook. Cut to a jaw-dropping midnight aesthetic, an insanely rich estate with actual buildings hovering under the moonlight. Fast forward inside, Kella is chilling in a ridiculous, marble-tier bathtub, sinking deep into the steaming hot spring water. To top it off, he gets served a bougie cup of tea alongside exotic treats he has literally never laid eyes on before. Our guy grabs a random pastry, low-key questioning if the chef had to cast a spell just to bake something this good. Leaning back, it suddenly hits him this is the exact RPG fantasy vibe he has been craving his entire life. He shuts his eyes, soaking in the fact that he finally won the isekai lottery, letting a massive, undeniable grin take over his face. Kella is out here thinking this whole isekai gig is a total breeze, while Rin is absolutely losing her mind. One slip-up means instant death, and she knows it. Meanwhile, across the tub, Shrills casually drops a pretty sick setup, right? Catching on to the weird vibes, the commander chuckles, teasing that Rin looks like a demon caught in headlights. Cue the most awkward, forced laugh ever as Rin desperately tries to play it cool. Without missing a beat, Shrills raises her hand, summoning a glowing sphere of raw magic right in midair. Flashing a sweet smile, she offers to drop in some relaxing bath scents, but Rin's heart flatlines. It's holy magic, literally pure poison for demons. Knowing this stuff will instantly shred her human disguise, she clamps her mouth shut, holding her breath while mentally screaming for young Master Kella to save her. Cut to Kella, who is completely vibing in his own bath, blissfully unaware that his whole world is about to crash down. Unbothered, Shrills starts trauma dumping, confessing she thought knocking off the king would finally end her suffering. But Rin is in pure survival mode. She blurts out that she really doesn't want to hear this right now and scrambles to escape. Ignoring the panic, the commander just keeps talking, dropping the heavy lore that she was literally born to be a top-tier mage. Hitting her breaking point, Rin practically launches herself out of the water, shouting to save the backstory for another time. Throwing out a super flimsy bathroom excuse, she sprints out of there like her life depends on it. Back in the tub, a dangerously suspicious smirk creeps across Shrills' face. Chuckling to herself, she notes that the poor girl must really hate holy scents. Out in the hallway, Rin leans against the wall, gasping for air after dodging a massive bullet. Right on cue, Kella strolls up looking fresh as ever, casually hyping up how amazing the hot springs were. Rin absolutely snaps, yelling that her entire disguise spell was inches away from shattering in that room. She quickly breaks down how Shrills dropped a holy scent that literally drains demonic mana. The goofy vibe drops instantly as Kella realizes they were mere seconds away from a game over. But because he's Kella, he immediately jokes about hopping back in for round 2, earning a death glare from an already fuming Rin. Suddenly, Shrills materializes out of nowhere. She asks if they are dipping out already, and casually offers a second round, forcing Kella to awkwardly nod along. Rin desperately tries to play it cool to secure a quick exit, but Shrills refuses to let up, baiting them with the promise of exclusive magical drinks. Hook, line, and sinker. The young guy is completely mesmerized, having never even heard of culinary magic before. He accepts the invite without hesitation, while Rin internally screams in pure agony. The camera pans out to the dead of night, where a shady group of mages suddenly surrounds the commander's estate. One whispers through the shadows, questioning if the demons are really inside. The other gives a grim nod of confirmation. And we are not talking low-level grunts here. Their hushed conversation drops a massive bomb. The target is literally the son of the Demon King. Seeing this as the ultimate jackpot, the squad locks in, ready to bag this high-value bounty at all costs. Back inside, the commander's twisted trap snaps shut. She slides over the drinks, casually dropping the bombshell that this secret recipe is brewed entirely with holy water. Instant regret. Kella's insides ignite like a wildfire, and he groans about getting all hyped up over magical foodie trends for absolutely nothing. Coldly ignoring his pain, the commander steers things right back to her dark past. She explains how she put her life on the line every single day in the Talon Squad, just to hunt down the king. To prove it, she lifts her shirt to expose a massive, jagged scar across her stomach, a souvenir from a brutal training test. Caught off guard, Kella blurts out that she definitely was not rocking that scar earlier. Her eyes dim with a twisted sadness as she asks if her battle wound is beautiful. But the horror doesn't stop there. She then reveals the empty socket where her eye used to be. The duo is absolutely paralyzed. Kella and Rin sit there completely speechless, their brains glitching out as they process the nightmare sitting directly across from them. She calmly explains that an illusion spell was masking the damage all along, mostly because the gruesome scars trigger some seriously dark memories. We are thrown straight into a brutal flashback. A ruthless instructor screams at a line of battered recruits, demanding they fuel their bodies with sheer hatred for the Demon King. It becomes terrifyingly clear that this entire Black Ops squad was forged in hellfire for one single, bloody purpose: to slaughter the Great King. We see a younger, battered Shreels, covered head to toe in gnarly bruises, realizing she had to swallow every ounce of agony if she ever wanted to taste victory. The instructor's voice echoes out again, barking at them to declare their absolute mission. With pure, unadulterated venom in her eyes, she screams that their only reason for breathing is to assassinate the Demon King. Snapping back to reality, she chillingly states that those gnarly scars are the price she paid with her own blood and youth. Suddenly closing the gap, she invades Kella's personal space and demands to know what he has been doing this whole time. Reaching out, she aggressively lifts his shirt, practically daring him to show a battle scar of his own. The dude is entirely frozen, completely short-circuiting as he tries to process this wildly invasive move. But her face drops in utter confusion. His skin is completely flawless, without a single scratch on it. Watching from the sidelines, Rin is having a full-blown mental breakdown, silently screaming for young Master Kella to do something. The panic truly sets in when he feels her magic-laced fingertips slowly tearing apart his human illusion spell, layer by layer. Leaning in dangerously close, Shriels whispers his fake name, Chiwu, right into his ear. With eyes full of murderous intent, she cuts straight to the chase and asks if he is secretly a demon. The room spins. Kella's stomach drops to the floor as the horrific realization hits. This commander played them from the very beginning. But before anyone can breathe, a swarm of glowing, red-eyed white rats suddenly floods into the room out of nowhere. The front door practically explodes inward as an elite squad of mages breaches the house, charging up a massively overpowered lightning spell. Playing the victim perfectly, the commander dramatically fakes shock, screaming about the ambush, sharing a look of pure, unadulterated terror. Kella and Rin finally put the pieces together. They just walked right into the ultimate death trap. Shrills flashes a chilling smirk, welcoming the ambush squad with open arms. The head mage points a trembling finger straight at her eye, declaring that the divine prophecy hit the bullseye. He screams at the top of his lungs, exposing her entire holy disguise as a massive fraud. Plot twist: Shrills is actually a deep-cover demon spy lurking inside the Arsal Kingdom. The sheer shock drops every single jaw in the room. While she just stands there grinning, Kella's brain short-circuits. He finally realizes this elite hit squad didn't come for him, they came for her. Gripping her staff, Shrills announces the masquerade is officially over. The craziest part? She totally doxed herself, leaking her own demonic identity to bait them. The head mage barks out a brutal command. No hesitation. Wipe her off the face of the earth right now. But Shrills doesn't even flinch. Locking eyes with the mob, she flexes her status as a top-tier Talon elite, flat out warning them that some basic Arsal magic users stand zero chance against her. Suddenly, she erupts with terrifying mana. The shockwave instantly shatters their disguises, prompting Rin to scream at Master Chiwu to dive for cover. Total panic sets in as he yells that things just went from bad to apocalyptic. A split second later, a massive nuke of purple and neon blue energy completely obliterates the hall. As the thick smoke clears, the absolute devastation of the clash is laid bare. Rin stands there frozen, her mind blown by the insanely overwhelming aura, radiating straight from the commander. Both Kella and Rin are completely lost, wondering out loud if this enemy just actively shielded them from the blast. Pivoting around, she casually calls out their demonic aura, saying it takes one to know one. Smirking, she officially drops the facade, introducing herself as Shrills Kaldun, the literal bloodline of the Demon King, Hell Kaldun. Kella and his companion are completely paralyzed by the massive bombshell. Before they can even process the info, Commander Shrills declares she is forcibly uploading her past directly into their brains. The psychic wave slams into them, locking their bodies in pure, stunned paralysis as vivid illusions flood their minds. A dark flashback kicks off, revealing Hel Khaldun looming beside a shady, cloaked figure. The memory pans down to a beaten little girl in the dirt, a rare demon capable of cloaking her own horns. It suddenly clicks in her terrified brain. This towering beast is Hel, the supreme ruler of the underworld. The menacing overlord then drops a heavy truth. His own royal blood is pumping through her veins. With absolute authority, he claims her right then and there as his legitimate daughter. The kid is absolutely floored, struggling to compute that she is the heir to the demon throne. The traumatic core memory shifts, dragging us through her agonizing days as a literal science experiment. Every single waking second was a living nightmare, filled with sick, twisted procedures. She and a bunch of other captive kids were dragged through brutal, agonizing trials against their will. Powerless and tiny little Shrills just swallowed her screams and tanked the torture. But eventually, the brutal reality set in. Every single kid from her batch ended up dead on the operating table. Completely isolated and broken, she sobbed endlessly over her grim fate. She was dead certain she would be the next corpse in the pile. Drowning in absolute despair, weeping on the cold floor, she desperately questions if those royal words were actually real. Staring up at Hel Khaldun's massive frame, the idea of being his spawn felt like a wild fever dream. But then, a twisted grin creeps across her face, and she embraces the insane honor. Hel seals the deal by officially granting her an identity, crowning her Shrills Kaldun. He issues a Black Ops command to infiltrate the Holy Domain as his personal sleeper agent, a suicide mission she accepts without blinking. Fueled by pure loyalty, she vows to cross any line for her new father, Hel. The flashback abruptly jump cuts to the grand gates of a fortress, where panicked guards spot a tiny body collapsed in the dirt. Two soldiers rush over, instantly assuming some rogue demons had brutally attacked the poor child. Scooping her up, one guard insists they rush her to the medical bay immediately. But right there, resting in his arms, her legendary stint as the ultimate demonic mole officially kicked off. She grinded insanely hard, swallowing every bit of suffering just to climb the ranks as a holy Arsol magic user. After years of insane grinding, she shattered her own limits and leveled up massively. Shrills evolved into an absolute powerhouse, securing her spot in the ultra-exclusive Talon unit. Fast forward 15 years, and the mental projection shifts to the former underworld boss, Turk Kaldun. After a brutal decade and a half of waiting, she finally crossed paths with her father again. Choking back a tidal wave of emotion, she desperately wanted to sprint over and embrace him, but her cover forced her to stay planted. Fighting back tears, she hyped herself up, knowing the endgame was finally in sight. The master strategy? Sit back until the entire front line was wiped out, leaving only Killman standing. Her specific job was to trigger covert spells and completely sabotage the Talon squad from the inside out. By doing that, she would perfectly set the stage for her dad to execute General Killman. She lived for the fantasy of watching him claim ultimate victory, so she could finally ditch the human act and march back into the Dark Fortress. Her only wish in life was to stand proudly by his side under her true name, Shrills Kaldun. The flashback snaps back to the chaotic battlefield, where Killman is openly hyping up Turk's insane power level, admitting the demon way surpassed his calculations. But the Dark Lord instantly claps back, spitting out that he couldn't care less about a pathetic human's validation. Flashing a cocky, arrogant grin, Killman calls out his massive ego and gears up for the final clash. He confidently announces his ultimate move, pouring every last drop of his life force into a single, lethal strike. A blinding, celestial spear materializes out of thin air, buzzing with a genuinely ridiculous amount of holy voltage. But Turk stands his ground, completely unfazed, igniting a massive wave of hellfire to tank the incoming blast. Sensing the catastrophic scaling of both ultimate moves, Shrills loses her mind and screams her dad's name in pure terror. A deafening, world-shaking explosion rips across the zone, while Shrills is forced to watch helplessly from the sidelines. But right in the middle of the blinding chaos, a telepathic echo pierces her brain. In a fading, spiritual vision, Turk Kaldun calls out her true name one last time, proudly validating her as his own flesh and blood. Shrills completely freezes up as his dying consciousness delivers one final, absolute directive. His last breath demands she swear eternal loyalty to whoever takes the demon throne next. His final wish echoed in her mind, an absolute command to serve and shield him until her last breath. Hearing those words, tears immediately streamed down Shriel's face. The moment the command dropped, a massive blast swallowed the battlefield whole, twisting light and dark energy together. As the thick smoke finally cleared, the brutal reality of the clash was laid bare. The great Turk Khaldun was completely wiped out. The only thing left of the terrifying Demon King was his severed head plummeting straight out of the sky. Total despair paralyzed Shriel as she watched her father crumble into ash. Her mind short-circuited, whispering over and over that this nightmare had to be a sick joke. That horrific visual of her dad taking his last breath burned itself right into her retinas, ripping a gut-wrenching scream from her throat. But right after witnessing his execution, her hands were totally tied. Enemy backup flooded the zone, forcing her to fall back to Talua with their ranks. And while she was quietly drowning in grief, the entire world was throwing a massive party over the Demon King's demise. Literal crowds across the entire continent, Talua included, were popping bottles and cheering for her dad's brutal murder. Done with the military life, she dropped her commander title and dipped. She relocated back to Arsal, her old stomping ground, and the exact spot where she ran her very first mission. To the outside world, she was just turning over a new leaf, slapping on a picture-perfect fake smile to blend right in. But low-key, she was plotting absolute carnage to avenge her father, no matter the price. Snapping back to the present, she straight up drops the bomb that she is aiming to eradicate the entire human race. And Arsal is ground zero. The silver-haired girl is shook to her core, totally mind-blown that she is looking at the literal spawn of the Demon King. Meanwhile, Kella is sweating bullets. Bro really thought he had finally ghosted his psycho-demon siblings. Sure, they did not share blood, but running into a secret sister was absolutely not on his bingo card. Shriel keeps it chill, claiming she is not about to force them to tag along, but she drops a major reality check. She lays it out plain and simple. Arsal, the hub of all things magic, is a massive red flag for any demon. If they let this nation thrive, Kella Khaldun is basically signing his own death warrant. That warning hits hard. Kella's entire vibe shifts as the raw, unfiltered danger sinks in, his knuckles turning white as he grips his fists. His brain flashes back to his game. Knowledge mages were absolutely busted top tiers. His eyes sharpen with serious resolve. He knows deep down that playing it safe means he gets packed up next. Over on the enemy side, the head mage clocks that the blast zone is about to draw a massive crowd, meaning they need to move fast. He barks orders at his squad, demanding they dump every last drop of mana into their next strike. Kella is absolutely fuming. These guys assumed he was just a regular human, yet they still fired lethal shots without hesitating. Rin, his loyal servant, is terrified by his sudden shift in energy. She screams out for her young master as demonic horns erupt from his head. Wrapped in a suffocating, pitch-black aura, Kella coldly states he is just defending himself. Right at that second, Commander Shriel whips around, totally caught off guard by the massive power spike. Her eyes blow wide open, failing to process the insane scene in front of her. Then it clicks that distinct, suffocating pressure feels exactly like her late father's monstrous energy. That night turned into a total bloodbath, sparking an all-out war against the elite spellcasters of Arsal. Because she basically lived there, Shriel had the city's entire blueprint memorized. Exploiting every blind spot, she unleashed devastating spells straight into their critical infrastructure. She absolutely leveled the central government buildings and reduced the Magic Academy to rubble. Kella was not holding back either, channeling straight-up hellfire as he rushed down top-tier threats. He specifically targeted the arrogant mages still hyped up from the festival. Wielding blinding blue energy, he absolutely folded anyone foolish enough to block his path. The guards screamed for backup, but it was game over before anyone could even dial for help. Thanks to this terrifying sibling duo, Arsal, the so-called ultimate magic empire, was completely dismantled and speedrun into submission. The entire capital was swallowed by an inferno. The blaze painted the night sky a horrific, bloody red. Down in the ashes, the defeated head mage gasps out, completely shell-shocked that their invincible city collapsed so fast. Choking on his own blood, he screams at the top of his lungs, swearing eternal vengeance on the demon race. Surrounded by wreckage, another surviving wizard howls in pure agony and rage. But Kella snaps right back, hitting him with a brutal reality check. He is the one who will never forgive them. Not after the garbage they pulled. Flashing a genuinely unhinged smile, Shriel announces a total wipeout, promising to send them to the afterlife first. Kella and the silver-haired girl just stare at her, completely stunned by her villain era, and thinking there is zero chance she can actually pull this off. Already exhausted by the drama, Kella tries to tap out, saying his shift is done, and it is time they part ways. But Shriel immediately blocks his exit. She reveals that his mana signature gave him away, dead-naming him as Kella Khaldun. Caught red-handed, Kella realizes his incognito mode is officially busted. Letting out a massive sigh, he throws in the towel and admits the truth. Shriel actually gasps, hyped that her wild guess hit the mark. And Kella is instantly pissed that he got baited so easily. She smirks, confessing she was only like 50% sure until he literally just snitched on himself. She then drops some heavy lore. She is not a biological kid, but a literal mutant, forged from the remnants of the Demon King's dark aura. The rogue commander steps uncomfortably close, explaining she was brought into the world way after him. Flashing a sweet, deadly smile, she calls him her big brother, which absolutely horrifies Kella. Pivoting the conversation, she practically demands he team up for their dad's revenge tour. Kella is fuming internally, screaming that he literally ran away to avoid this exact family trauma. He could not care less about settling the score. Pinning him with a murderous glare, Shriel asks if he is seriously trying to dodge his royal duties. She locks eyes with him, making it crystal clear that he is the absolute last drop of the Demon King's bloodline, the sole surviving heir. Shaking like a leaf, his companion begs Kella to just play along before this psycho sister actually murders them. Backed into a corner, Kella lies through his teeth, swearing he is down for revenge. Deep down, he knows he is completely trapped and has zero other options. Buying the act, Shriel gives the green light to move out, promising they are going to turn the entire world to ash. He nods along, keeping the terrified girl safely tucked behind him, while his brain frantically searches for an escape plan. Kella realizes he desperately needs Arsol's magic, and Shriels holds all the cards. So, he pivots. He weaponizes the idea of revenge to buy himself some breathing room, low-key teaming up with her to survive. Collapsed in the dirt, the head mage can only watch helplessly as the demon squad fades into the distance. Lurking in the shadows, he panics. Talua needs to hear about this absolute disaster right now. Cut to the royal palace, where a frantic scout bursts through the doors, screaming about a massive crisis. The almighty king of Talua pauses his royal feast, deeply annoyed, demanding to know what could possibly interrupt his meal. Trembling, the scout drops the bomb. Shrills from the elite Talon squad is actually a demon, and the mages spectacularly failed to execute her. The monarch's face goes ice cold. He drops his food, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper as he asks for the rest of the story. Swallowing hard, the messenger stammers out the finale. Kella Khaldun crashed the party and literally incinerated the entire region of Arsol alongside her. That news hits the king like a freight train. He crushes his solid silver fork in his bare hand, roaring in absolute disbelief that the Demon King's actual bloodline was hiding in plain sight. Stepping up, the royal advisor connects the dots, suggesting Kella and Shrills must be secretly working together. Furious, the ruler loses his mind. If the public finds out Arsol got wiped off the map, it's a total PR nightmare. His right-hand man nods they'd become the laughingstock of the entire continent. Seething with pure malice, the king issues a brutal command: wipe Kella and Shrills off the face of the earth before a single rumor hits the streets. Hayden, the calculating advisor, stakes his entire reputation on this mission. He swears he'll personally see to their execution. With his mind made up, he marches out of the throne room. But then, he pauses, locking eyes with a glass display holding the severed head of Turk Khaldun. Glaring at the gruesome trophy, he mutters how Hel Khaldun's cursed family tree just keeps coming back to haunt them. Right there, he makes a dark vow to turn every last descendant of that monster into ash. Meanwhile, across the realm, whispers start spreading about the legendary Killian. Hayden smirks, noting that the unstoppable General Killian has definitely already gotten the recall order. Cut to the middle of nowhere, where we finally get a glimpse of this absolute menace, Killian. According to Hayden, this guy is the undisputed apex predator of the Knights. We're talking leagues above even the legendary Killman. If they actually want to put Kella and Shrills in the ground, Killian is their only win condition. Back with the mysterious knight, Killian crushes a message scroll in his fist, coldly asking if it's true that his brother, Killman, was clapped. The scout nods nervously, spinning the story that Killman went out like a hero, trading his life to take down the Demon King. But Killian couldn't care less about the glory. He's just utterly disgusted that a demon got the best of his blood. Sensing the tension, the messenger quickly drops the real mission. Talua needs him to hunt down Kella Khaldun. The knight scoffs. Talua's politics mean absolutely nothing to him, but a demonic entity taking out his brother? That's personal. Leaking a terrifying black aura, he swears to wipe every single demon off the map. Eyes glowing with unhinged malice, he sets his first target. Kella Khaldun is a dead man walking. Flipping back to our main duo, Kella is just standing there looking completely clueless, trying to process the absolute chaos of his life. Chilling by the fire, Shrills complains her massive slab of meat is basically a light snack. Rin, baffled, asks how she stays so snatched while eating like a black hole, and Shrills drops the most unhinged, zero-logic explanation ever. Little Rin's jaw drops, genuinely believing she just unlocked the ultimate cheat code to dieting. Watching them, Kella sighs in relief. Hey, at least this sibling isn't actively plotting his murder. Curious, he asks if she secretly hates him for being the true biological heir. Her face instantly morphs into nightmare fuel as she deadpan admits she despises him enough to rip him apart. But just as fast, the tension drops. She sighs, explaining that because his veins pump their father's blood, she physically cannot bring herself to pull the trigger. Actually, it's the exact opposite, that royal DNA hardwires her to act as his ultimate shield. Kella is stunned. A sibling who wants to guard his back instead of stabbing it? That's wild. Leaning in, she gently grabs his hand, dropping a massive bombshell. Flashing a warm smile, Shrills swears on her life that she'll take a fatal blow before she lets him die. Caught completely off guard, Kella stammers out a thank you, his face turning the color of a tomato. Rin watches this whole exchange absolutely flabbergasted. The tiny demon totally loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs, demanding to know why he's blushing like a middle schooler. Panicking, she tries to aggressively shove food into his mouth, but he politely declines. Rin then violently pledges to defend his immune system with her life, making the vibe incredibly awkward. The sun finally sets, but with Arsol literally reduced to ashes, it's only a matter of time before hardcore bounty hunters swarm their location. Shrills stays on high alert, warning them to pack up and find a safer drop zone. But Kella shakes his head. He claims this spot is top tier, leaving Rin scratching her head. Smirking confidently, he promises that, with a tiny bit of elbow grease, they're going to build an impenetrable stronghold right here. Flexing their insane magical synergy, Kella and Shrills completely warp the landscape, carving out an epic underground bunker. Chilling in their newly minted safe house, Kella takes a second to process his recent power-ups. It hits him hard, burning through that much raw mana left him totally drained. It's the exact same drawback the Demon King always suffered from. Meanwhile, Shrills, who went completely scorched earth in the battle, is practically in standby mode trying to recharge. So, locked tight inside their magically camouflaged panic room, the crew finally gets to catch some sleep without constantly watching their backs. Suddenly, a massive horn blasts across the capital. A heavy hitter squad just rolled into town. It's the legendary 2nd Talon Squadron, aka the White Token, spearheaded by the man himself, Killian. A terrified guard sprints into the throne room, announcing that the kingdom's ultimate trump card has breached the castle gates. Even the king gets goosebumps watching them march in. The sheer, suffocating aura of their power is undeniable. Grinning like a maniac, he opens his arms to his deadliest weapons. The White Token is here to play. And noticing the lethal edge in his stride, one of the palace knights mutters that Captain Killian has somehow leveled up into a completely different beast. Flashing a smirk, the guy notes how absolutely hyped General Killman would be looking at this. Killian catches the remark but stays dead quiet, a total ice wall. Out of nowhere, an elf squad mate snaps at Deed, telling him to zip it and show some damn respect. Deed just rolls his eyes, groaning about her ear-piercing volume and muttering that she literally never changes. That sparks another guy to question why they're even taking orders from the crown. He practically spits out that icing. Hell Khaldun right now wouldn't even scratch the surface of his rage. Cutting the chatter, Killian steps in and throws a quick apology to his teammate, Kalka. He pivots, mentioning he's got something specific to show a spellcaster named Curdley. Smash, cut to the crew marching into this massive, echoing castle hall. Dead center of the room, he locks eyes with the severed head of Hel Khaldun. "Found you," he whispers. Piercing the dead king with an absolute death glare, Killian addresses the monster who slaughtered his brother. Deed gags in the background, only for the rest of the crew to instantly shush him. Killian glances at Curdley, asking if her tracking hex can pop off using just a decapitated skull. She nods, sparking up her mana to hunt down the demon's remaining bloodline. The spell erupts into a blinding light, forcefully jump-starting the residual dark aura trapped inside the skull. Killian leans in close, ordering the dead king to pry his eyes wide open. "Don't blink," he taunts. Flashing a psycho grin, he tells the severed head to sit back and watch the massacre they're about to unleash. Creepily enough, the dead overlord's gaze seems to lock right back onto him, totally absorbing the fatal promise. Hard transition back to our squad. Shriel is hyping everyone up, screaming that since their health is maxed, it's time to stomp some enemies. Little Rin tilts her head, totally lost. The kid asks what the deal is with this 2nd squadron. Shriel drops the lore, explaining that the Talua kingdom literally thought the 1st squadron was garbage. Turns out, those guys were straight up cannon fodder, just meat shields, meant to bait out the Demon King. The real heavy hitters, the kingdom's actual golden children, the legendary White Talon. Kella's face drops into this intense, shadowy scowl as the name White Talon echoes in his head. Shriel keeps spilling the tea. This unit is captained by Killian Killman's little bro, and the roster is stacked exclusively with generational combat prodigies. Kella pauses. He asks if Killman, the absolute beast who literally ended his dad, was seriously weaker than these new guys. Gritting her teeth and gripping her fists, she hates admitting it, but the facts don't lie. She drops the bomb. Absolutely. Killian's death squad leaves Killman in the dust. Honestly, she can't even calculate the insane power gap between them. That hits Kella like a truck. The sheer, terrifying scale of the threat coming for his neck finally clicks. Little Rin completely loses it, crying out about how they're supposed to raid Talua with those monsters guarding it. Shriel's strategy? Blitz them before the squad groups up. But Kella is sweating internally. Talua is massive compared to Arcel, and zero chance they can just plot armor their way through this. Suddenly, his eyes sharpen. The gears turn, and he locks in on a brand new master plan. He warns the girls that if the kingdom ordered a manhunt for him, the White Talon is 100% back on home turf. Rushing in as a trio is literal suicide, he claims. What they actually need is an entire army. The girls just stare at him, shook. They ask what on earth he means by building a military base. He smoothly pitches that they need a force bulky enough to clash with the White Talon head-on, plus a fortress so fortified that even if Talua throws every single soldier at the gates, the walls won't even scratch. Flashing this ultra-cocky smirk, he drops the ultimate flex. They are going to construct the most overpowered dungeon in history. The duo's jaws hit the floor. The ultimate dungeon? He justifies it by saying they can't afford any 50-50 fights, or they'll end up getting smoked just like his dad. Step 1. Build the death maze. Step 2. Wage an all-out apocalyptic war on Talua. Shriel is absolutely starstruck. She praises him, saying the apple truly didn't fall far from the demonic tree. Cut to Kella's inner monologue. He is sweating bullets. Thanking his lucky stars, he managed to freestyle that entire lie without stuttering. Hyped up, Shriel chimes in, claiming she actually knows some absolute units they can draft into their ranks. The girls immediately start jumping around and screaming, fully energized for the upcoming bloodbath. Kella just stands there watching them totally eat up his fake masterclass. In reality, this whole dungeon pitch was literally just a massive stall tactic, so he wouldn't die today. Smirking to himself, he realizes this might actually be his golden ticket to finally building his own private, unbothered paradise. A cozy little utopia he'd always dreamed of, but never got to touch. His own slice of heaven, where he could just chill without people trying to assassinate him. Gripping his fist, he snaps back to reality to execute this crazy plan. He turns to Shriel, asking if she's got any ride-or-die demons in her contacts. To pull this off, he notes, their very first draft pick needs to be an absolute genius at geography and map layouts. Shriel taps her chin, scanning her mental Rolodex for anyone matching that vibe. Suddenly, her face lights up. She knows the exact MVP for the job. She motions for them to follow her lead. And just like that, our rogue trio embarks on a brand new quest to secure their very first recruit. While walking, Kella decides to multitask and casually asks Shriel to teach him the ancient Arcel magic. Mentally, he knows this stuff should take decades to master. But thanks to those overpowered Demon King genetics pumping through his veins, channeling mana felt like a total breeze. He basically speedruns the entire magic tutorial without breaking a sweat, leaving Shriel completely speechless. Feeling the raw arcane energy spark from his fingertips, Kella realizes his fake utopia is actually within grabbing distance. Fast forward 4 days, and our crew is trekking through a totally dead wasteland. Shriel's promises they are close, though Kella cannot wrap his head around why any demon would camp out in this dump. Sensing his doubt, she drops a heavy truth bomb. This wasteland used to be paradise. That is, until the Talon squad wiped it off the map. Our main guy and Little Rin just exchange blank stares, totally missing the dark history. Without warning, Shriel's vibe turns ice cold, ordering them to freeze and not move a single muscle, no matter how bad things get. Boom! A savage pack of demons ambushes them out of nowhere, screaming pure hatred for the Talons. One of the brutes locks eyes with Shriel's and completely bum rushes her. He swears he is going to end her life right then and there. It clicks in her head these guys have zero clue who she is or how lethal her reputation actually is. Little Rin freaks out, crying over why Shriel's is just eating these punches like a punching bag. Kella shoots the kid a harsh shush, leaving the poor girl trembling and completely lost. Keeping an insanely chill poker face, he orders his crew to back off and let the brutal scene play out. This only pisses the attackers off more, and they scream, demanding to know why she will not throw hands. Instead of swinging, Shriel's just bows her head, spilling out a totally raw, guilt-filled apology. Dropping to her knees, she vows to tank every ounce of their rage until they are satisfied. The enemy boss instantly freezes. His jaw drops as he spots that ultra-specific stance only their kind knows about. She openly begs for forgiveness for teaming up with their sworn enemies. The mob is visibly tripped up. Since the last time they saw her, she was literally running with the Talon squad. Right on cue, Kella casually steps into the spotlight, dropping the mic by backing up her entire story. Flaunting a sick, blazing blue aura, he flexes his true identity. He is the final surviving bloodline of Hel Khaldun. That insane pressure instantly hits the crowd, making them realize they are literally staring at demon royalty. Shaking in his boots, the leader stammers out, asking if he is actually young Master Kella. Once he nods, the whole pack basically loses their minds, rushing him with tears in their eyes and sheer hope radiating from them. The entire Earth Demon squad drops to the dirt, praising him as His Highness, Kella Kalden. Rin absolutely lights up, cheering the young master's name with the biggest smile. Shriels smirks, pointing out how fast they accepted their true king. Kella just stands there, soaking it all in, mentally calculating his next massive move. The shot pans out to reveal a massive, secret underground sanctuary completely cut off from the outside world. It is super humble, acting as the ultimate safe haven for the surviving Earth demons. A slick grin crosses Kella's face as he realizes building his own overpowered army might actually be a cakewalk. A random local hypes up the crowd, screaming at the top of his lungs that the legendary Demon King's son, Kella Kalden, has finally arrived. The entire cavern erupts into pure chaos, with fists punching the air as they go totally feral for their new ruler. One of the head honchos steps up, promising to get the war machine rolling. The second Kella gives the green light. But our guy is too busy scanning the incredible environment, completely blown away by the insane, rugged architecture. He is shook that these guys built an entire metropolis from scratch, using zero magic and only raw natural materials. While the locals party hard, Kella's mind is racing, stunned that a massive underground empire like this managed to stay completely off the radar. He locks eyes with Shriels and totally concedes she was dead on. They desperately need this insane level of craftsmanship on their squad. Flashing a cocky smirk, she drops another massive hook. There is a top-tier fighter hidden here that they absolutely have to recruit. This instantly grabs Kella's attention, making him demand a name. The camera suddenly rips back in time as Shriels spills the tea about the day the Talon forces finally cracked this village's location. We get a shot of General Killman looking insanely pissed, barking orders at his troops to wipe every last Earth demon out of existence. The Talon heavy hitters swarm the place, kicking off a brutal, one-sided slaughter against the helpless locals. Screams echo everywhere as they beg for mercy, but they get chopped down instantly, catching total zeros in a fight they never even saw coming. To make things even worse, the general ordered his men to completely torch the camouflaged forest hiding the settlement. That single, ruthless move shoved the Earth Demon race right to the edge of an absolute game over, hitting Shriels with pure trauma just thinking about it. But out of nowhere, a berserk warrior crashes the party, screaming his lungs out at the cowards for attacking a peaceful tribe that literally does not even know how to throw a punch. He plants himself like an absolute tank in front of the kids, growling that anyone who wants to hurt them has to go through him first. Killman is completely caught off guard, baffled that any demon would throw away their life just to play hero for a bunch of brats. His curiosity piqued. The commander steps up to this absolute unit and demands to know the name of someone crazy enough to pull a stunt like this. With his chest puffed out, the guy proudly barks back that he is Douglas, a true son of the Earth demons. Killman mutters the name quietly to himself, visibly shook by the sheer amount of main character energy radiating from this guy. Flashing a serious, calculating stare, the commander clearly pivots his entire game plan on the spot. Internally, he curses his luck, thinking to himself how cracked this warrior would be if he were actually born human. Out of nowhere, Killman shocks the entire battlefield, screaming at his troops to cease fire and pack it up right this second. Douglas just stands there, completely frozen, his brain lagging as he tries to figure out why the terrifying enemy force just pulled a total 180. Flashing a gentle smile, Shriels looks back and tells him his insane guts literally just saved the entire settlement from a total wipeout. The guy goes completely mute, still rebooting his mind after that insane brush with death in the middle of a war zone. We get a final, epic shot of Douglas standing tall, heavily guarding the kids while the deadly army fades into the distance. Snapping back to the present day, Shriels wraps up the lore drop, emphasizing that he stood his ground and protected the weak when it mattered most. Little Rin is totally starstruck, while Kella jokes that even a basic name like Douglas just screams reliable tank energy. Kella's gears start turning. Finding an Earth demon with actual combat stats is an ultra-rare drop he never even saw coming. Kella zeroes in on his target, demanding a face-to-face with this legendary Douglas. Panic flashes across the elder's face. He desperately tries to steer the prince away, warning that the dude is practically a brick wall and begging him to pick literally anyone else. But Kella shuts that down instantly, declaring he is bagging this warrior no matter what it takes. Cut to a gritty forge, heavy with thick black smoke, and the deafening crash of metal slamming against metal. Stepping right into the heat, the prince gets all up in the blacksmith's space, challenging him on whether he is seriously dodging a direct royal command. Douglas doesn't even bother to look back. He flat out states he owes zero loyalty to anyone, completely unbothered by the whole son of the king flex. Ice cold and unfazed, Kella casually drops a threat, wondering out loud what happens if he beats submission into him. That finally makes the massive dude turn around, heavy sweat dripping down his face. The dude grips his weapon, swearing he will drag them both to the grave before surrendering. Catching that vibe, the prince instantly flips the script, dropping the aggressive act to ask what is keeping him glued to this dump. Douglas gets super defensive, claiming this is his birthplace. He throws out the whole sworn duty speech, insisting he is the ultimate shield for his homeland. Basically, leaving is completely off the table. The royal heir mentally facepalms, realizing this recruitment is going to be a massive headache, and roasting the guy for living up to his stubborn reputation. Throwing out a half-hearted apology, the bulky warrior firmly stands his ground, absolutely refusing to ditch his community. Frustration completely takes over our main guy, as his mind flashes back to his gaming days, remembering just how insanely tough it was to unlock this powerhouse of a companion. Letting out a massive, defeated sigh, he figures this is a total lost cause. You just cannot recruit a dude who is literally ready to choose death over joining your squad. Kella goes dead silent, letting the rhythmic slamming from the forge fill the air. That raw sound of heavy labor rings through the entire town, perfectly capturing the gritty vibe of its citizens. Taking a casual stroll through the streets, his brain starts analyzing the crazy efficiency packed into the local architecture. It hits him right then and there. He absolutely needs an expert with this level of mastermind engineering backing him up later down the line. Boom, his thoughts get completely derailed when Shriel and Seldera crash the scene, hyping him up to chug down some legendary demon booze. He immediately gets salty, throwing them a glare for totally ignoring him grinding away on his mission. But the temptation wins out, so he caves and snags a heavy wooden mug to taste test the local brew. Literally one gulp in, his brain gets scrambled. He immediately detects a super sketchy aftertaste hidden deep inside the liquid. Lurking in the background, the village elder smirks, playing it off by claiming the royal crew is already completely hammered and rambling nonsense. Flashing a shady grin, he commands his goons to drag their top-tier guests to the absolute best rooms. Pitch-black darkness finally swallows the village, wrapping up an insanely chaotic and draining 24 hours. The camera pans to Kella completely knocked out in bed, dead to the world. After all that drama and questionable alcohol, he looks totally out cold, just recharging his batteries for whatever nightmare awaits tomorrow. But right at the witching hour, his heavy bedroom door lets out a terrifyingly slow creak. A shadowy silhouette slithers inside, inching toward his bed without making a single sound. The unknown assassin hoists up a massive, deadly axe, locking onto their target and prepping for a brutal one-shot kill on the snoozing royal. Our guy just keeps breathing evenly, seemingly completely clueless about the grim reaper hovering over him. Then, boom, the shadows shift, exposing the backstabber's true face. It is freaking rude. The dude loses his mind, roaring that the royal heir is nothing but a pathetic coward. Bursting with pure rage, he promises to end the boy's life right then and there. Meanwhile, Douglas stands frozen in absolute disbelief, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to process how his masterclass ambush just went completely off the rails. Kella's eyes snap open with killer focus. Gripping the deadly blade bare-handed, he casually drops the bomb that all his suspicions were totally spot on. Pure panic washes over the massive dude as he realizes his target was faking it the whole time, while the young royal smoothly vaults out of bed. Right on cue, a whole squad of hostile demons breaches the door, screaming to butcher the prince with zero hesitation. Cornered on the hardwood floor, our main character stares down his attackers, his body coiled tight and ready to unleash absolute hell in a counterstrike. Flipping into full villain monologue mode, he lays out the facts, exposing how he felt the weird vibes from literal minute one. We get a sick flashback to the smoky forge, with a voiceover dropping how sketchy that whole blacksmithing operation really was. The so-called legendary protector was busy hammering out gear that wasn't even meant for the battlefield. The camera zooms in to reveal the shocking truth. The dude was literally crafting heavy iron shackles. Our big-brained prince instantly clocked that those cuffs were way too tiny for any massive orc wrist. Add to that the creepy stalker tailing him through the alleyways earlier, and the red flags were everywhere. From that exact second, his situational awareness skyrocketed, his eyes catching every single microscopic slip-up they made, which directly led to his ultimate discovery. A super well-hidden, nearly invisible wall pulsing with stealth magic. An illusion so crazy advanced that he only cracked it thanks to that broken, top-tier mana coursing through his veins, courtesy of his Demon King dad. But our boy drops yet another massive plot hole in their story. He replays Shriel's intel in his head, dropping the massive bombshell that the so-called hero was supposedly sheltering kid dark elves, not his own kind. The glitch in the Matrix? There was literally zero sign of any pointy-eared kids running around this place. And boom, the final puzzle piece just snapped into place. Flashing a deadly knowing smirk, our absolute unit of a prince totally unravels the entire, twisted master plan the Earth Demons cooked up. Flexing an insane burst of neon blue aura, he launches himself directly into the mob like an absolute missile. Landing a devastating power strike, he instantly deletes a random grunt, proving playtime is officially over. Whipping around to face the mastermind, the prince calls out his exact phrasing. He never claimed he wanted to save those kids from death, only that he refused to surrender them to anyone else. Translation? The dude didn't give a single flying crap about keeping them safe. He was just a greedy trafficker terrified of losing his precious merchandise. Full-blown terror hits the blacksmith's face, utterly mind-blown that a random royal kid dismantled his entire underground operation. Locking eyes with the traitor, our main character coldly suggests they take a little field trip to smash that invisible wall wide open. The camera cuts to the dark streets outside, where a massive, angry mob of locals is starting to swarm up. Suddenly, the doors blow open, and out walks the prince, gripping their supposedly untouchable champion in a brutal chokehold. Gasps ripple through the crowd, and instantly, the dark truth hits our hero. Every single villager standing out here is guilty. Literally, no other way it could happen. The elder is absolutely tweaking over this massive loss, screaming his lungs out at Douglas for fumbling the bag so hard. Looking utterly crushed, our so-called warrior has no choice but to beg for forgiveness after catching such a massive L. Kella isn't playing around. He locks eyes with the mob and drops a chilling ultimatum: flinch, and Douglas gets unalived on the spot. Their boss is practically foaming at the mouth. How did the coward Kella pull off this insane Uno reverse card? The camera then pans over to a dead silent corner of the settlement. This is where the real skeletons are buried. Dragging Douglas up to a solid stone wall, Kella drops his voice an octave and commands him to crack it open. Sweating bullets, the warrior fishes out a glowing purple crystal, using it to shatter the invisible magic seal. The heavy stone grinds open. What's waiting inside? A pitch-black cavern crammed with living, breathing prisoners. Plot twist, they aren't just anyone. It's a whole group of dark elf kids, shivering in pure terror. Kella freezes, completely stunned, while Douglas just glares like a cornered rat. Our prince is sick to his stomach. He suddenly clocks that this rabbit hole goes way deeper and darker than he ever guessed. Right on cue, Sriels and Seldera sprint onto the scene, screaming Kella's name in sheer panic. But the second they peek into that vault, total jaw-drop moment. Whipping his head towards Sriels, Kella asks the million-dollar question. Can she hack into one of these kids' memories, using her magic? She gives him a nod. It's doable, but she drops a quick disclaimer: he'll be watching it in low definition compared to her. Kella doesn't care. He gives the green light. Sriels locks in, her hands glowing as she charges up a heavy-duty mind-link spell. A spark jumps. Suddenly, Kella's consciousness is wired straight into a young elf's brain, dragging him directly into their traumatic backstory. Flashback zeroes in. It takes exactly 2 seconds for Kella to realize this dungeon was straight-up purgatory. The lore drop is vile. The mothers were treated like breeding stock, forced to bring new life into this nightmare scenario. And the kids? Ripped away by shady human elites playing God. The chosen ones were snatched up, leaving their moms completely powerless to stop it. Why? Because in the underground market, a young dark elf flips for an insane bag. To cope, the older captives would whisper legends about the outside world. They painted mental pictures of infinite skies and crystal-clear oceans. They hyped up exotic meals and the ultimate flex, just walking around wherever you wanted. No chains attached. Stuff these prisoners knew they were entirely locked out of. If they could cash in one single dying wish, it wasn't for themselves. They just wanted their kids to break out and taste actual freedom. Snap back to reality. Kella's eyes are absolutely glowing with murder. He calls their whole operation straight garbage before snapping completely, screaming curses at the earth, demons from the bottom of his chest. He violently swivels toward Douglas. The warrior looks clueless, totally missing why the prince is so triggered. Zero hesitation. Kella blitzes him. A blinding blue aura erupts around his fist as he roars, planting an absolute haymaker dead center on Douglas's jaw. The impact sends the dude flying. Douglas eats dirt, totally disoriented and wondering what truck just hit him. Standing over him, Kella barks out the truth. He wasn't rescuing these kids, he was trafficking them. Spitting blood, Douglas doesn't even deny it. He brags that dark elves are premium teardrops for greedy aristocrats because nature itself favors them, meaning they survive anywhere you dump them. Then, Douglas drops the most toxic line, claiming this makes them the ultimate livestock. Sriels looks like she wants to throw up. How could he backstab his own demon kind and treat them like property? Douglas just snaps back, claiming it's a necessary evil to keep their faction alive against humanity. Kella's knuckles turn white. His blue energy spikes like crazy. Flashbacks of his own toxic father beating him down mentally play on a loop in his head. Yet, the prince knows his childhood trauma doesn't even hold a candle to the hell these toddlers are trapped in. And right then, a switch flips. No way is he letting this atrocity slide while he's standing right there. Kella squares up with his squad, Sriels and Seldera. His eyes are dead set. They are going to wrap up the bloody mission Kilman abandoned. Sriels is instantly locked in. She's way past the point of showing mercy to race traitors. The verdict is in. Total wipeout. Kella sentences the earth demons to the grave. Scrambling to his feet, Douglas screams for his goons to back him up. Seeing it's just a 3 versus all, the mob blindly rushes forward, roaring that Kella's squad is catching a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Seldera casually deflects a cheap shot, giving a quick heads up that the leftover orcs are swarming them. That sets Shriels off. The audacity of these low tiers raising a hand against the literal heir to the demon throne? Insane. A random mob yells at his crew to hold the line. His logic? Kella's historically a wimp, so his royal title means 0. Seldera shuts that down instantly. Lord Kella is the inevitable future king, period. Mid-sentence, an attacker leaps at the prince, aiming for a lethal strike. Too slow. Kella parries the weapon like it's nothing. The reality check hits. The tutorial is over. He holds the cheat codes now to literally alter reality. Jaw clenched and eyes burning, he shifts his stance. It's time to unleash 100% of his arsenal. The era of playing the passive victim is dead. Our main character is ready for war. In the background, an elf kid cowers in terror as a demon wildly shrieks for a total massacre. Wait, are they actually here to bust us out? One of the captive elf girls whispers, a spark of hope hitting her. Catching the vibe, one of the guys decides it is time to throw hands and back up their saviors. But before he can even make a move, his buddy violently yanks him back. Are you crazy? Get back here, he hisses. The whole cell block starts panicking, knowing exactly what happens if the rescue squad wipes. The T-word drops. The young elf completely freezes up, hyperventilating as the terrifying reality of being tortured again echoes in his mind. Cue the trauma flashback, a massive demon absolutely wrecking him. The kid lets out this gut-wrenching shriek, reliving every second of that waking nightmare. Kella takes all this in, his blinding blue aura flaring up while his eyes go ice-cold with murderous rage. He locks eyes with Douglas, making a chilling promise. Every drop of pain you caused, I'm paying it back in full. Douglas knows he is outmatched. Desperate, he rips a glowing red crystal from his stash, swallows it whole, and barks at his crew to do the exact same thing. Eat them now, or we are dead, he roars. The demon squad instantly complies, crunching down on their own cursed rocks. Kildera's jaw hits the floor. Those mythical earth crystals actually exist? Kella grits his teeth, totally blindsided by the insane energy spiking in the room. Here is the brutal catch. Crunching that rock literally trades their lifespan for raw, unhinged power. Shrills drops the terrible news. It just multiplied their stats by dozens of times. Douglas straight up mutates. His muscles balloon out, shredding his armor to pieces as a guttural, beastly roar rips from his throat. The horrific metamorphosis twists his body out of shape, and he snarls a blood-curdling death threat right at Kella. Rocking nightmare fuel fangs, he vows to butcher the prince. Kella is seriously sweating now. Their magical output just matched their monstrous new physical stats. He clicks his tongue in sheer frustration, hating that he is still locked out of the god-tier abilities hell gifted him. No time to think. Douglas blitzes forward like a runaway freight train, screaming for blood. The prince braces himself, eyes wide at the lethal force hurtling his way. Boom, massive, thick roots violently erupt from the cave floor, tanking the catastrophic hit at the absolute last second. The demon boss stumbles, utterly confused by the sudden roadblock. The vines instantly coil around his massive frame, leaving him thrashing wildly. What is this trash? He bellows. The smoke clears, showing the little elf, Wood, standing bravely between the prince and the hulking beast. Shaking like a leaf, the kid chokes out that he refuses to go back to the torture chamber. Never again. The captive elves lose their minds, shrieking that Wood just signed his own death warrant. Douglas goes ballistic, promising to skin the kid alive for this little stunt. But right before the monster can snap the vines, a sudden, chilling presence stops him cold. Kella is suddenly right in his face, gripping him tight. Yeah, that is not happening on my watch, he whispers. Click. Kella punches a fatal hole straight through the demon's chest before the beast even blinks. Dropping the corpse, the prince glances at the trembling kid. Wood, right? Flashing a confident smirk, Kella admits he totally respects the kid's reckless guts. Wood is completely speechless, his brain short-circuiting from the insane flex he just witnessed. But wait, Douglas isn't dead. The bleeding monster shrieks at the elf, spitting madness about how the boy betrayed the guy who raised him. Forgetting Kella entirely, the berserker vows to rip the kid apart right this second. Kella's eyes widen. The psycho's body is literally expanding, swelling into an even more gargantuan abomination. Shrugging off a literal hole in his chest, the titan bulldozes toward the prince, charging up a devastating haymaker. Wham! Kella crosses his arms to tank the hit, but the kinetic force is completely off the charts. His defense shatters, launching the royal air across the cavern like a ragdoll, until he violently craters into the solid rock wall. Spitting up blood in the rubble, Kella cannot fathom how those crystals grant such broken, overpowered stats. But Douglas completely ghosts him, zeroing in on his real target. Screaming for vengeance, the monster lunges, snatching the tiny elf right up by his throat. Eyes glowing with psychotic malice, he threatens to pop the kid's head clean off. Wood violently kicks and claws at the massive arm, choking for oxygen, but the vice grip will not budge. Kella clocks it instantly. The demon is completely unhinged, ditching the actual fight just to murder this kid. Wood's vision starts blurring, his little body going limp as his life force slowly fades out. Kella's mind races. He desperately needs a ranged attack to snipe this guy, right now. Pushed to the absolute edge, he locks his focus, mentally screaming for some sort of cheat code to flip the script. In a flash, reality warps, and he is suddenly floating in this bizarre, empty void. A shadowy silhouette spawns out of nowhere, chuckling as it welcomes him to his own mindscape. Kella whips around, super ticked off, demanding to know who this creep is. The shadow just waves off the attitude, reminding him that the clock is ticking for the kid, though time practically stands still in this headspace. That snaps the prince back to reality. Wood, the kid is literally seconds away from dying. Panicking, Kella demands whatever hack or skill the shadow is hiding. The spooky entity casually drops that Kella's vessel simply cannot handle the maxed out Hell Khaldun powers yet, but it promises that as his mind and muscle finally sync up, those locked away abilities will start coming online. Kella cuts off the tutorial dialogue, aggressively shouting, "Skip the lecture. What can I actually use right now?" The shadow smirks. It finally hands over the keys, unlocking a deadly new skill right when he needs it most. The shadowy figure dips out with a final goodbye, casually dropping both of Kella's real names. Our prince is absolutely floored, his mind spinning over how on earth this phantom knew his past. Boom, he snaps back to reality, his brain still buffering from that insane encounter. Suddenly, searing blue plasma wraps around his arm, shifting into the legendary Hellfire arrow. Staring at this crackling energy, a smirk creeps onto his face, knowing the tables have officially turned. Locking onto his target, he screams at Wood to hit the deck and brace for impact. Douglas stares blankly at his own chest, completely baffled by the massive, smoking hole suddenly resting where his heart used to be. Meanwhile, the little elf kid is still getting crushed, agonizing as the furious beast squeezes him tight, before tossing the boy like a rag doll, spitting out curses at the kid for ruining his epic showdown. Kella locks eyes with the monster, his gaze pure ice, promising that this sick little game ends right here, right now. He releases the bowstring, channeling every ounce of his mana. The blazing blue projectile shreds through the air, vibrating with absolute, unadulterated power. Pure panic washes over Douglas's face. Caught dead to rights, he takes the blast straight to the dome, shrieking in agony as a neon blue supernova swallows him whole. In a final, pathetic move, the freak cries out for Golparo, but his ticket is already punched. Kella watches the fireworks from afar, not even flinching as the direct hit vaporizes his target. The villain gives one final death rattle before disintegrating into the inferno. The electric blue flames fizzle out, leaving zero trace of the so-called Big Bad. Yet, Kella is totally zoned out, obsessing over whatever the heck that entity in his headspace actually was. Cut to Seldera, who is currently swarmed by mobs and raging about being completely outnumbered. Shreels isn't having a great time either, totally nerfed because this cramped cave ceiling is blocking her heavy-hitting area spells. But Kella tells his squad to chill out. Armed with his shiny new upgrade, he is about to speedrun this entire mob wipe. Vaulting into the air, he rains down a barrage of neon bolts. The earth demons catch the volley right in the teeth, shrieking as Kella's surprise airstrike absolutely shreds their frontline. Shreels watches, completely stunned, sensing a massive, unnatural spike in her boss's mana pool. Gripping his magical bow, Kella is hyped to finally add some serious long-range damage to his arsenal, and a cocky smirk flashes across his face. Yeah, this new skill is insanely overpowered. Fast forward to nightfall, swallowing the desert wasteland, as a shadowy silhouette glides under the moon, officially calling game over on this bloody clash. With the battlefield finally quiet, Kella brushes the dirt off, declaring the chaos officially handled. Shreels bends down to inspect a glowing chunk of rock, muttering that these weird crystals pack way more of a punch than she bargained for. Seldera's eyes go wide, having zero clue. These cursed rocks literally burned away the user's lifespan to generate power. Kella snatches one up, his tone going dark, stating they desperately need to dig into this twisted mystery. Shifting his focus, he looks at the huddled elves, his playful vibe entirely gone. Opening his eyes wide, he drops the bomb. They are officially liberated, starting right this second. He softly asks them to stay off the radar and to finally go live their best, unchained lives. The captives are just frozen, their brains literally rejecting the idea that this absolute nightmare could actually be over. Keeping his gaze soft, Kella nods, giving them the green light to walk out that door. Reality crashes into them, and the waterworks start. They can finally drag their kids away from this toxic hellhole. Overwhelmed by sheer gratitude, The entire group drops to their knees, praising Kella like a literal savior for pulling off this rescue. Meanwhile, Shriels sighs heavily, groaning that they totally missed out on recruiting those earth demons. Seldera nods, admitting it is a massive loss, but hey, no use crying over spilled milk. Kella, however, turns his attention back to Wood, questioning if the kid was brought here from the outside. Staring into the void, the young boy slowly nods, admitting he was snatched from his home and dragged into this nightmare. Kella reads between the lines, guessing the kid doesn't have anyone waiting for him on the outside. Wood stays dead silent, his eyes carrying decades of unhealed trauma. After a heavy, suffocating pause, he quietly spits out the harsh truth. He is entirely alone in this world. Hearing that, our prince simply reaches out, offering the orphan a permanent spot in their squad. He pitches it smoothly, claiming the team desperately needs a navigator who understands this rugged turf just as well as the demons did. But Wood quickly shoots himself down, arguing he lacks any cool earth magic or tracking skills. Rattling his broken chains, the boy mutters that he would just be completely dead weight to an elite crew like them. Kella shuts that negative talk right down, reminding him he is an elf, a literal favorite child of Mother Nature. And more importantly, when things went completely south, this kid showed more guts than fully grown warriors. Holding his hand out steady, the prince smiles, declaring that kind of bravery is the ultimate resume. The little dude is paralyzed, staring at Kella, his brain totally short-circuiting. Hot tears spill over his cheeks as he chokes out Kella's name, absolutely wrecked with emotion. The scene cuts to a brutal flashback. Wood never even got the chance to memorize his own parents' faces. Dumped on the streets, he ended up snatched by Douglas's twisted syndicate. He recalls being dragged into those pitch-black mines, spending his childhood suffocating in pure misery. He survived in that literal torture chamber, utterly starved of a single drop of hope. He genuinely believed this dark, miserable grind was just going to be his life until he dropped dead. Snapping back to the present, he looks around, realizing his personal hell might actually be closed for good. Tears welling up, he begs to know if he's actually worthy of rolling with Kella. Kella locks eyes with him, face dead serious. "You are not walking behind me," he says. The prince catches himself, making it crystal clear. Wood is riding with him as an absolute equal. Grabbing his hand, Kella pulls him to his feet and signals it is time to bounce, while Wood chokes out a heartfelt thank you. Cut to a massive, starlit sky. Our squad is finally tasting real freedom. They have officially wiped the floor with those earth demons and busted the captive elves out. Kella had been stressing over them, but then it hits him. These beings are literally nature's favorites. No matter where they end up, their glow-up is totally guaranteed. Anything beats rotting in that absolute hellhole. Wood gazes toward the horizon, eyes blitzing with pure, unadulterated hope. Bathed in moonlight, a brand new epic saga officially kicks off for the whole crew. Caldera instantly starts flexing her seniority, barking at Wood that he is the newbie and needs to fall in line. Kella shuts that down, suggesting they track down a river. Wood immediately points into the distance, literally sniffing out a water source. Rolling her eyes, Caldera gives him grudging props, which leaves the elf blushing like crazy. Kella suddenly gets curious, asking Shrills why they are suddenly obsessed with water. Flashing a grin, she drops the truth. Their feet are done, and they desperately need rides. Waterholes attract beasts, she adds, which totally hypes Caldera up. But Shrills shuts her down quick, warning her they would be incredibly lucky to even score a basic unicorn. Kella cuts the chatter, locking in on the route. Wood sniffed out. The camera pans into a dense, magical woodland as the crew pushes forward. And against all odds, they stumble straight onto two literal unicorns, sipping from a glowing, crystal-clear stream. The majestic beasts instantly sense the squad creeping up, their heads snapping up on high alert. Spooked, the unicorns bolt, peeling out of there like their lives depend on it. Boom! Out of nowhere, a colossal, razor-clawed foot slams into the dirt, totally cutting off their escape route. The sheer size of the crater proves this thing is an absolute unit. Stepping out of the deep shadows, a massive white dragon reveals itself, unfurling its wings like a total boss. Caldera loses her mind, screaming that she claims the dragon, while Shrills is standing there utterly shook. Smash cut to a freezing desert night, bathed in the eerie glow of a massive full moon. A mysterious figure draped in a white cloak hovers over a mangled, groaning earth demon. The broken survivor reaches up a trembling hand, using his final breath to beg for mercy. The hood drops to reveal an icy, white-haired woman, scanning the carnage and realizing he is the sole survivor. She glares down at him, her face totally blank, cold reading the scene like a machine. We then flash over to a dense forest, littered with shredded corpses. A camp of white-clad assassins is chilling there, and one of them complains about their busted tracking spell. The squad's mage, Curdley, snaps back that she is flying blind. Her radar is picking up pings, scattering in every single direction. A heavy hitter doubts that many Hellspawn actually survived, demanding to know how they will pinpoint Kella. Curdly bluntly admits they are clueless, while a whiny elf complains they cannot possibly slaughter them all. That is when Killian, the ruthless leader, makes the call. They will massacre the stray demons, scattered all over the map. But he orders Curdly to prioritize hunting down Kella to keep their main objective rolling. She confidently claims she can solo teleport, bypassing the slow march entirely. The rookie, Deed, gets hyped up, suggesting that while she is gone, the rest of them can clean up the local trash. Curdly nods, charging up her magic before vanishing into thin air. To kick off her hunt, her eyes flare with a terrifying, cryptic energy. One blinding flash later, she is completely gone, leaving Deed totally stunned by her insane speed. Killian just cracks a sinister, knowing smirk and gives the green light to start the slaughter. Meanwhile, Curdly spawns in the wasteland, interrogating the bleeding demon about Kella's location. Spitting blood, he snarls that the monster Kella just massacred his entire clan. Without missing a beat, the cold-blooded mage demands to know which way the killer went. The demon chokes out that he has no clue, desperately pleading for healing magic as his life fades. Zap. A lethal beam of light snipes right through his skull, flatlining him instantly. Curdly just stares down at the fresh corpse without a single ounce of guilt. Ice cold, she mutters that a clueless demon is a useless demon, slowly lowering her smoking finger. Pivoting away, she locks onto the faint magical residue left behind. Gazing up into the dark sky, she whispers her prey's name, Kella Calden. While the hunter hones in, we jump back to Kella's crew, who just hit a breathtaking, lush river valley. Kella is genuinely blown away, praising Wood's elite elven senses for basically being a living GPS. Of course, Caldera's ego takes a massive hit, and she snaps at the newbie not to let it go to his head. Kella casually mentions he is starving, and Caldera immediately volunteers to catch dinner, bragging about her pro fishing skills. But before she can even move, a massive swarm of fish literally launches out of the rapids right at them. Wood effortlessly snags the entire haul in one go, dropping everyone's jaws. He humbly shrugs, casually crediting his bond with nature, and Shrills hypes up his insane talent. Caldera just seethes with pure jealousy, fuming that her chance to flex just got totally stolen. She's out here struggling to spark a basic campfire, but boom, Shrills just flexes her magic and ignites it in a flash. Poor Caldera's ego gets absolutely crushed. Giving off major NPC energy and feeling totally useless to the squad, she drags herself to an isolated corner to pout in absolute silence. Once that fish hits the flames, a mouth-watering aroma instantly takes over the whole campsite. Kella totally hypes up Wood's cooking skills. Wood gives a humble nod of thanks. While everyone is stuffing their faces around the glow of the fire, he spots Rin holding back and asks if she's hungry, but she completely brushes the offer off. Without a second thought, Shrill snatches up Rin's portion, leaving the girl absolutely wide-eyed at the sheer audacity. Catching the whole interaction, Kella shoots Rin a heavy, concerned glance. The girl just stares blankly, clearly masking some deep, hidden secret from the rest of the crew. Out of nowhere, Kella mentions he's craving fruit. Instantly, Celdera's eyes light up, and she sprints off into the wild like her life depends on it. Wood steps up to handle the chore, but Kella throws an arm out, cutting him off, insisting that Rin needs to be the one to grab it. Flashing a subtle smirk, he locks eyes with Rin to see if she's down for the mission. Before she can even react, an overly hyped Celdera is already zooming away at top speed, screaming her lungs out. She loudly vows to fetch the absolute god-tier snacks for her master. Shrills just side-eyes the whole spectacle, laughing at how ridiculously easy to please the girl is. She straight up calls Kella out, asking if he staged the whole thing just to boost Celdera's mood, which he clumsily tries to deny before aggressively switching topics. Wood suddenly sniffs the air, claiming he caught the scent of a unicorn nearby. The prince practically begs for it to be a dragon, but Shrills instantly shatters his dreams, shutting that theory down cold. Seconds later, Celdera's voice blasts through the forest canopy, bragging about scoring the ultimate loot. Suddenly, she bursts back onto the scene, practically skipping with joy. Bragging about her epic discovery, she scales a massive, towering tree, completely obsessed with impressing her master and flexing on the new girl. She locks onto the absolute holy grail of snacks, throwing a mini party over scoring a flawlessly ripe, ridiculously juicy apple. Out of nowhere, the entire world starts violently vibrating. She shrieks, bracing for a massive earthquake, until a terrifying realization kicks in. This isn't natural. The color drains from her face as sheer terror takes over. A colossal, cold-blooded reptilian eye snaps open, backed by a bone-chilling rumble that vibrates through the entire zone. The horrifying truth finally hits her that isn't a branch. She is literally standing on a freaking dragon. Total panic mode engages as she unleashes a blood-curdling screech, warning everyone about the monster. Back at the glowing campfire, Shrills casually questions Wood, wondering if he can tap into the raw pulse of nature. The dark elf confirms he totally catches the vibe, though putting that wild sensation into actual words is nearly impossible. Kella instantly zones out, gears turning in his head. He straight up compares the skill to having a built-in minimap from an RPG. Shrills cracks a grin, pointing out how unbelievably overpowered that would be for farming undiscovered dungeons. Wood bursts their bubble real quick, admitting his radar range is actually garbage, so it probably won't be as game-changing as they think. Not ready to give up, Kella demands to know if there's some kind of leveling system to boost the radar's reach. The elf drops a massive truth bomb. There actually is a way. The secret? You literally have to swallow the core stone of a 1,000-year-old ancient dragon. Kella's jaw practically hits the dirt at that insane requirement. His mind instantly starts racing, fantasizing about wielding that god-tier sensory power. But Shrills aggressively snaps him right back to reality. She lays down the brutal facts. Tracking a dragon is a nightmare, and slaying one is basically a death wish. Intrigued, Kella asks if these mythical beasts actually live up to their terrifying hype. She doesn't hesitate to confirm, dubbing them the absolute apex predators of this world, who harbor a massive grudge against the demon race. Plot twist. The only beings capable of actually taming these beasts are humans blessed with ungodly levels of psychological fortitude. He laughs at the sheer irony of that lore, considering humanity is universally clowned on for being the weakest, squishiest race out there. Flashing a knowing smile, Shrills warns him to stop trying to decode the deeply twisted psychology of a dragon. Regardless of the red flags, Kella gets locked in, fully obsessed with securing that legendary stone at any cost. Shrills visibly rolls her eyes at his stubbornness. She brutally shuts him down, declaring the hunt a lost cause and telling him to just drop it. Defeated, Kella drops his gaze and reluctantly agrees. He mutters about just wanting to give Wood a power-up, but before he can even finish, Rin comes crashing through the brush, screaming for her life with an absolutely massive, literal dragon hot on her heels. The entire squad completely freezes in shock. Wood just stares blankly at the sky, utterly paralyzed by the sheer, overwhelming size of the monster. Shrill screams at him to stop acting like a deer in headlights and start sprinting, while Kella loudly curses their unbelievable luck. Right on cue, the colossal beast unleashes a sky-shattering roar. Shrill snaps back, completely clueless as to how this absolute raid boss just spawned on top of them. Off in the background, Rin is still fighting for her life, shrieking into the void. One of the crew aggressively hisses at her to zip her lips before she pulls even more aggro from the flying tank. Lurking just out of sight, a hooded figure in pristine white catches the absolute chaos unfolding. It's Curdly the Mage, and judging by the intense look in his eyes, he recognizes that monstrous roar immediately. In a split second, an intense, suffocating wave of pure mana erupts from the mage's location, painting the sky with a wild magical aura. The winged titan slams the brakes, snapping its massive head toward the heavens, clearly sensing an overwhelming, god-tier presence. Without a second thought, the beast casually pivots and dips out of the zone. The squad is officially spared. Crouched in the shadows, Shrills finally exhales a massive breath she didn't know she was holding, realizing they actually survived the encounter. She immediately pivots to tearing Rin a new one. The terrified girl bursts into tears, sobbing out apologies for accidentally pulling an endgame boss to their camp. Still, totally starstruck, Wood points out that based on its gargantuan scale, that winged menace had to be pushing at least 1,000 years old. Kella's eyes instantly light up with pure hype. The math clicks in his head. If that beast is an ancient millennium dragon, it is absolutely carrying the legendary clairvoyant core. He zeroes in on this as the ultimate loot drop opportunity. Watching from the shadows, the mage Curdly is totally baffled by this kid's insane greed over survival. Cut to the next scene. The entire party is slumped around the camp, looking completely mentally drained. The air hangs heavy, like they're bracing for an ambush, until a voice slices through the dead silence, demanding to know who's lurking in the shadows. Shrills instantly shoots up. Her blood running cold, she recognizes this mage. It's Curdly from the White Talking Squad. Panic ripples through the crew. They're totally busted, their getaway ruined, so everyone instantly shifts into full combat mode. Bracing for an absolute bloodbath, we find out Curdly's reputation is straight up terrifying. She's an ice-cold mage who leaves 0 survivors. Kella summons his mana bow, absolutely fed up with this endless gauntlet of enemies, and shoots the mage a death glare. Meanwhile, the mage just stares back, looking completely unbothered. Without missing a beat, Curdly tells the squad to chill out, claiming there's 0 reason to throw down right now. Kella is totally thrown off by her super casual vibe, but keeps his bow drawn just in case she tries anything funny. Curdly locks eyes with Shrills, branding her a sellout, and warning that fighting back is totally useless. Shrills is practically vibrating with rage, grinding her teeth, completely speechless from the sheer audacity. To prove her point, Curdly flexes her ice magic, casually threatening to wipe the floor with them, using just one attack. Kella glances at Shrills to see if this chick is for real, and Shrills confirms that Curdly is absolutely not capping. Seething with pure resentment, she admits the enemy mage is insanely overpowered, stronger than their entire squad put together. Rin starts spiraling into panic, frantically asking what their next move is, now that they're totally trapped. Curdly doubles down, repeating that they can skip the violence if they just shut up and follow her lead, without pulling any stunts. She basically promises they get to keep breathing today, as long as they play nice. Heavily doubting this deal, Kella demands to know their destination, keeping his weapon locked and loaded. The ice mage just fixes her chilling blue eyes on him, and finally drops the big reveal. She's dragging them straight to the big boss, the captain of her squad, a dangerous guy going by the name Killian. Just hearing that name makes Shrills flinch, realizing the mastermind is finally stepping out of the shadows. Curdly smirks, explaining that her boss specifically requested Kella Calden, and barks an order for them to move out. But Kella snaps back, knowing full well that walking into that trap is a straight-up death sentence anyway. Unfazed, Curdly coolly points out that no matter what they choose, the endgame is exactly the same. She stares straight through him, mocking that he'll at least buy himself a few more hours of life, if he plays along. This absolutely crushes Kella. He wanted an epic, video game-style fantasy life, and going out like a total scrub is not on his bingo card. Surrendering is a guaranteed game over, so he decides he'd rather go down swinging. Eyes locked onto his target, the kid flares up his mana aura, ready to risk it all in a do-or-die brawl. He channels every single drop of his energy into one massive, supercharged strike, letting loose a glowing energy arrow. But Curdly doesn't even flinch, casually popping up a magical force field to tank the hit. Spotting a tiny window, Shrills screams for the squad to jump her, firing off her own lethal magic blast. Her beam smashes right into the barrier, but it doesn't even leave a microscopic dent on that shield. Without missing a beat, Wood rushes in like a freight train, throwing his own heavy-hitting skills into the chaotic mix. But his power just bounces off Curdly's absurdly tough defense, which barely even flickers. Their ultimate combo attack does absolutely zero damage, leaving Curdly standing there looking bored. Desperate, Rin hurls herself into the fray, screaming that she refuses to die as dead weight while Kella does all the heavy lifting. She slams her dark energy-infused fists straight into the magic wall, vowing to defend her master no matter what it takes. Shrills completely loses it, screaming at her that getting up close and personal is a massive mistake against a shield like that. Safe inside her little bubble, Curdly just stares Rin down, muttering that if she wants to choose violence, she's happy to oblige. In a split second, the force field violently backfires, blasting a shockwave that catches Rin directly in the chest. A brutal ice explosion launches her backward like a ragdoll, ripping a painful scream from her lungs. She violently crashes into the dirt, absolutely wrecked and struggling just to stay conscious. Curdly's tiny bit of patience finally snaps, coldly stating she's totally fine with dragging Kella's dead body back instead. Deciding playtime is over, the Ice Mage starts pooling a massive, terrifying amount of frost mana. She unloads an absolute nightmare of a blizzard straight at the crew, aiming to wipe them off the map. Pushing past the agonizing pain, Rin throws herself in the crossfire, screaming for everyone to get behind her. The raging ice storm smashes into her dark aura shield, miraculously tanking that brutal first hit. Kella instantly sprints to her side, absolutely terrified, frantically asking if she's holding up after absorbing that insane blow. Tears streaming down her face, Rin chokes out an apology, feeling like she's always dragging the team down. But she quickly snaps back to reality, yelling that they're on borrowed time and her barrier is cracking. Trapped in the dome, Kella desperately yells out to Shrills, begging her to pull out some kind of counterspell to save their lives. But Shrills is already panicking, crying out that the massive power gap between her and the enemy makes it mathematically impossible to win. Outside the dome, Curdly is mercilessly spamming her frost magic, refusing to give them a single second to breathe. Rin screams out that spiderwebs are forming on her shield, and it's literal seconds away from shattering. Kella goes into full-blown panic mode, realizing that the moment this wall drops, it's game over for the entire squad. The air is thick with absolute dread, every single person bracing for an icy death, courtesy of this psycho mage. But Kella refuses to just roll over and die, throwing his brain into overdrive to find any possible glitch in this nightmare scenario. Like a literal lightning bolt, a crazy, incredibly high-stakes plan flashes into his mind. He suddenly remembers that super sketchy, dark entity, chilling somewhere deep inside his own headspace. He figures if he can somehow link up with that shadow being again, he just might pull off the ultimate Uno reverse card. Just like that, the kid completely loses it. He lets out this massive roar, pushing every single ounce of his willpower to the absolute limit just to force that connection. Thrills is straight up freaking out, screaming at him to back off because his insane aura is literally about to blow their protective barrier to pieces. But he completely tunes him out. He just keeps screaming his lungs out, daring that hidden entity to step out of the shadows and show its face. Smash cut to the dragon. It is just coasting peacefully through the clouds when it suddenly catches that wild shift in the atmosphere, and the colossal beast instantly snaps its head around. Throwing its head back, the massive beast unleashes a rumbling roar, like it literally felt Kella begging for a miracle. Its piercing gaze locks onto an energy signature miles away. It finally clicks for Curdly. She picks up the unmistakable aura of Hell Khaldoon leaking off the kid, making perfect sense of how he stayed completely off her radar. Doubling down on her assault, the Ice Mage flashes a twisted smirk, teasing that their little survival run officially ends right here. Agony rips through Kella. He screams his lungs out, desperately trying to unlock his inner mind, absolutely raging, because he swore his hidden powers were hardwired to trigger at death's door. Right next to him, Shrills completely loses it, screaming at the top of her lungs that their magic barrier is violently cracking apart. Tuning out their panic entirely, Curdly dials up her frozen hurricane, dead set on wiping them off the map. The protective dome finally explodes into a million sparkling shards. The entire squad shrieks, bracing for the ultimate killing blow. Staring straight into the Grim Reaper's face, Kella gazes up in pure horror, roaring that his story absolutely cannot finish like this. But out of absolutely nowhere, the colossal dragon crashes down from the sky, planting itself right in front of the squad and blocking out the danger. The absolute unit of a beast turns its massive frame into a living meat shield, completely tanking the mage's brutal strike to keep the crew safe. Jaws hit the floor across the board. The group is left entirely speechless, completely mind-blown as to why this legendary monster bothered turning back for them. The beast glares down the spellcaster, who looks visibly shaken that her ultimate finisher got totally stuffed. Curdly is glitching out, unable to compute why a wild dragon is suddenly playing bodyguard. Eating the rest of the frozen blizzard point blank, the giant continues to absorb the icy shrapnel with its thick scales. Trembling in sheer disbelief, Kella inches forward and rests a hand on the creature's rugged hide. The literal second their eyes meet, everything shifts. An instant psychic link sparks to life, flooding the boy's brain with vivid, unexplainable flashes. He realizes he is literally downloading the dragon's personal memories. One memory zeroes in on a wildly familiar woman flashing a warm, comforting smile. His heart drops, realizing it is his mom, and this beast actually knew her back in the day. The visions roll like a cinematic movie, showing the two splashing around in a lake, painting a crystal-clear picture of their deep, undeniable bond. Snapping back to reality, the dragon locks eyes with the boy, and a deep telepathic voice rattles Kella's skull, strictly ordering him to bolt. Kella flinches hard, completely tripped out by the insane fact that he is casually having a mental conversation with a giant reptile. The monster cranks its neck back, clearly charging up for a move. A second later, it hacks up a glowing, crimson sphere and tosses it straight to the kid. Gripping the pulsing artifact, Kella stammers out a confused question, totally lost on what this glowing item even is. The booming mind voice returns, revealing it as an ultra-rare clairvoyant stone. Kella is struck dumb, struggling to fathom why a mythical beast would casually hand him such an insane loot drop. Cutting off his train of thought, the dragon barks that the clock is ticking, commanding Kella to suppress his raw aura and get out of dodge immediately. The boy hesitates, demanding answers on why he needs to run like a coward, but the beast shuts down the debate, unleashing a fierce roar that essentially screams to move his legs right now. Wasting 0 seconds, the scaly titan pivots and spews a devastating inferno right at the sorceress, slamming directly into her magical defense. While tanking the fiery shockwave, Curdly narrows her eyes. A majestic dragon throwing its life away for a literal demon? That math is definitely not mathing. Realizing his brain is short-circuiting over the details, Kella knows he has to capitalize on this golden opening. He screams at his crew to sprint for their lives. As the beast keeps her swamped with endless flames, Curdly clicks her tongue in frustration, super annoyed that such a high-tier monster had to crash her party. The sudden boss fight totally throws a wrench in her agenda, forcing the mage to rapidly rewrite her battle strategy on the fly. Eyes burning with pure venom, the scaled guardian squares up, ready to buy the escapees every precious second possible. Taking a massive breath, it shoots out another wave of hellfire. This breath attack is an absolute nuke compared to the first. The roaring flames completely swallow her barrier, heavily flexing the monster's ridiculous damage output. But Curdly just laughs it off, sarcastically asking if that was supposed to even tickle. Cracking a smirk, she casually announces, "It is time to stop holding back." Her pupils instantly ignite with raw mana. A colossal, glowing rune paints the sky above, forcing the dragon to dig its claws in for whatever nightmare is dropping next. A literal meteor made of solid frost starts spawning in midair, radiating a terrifying amount of lethal energy. Flexing her maximum potential, Curdly drops her ultimate spell to wrap this up. Refusing to back down, the dragon blasts an epic pillar of fire upward to intercept the falling comet. The creature dumps every last ounce of juice into the flames, but honestly, the sheer size of the icy rock looks way too overwhelming to melt. Right at the climax, the dragon's pupil flares up. A nostalgic flashback hits, showing a wholesome shot of the massive beast napping totally relaxed next to Kella's mom. Flashing back to years ago, the woman gives off the brightest smile, proving they were not just master and pet, but absolute best friends. Snapping to the current bloodbath, the mythical beast gets a massive adrenaline spike, fully ready to die, protecting its best friend's kid. Boom! The glacier smashes into the dirt, triggering a sub-zero shockwave that flash freezes the entire battlefield. The runaway squad skids to a halt, looking back in pure horror. Blasted by the frigid wind, Kella goes completely pale, absolutely sick to his stomach, worrying if his scaly savior just got deleted. The frosty fog fades out, exposing a massive, blood-streaked glacier right where the Guardian once stood. The Absolute unit has officially fallen. Entombed inside the crystal prison, the beast can only watch as the villain slowly struts over. She is still mentally wrestling with why a mighty dragon would ever side with a demonic kid. Convinced there is a juicy secret hiding here, Curdly closes the gap, casually mentioning she will just hack its brain and steal its memories before it flatlines. But the dying titan is not done just yet. It rips out one final earth-shaking roar as its frozen body abruptly starts radiating a blinding, superheated aura. Boom! A massive shockwave of fire absolutely blindsides the mage. Through the roaring flames, the dragon's voice echoes, dragging her as a heartless, self-centered monster. You can literally feel the pure venom in its tone. It drops a chilling promise. Her karma is coming, and it's going to hit hard. And just like that, the beast goes supernova. Bro literally chose to nuke itself rather than become her prisoner. As the thick smoke clears, the mage is left standing solo in a crater of total devastation. Curdly pieces it together. This absolute legend just pulled a kamikaze move, leaving her holding nothing but dead ends. It hits her. That epic sacrifice was a massive diversion, buying Kella the ultimate window to scrub his tracks and ghost her completely. Whipping out her magic radar, she admits this whole mission just went from easy mode to an absolute headache. Still, she's not sweating it, swearing Kella's doom is locked in stone. Suddenly, these glowing mana butterflies glitch into reality, swarming the charred woods. Curdly smirks, declaring the guy is hardwired to be wiped out by the tokens in white, and that is non-negotiable. Meanwhile, miles away from the chaos, our squad is trying to process what the heck was up with that unhinged reptile. But Wood steps in, dropping the reality check that the beast was secretly playing guardian angel for Kella. Backing him up, Kella reveals that he hacked into the creature's dying flashbacks and realized it had ties to his own mom. Rin's brain is buffering because demons and scaled beasts are supposed to be mortal enemies. So what gives? Kella admits he's totally clueless, though he got hit with a massive wave of depression radiating from those flashbacks. Someone asks if the big guy left any loot behind, and Kella flexes a glowing crimson gem. The whole crew's jaws drop. They didn't just survive, they bagged the legendary clairvoyant rock. Shrills theorizes this miracle was basically the late demon queen, pulling strings from the afterlife. Gripping the crystal, Kella zones out, deeply questioning what kind of history his mom shared with that winged tank. Shrugging off the mystery, he casually tosses the insanely rare drop to Wood, figuring they caught a lucky break. Shrills nods along, pointing out that the white tokens are already breathing down their necks, so they need buffs right now. Wood is sweating bullets, stammering about how ridiculously overpowered the item is, barely believing he gets to keep it. But Kella shuts down the hesitation, claiming the elf is the only compatible user, and basically tells him to just swallow the shiny rock. Hyped up, the elf finally caves, bracing himself to level up his stats big time. Popping the gem like a piece of candy, he's ready to unlock some god-tier radar abilities. Going 0 to 100, the elf downs the dragon's parting gift. Boom, an insane shockwave of mana redlines through his veins as a freaky, dense energy wraps around him. Wood shrieks in pure agony, his irises flaring up like twin laser beams. That's when the artifact downloads a raw cinematic cutscene right into his brain, forcing him to live the dragon's darkest trauma. We're talking day 1. Born straight into a twisted lab as a literal guinea pig for humanity. Mad scientists were out here running the most unhinged experiments imaginable. The agony was off the charts, but the nightmare was on a daily loop, with the helpless beast getting sliced and diced like a horror movie victim. They'd shred its scales to the bone, wait for its health to hit 0, then hit it with healing magic just to restart the slaughter. Fast forward hundreds of years, and the creature's sanity is completely shattered, stripped of any will to live. These toxic researchers were straight up laughing at it, throwing a party over the fact its vocal cords were too trashed to even scream anymore. But right when it was begging for a game over, the demon warlord Turk Khaldun crashed the server. This ancient boss roared that he was about to wipe every last one of those scumbag humans off the map. While the battlefield turned into an absolute meat grinder, that nightmare facility got blown to absolute smithereens. Amidst the rubble and chaos, the battered reptile snapped its chains, dragging itself out of that slaughterhouse and securing the liberty it had been manifesting for lifetimes. Uncaged at last, it spread its scarred wings, surfing the clouds and tasting the wind for the very first time in its miserable existence. Desperate for a fresh start, it goes hunting for its own species. Spilling the tea on how psychotic humanity actually is, it pitches a team-up with the demon realm. But plot twist, the other scaled beasts basically call cap, refusing to believe a single word. Turns out, these guys were already besties with the humans, actively catching bodies on the front line against the demons. But what the Dragon Squad completely missed was that this whole alliance was built on a mountain of dark secrets. Humanity was basically using their so-called allies as lab rats to figure out their weak points. Worse, they were secretly reverse engineering their DNA to hijack the exclusive spells that only dragons could cast. Sadly, nobody wanted to swallow that red pill because they were too blinded by their beef with the demons. Meanwhile, the demon side still viewed the poor guy as an absolute enemy in the crossfire. So boom, it's instantly an outcast on all fronts, rejected by both its own bloodline and the underworld. Spiraling in isolation, the creature starts having a massive existential crisis. Finding zero safe spaces and feeling completely powerless to flip the script, it just gives up. With no core quest to follow, it voluntarily exiles itself from the entire map permanently. Letting the heavy depression win, it sinks into a bottomless void, ghosting the world. Tucked away in the shadows, this absolute unit just rotted away, letting the clock tick down to its own funeral. It was nothing but a broken wanderer, shedding tears in the deep woods with zero faith left in the universe. But the timeline shifted completely. The exact second it crossed paths with a kid named Kariste. This tiny human was bawling her eyes out, screaming for her mom in the dead center of the wilderness. The massive dragon just froze, completely thrown off guard. Why on earth was this tiny human shouting out to him like they knew each other? Suddenly, the kid sprints right up to the terrifying beast, crying her eyes out for her mom. She throws her tiny arms around his scaly snout, totally convinced she just found her family. All her pent-up trauma and isolation just poured out in that desperate embrace. The beast tried pulling away, ready to make it crystal clear he definitely wasn't her mother, but his stone-cold heart suddenly skipped a beat. Right then and there, the universe clicked into place, and he finally understood his true purpose in this world. This random kid who basically crashed into his life, that was Karista, the woman who would eventually become Kella's mom. Tapping into his ancient magic, the dragon peeked into her mind, only to find a backstory just as incredibly tragic as his own dark past. While humanity had treated him like a weapon, absolute literal demons had put her through pure hell. We are talking about Tarsica, a rogue faction notorious for being brutally unhinged. These psychopaths spent their days picking apart draconic magic, desperately trying to figure out how to enslave an entire species of mythical beasts. The Tarsica cult literally snatched unhatched eggs straight from the nest to use the babies as lab rats. So the second Karista took her first breath, she got dragged straight into their messed up underground labs. Packed with insane magical potential, she ended up taking the absolute worst of their twisted torture. Pushed past her breaking point, she actually unlocked transformation magic, which is hands down the hardest skill tree in this entire universe. But that massive power upgrade only made her a bigger target for their sick games. Karista lived in a constant state of agonizing pain, yet somehow, through all that endless nightmare fuel, she secretly grinded out teleportation magic all by herself, finally securing her golden ticket out of there. Breaking out of that literal prison, the tiny survivor wandered the brutal wilderness, completely solo and terrified. She kept pushing through the isolating wasteland, right up until the fateful day she crossed paths with the mighty beast. In his mind, the universe pulled them together because both of them shared the same deeply scarred soul. The crushing burden of existing as a monster used to eat him alive, but honestly, all of that baggage vanished the second he started living his best life alongside his precious Karista. Then, out of nowhere, the vibe violently flipped, and a terrifying brain fog completely hijacked the majestic creature's mind. Spotting the red flags, Karista panicked and asked her mentor what the heck was wrong. Blanking completely, he stared her down and demanded to know who she was, leaving the poor girl absolutely shell-shocked. The monstrous beast just kept sizing her up, only seeing the twisted aura of a filthy demon staring back at him. Dripping with pure rage, he roared at her to state her name and dropped the disguise right this second. Karista freaked out, completely lost, praying this was just some sort of intense training exercise. Instead, he basically told her time was up and geared up to utterly annihilate her. The terrified girl screamed for her master just as a devastating blast of hellfire slammed into her. The tragic part? He only ever wanted a peaceful life with her, but his corrupted anatomy just could not hold up. Thanks to those horrific past experiments, his entire system was literally self-destructing. Pushed to her absolute breaking point, Karista collapsed to the ground, sobbing and begging him to snap out of his amnesia. Hearing her voice crack, something in his shattered brain finally rebooted, and the name Karista echoed back into his mind. Catching a tiny spark of hope, she desperately asked if her master was finally back. Crushed by guilt, he choked out a tearful apology, heartbroken that he almost turned her to ash. Right then, reality hit him like a freight train. His sanity and physical form were permanently clocking out. Karista watched in total horror, while the beast knew he had to dip before he went feral on her again. Swallowing his grief, he launched himself into the sky, accepting he had to abandon his favorite student forever. She was left totally stranded, screaming herself hoarse and begging him to quit playing this sick prank. But the sky stayed empty, and she completely broke down, crying out his name into the void. To keep Karista safe, the cursed beast flew to the absolute edge of the world, ensuring she was out of his blast radius. Isolated in the middle of nowhere, he basically set up his own grave and waited for the Grim Reaper to arrive. He spent his final countdown clinging to the core memories they built together, but his glitching brain kept putting him through a brutal cycle of amnesia and clarity, tearing his sanity to shreds. Feeling his mental hard drive wipe itself clean, he knew his game over screen was fast approaching. But literally, on his deathbed, an insane plot twist dropped out of nowhere. A hyper-specific magical signature spiked in the distance, sending wild shockwaves through his massive frame. Acting on pure muscle memory, he took to the skies, tracking that invisible radar to see who exactly was calling him. With absolutely 0 hours left on his clock, he locked onto the exact source of that powerful beacon. Boom! We snap right back to the present timeline, catching the majestic beast, getting pulled in by Kella's massive power surge. Destiny literally dragged him across the map to pull off one final legendary carry for this bloodline. That magical pulse radiating from Karista's kid was exactly the spark he needed. The absolute last surviving data file in his scrambled brain was the iconic, unforgettable aura of his girl, Karista. Sure, he called her his student, but deep down, that bond was straight-up family. Flashbacks of her tiny, fragile self flooded his mind, hitting him with all the protective instincts of a proud dad. So when that familiar energy spiked, he knew 100% it was an absolute SOS. Unleashing a heartbreaking roar, he screamed her name to the heavens, blasting off without zero hesitation. He rode that magical slipstream, pushing his dying body to max speed just to reach her in time. But arriving at ground zero, he did not find Karista, just some random teenager bracing for impact. Even with his brain glitching out, spotting the deadly incoming threat, the legendary beast didn't hesitate to tank the hit. He threw his massive frame into the crossfire, using his body as a shield on pure instinct, guided only by an invisible, unbreakable connection. He instantly knew this kid was not just some random stranger. One glance, and the truth hit him like a freight train. This was the son of Karista. Peering deep into Kella's memories, the entire puzzle clicked right into place. His sweet little girl, the one he cherished like his absolute own flesh and blood, was all grown up. There she was, glowing as a mother, cradling her baby boy with pure, unfiltered love. Hot tears blurred his vision as he made an unbreakable vow to keep that kid safe. Pure adrenaline surged through the massive beast, ready to trade his own existence for the boy's survival. Channeling every last ounce of his fading energy, he unleashed one final, devastating inferno. Deep down, he silently thanked Karista for making his final days actually mean something. After an insanely long lifetime, standing by her side finally gave him true peace. Catching that one last glimpse of her son was the ultimate closure. With a heavy heart, he whispered a final goodbye, sending all his love to the girl who was practically his own daughter. Snap back to reality, and the vision shatters, leaving Wood absolutely bawling, totally wrecked by the replay. The elf practically collapses to his knees, completely crushed under the emotional baggage. Rin immediately steps in, asking if he is holding up all right. He chokes out that he just binge-watched centuries of history. But here is the catch. Just like a fading dream, the harder he tries to cling to the details, the faster they slip through his fingers. Still sobbing, he manages to drop a massive bombshell. The dragon actually passed away completely satisfied, finding total zen at the very end. Kella is just standing there, scratching his head, trying to wrap his mind around how a brutal death could be peaceful. He pieces it together. The beast definitely got wiped out by that crazy, powerful mage. The camera cuts straight to the blasted wasteland, proving there was zero chance the monster was making it out alive. Out of nowhere, a shady voice demands to know how his brain is suddenly wiped blank. Shrills absolutely loses it and violently shakes him, screaming that he was literally just crying his eyes out over the visions. Wood scrambles to defend himself, guessing his powers might just have a massive lag time. Rin totally rolls her eyes at his zero-confidence energy, bluntly roasting him for being a total rookie. Seeing the chaos, Kella realizes they are out of options. They just have to sit tight until Wood's skills finish buffering. Stepping up as the boss, he declares they need a solid hideout right now and demands the map from Shrills. The parchment lays out the human empire right next to the ruins of the demon realm. Kella taps the paper, showing they are standing smack dab on the danger line, splitting the two massive zones. Running the calculations in his head, he calls the play pushing south is their absolute best move. Rin and Shrills are completely thrown off, demanding to know why they are not retreating straight into the demon Badlands. That is when he drops the lore his dad did not just throw him into the human-controlled Arsenal territory for giggles. Kella is completely convinced the old man predicted the massive human blitzkrieg on their lands. Shrills nods along, recalling how every single army instantly teamed up the second his dad kicked the bucket. Catching on to the vibe, Rin hypes up a new plan, round up the surviving demons, to form a massive squad behind Kella. But he brutally shuts that down in a heartbeat, calling it a total pipe dream because his reputation is literally in the trash. He flat out admits he lacks the clout to recruit anyone since the whole world thinks he is a massive wimp. Rin tries to get Shrills on her side, but she points out that Kella's royal bloodline is basically unprovable right now. Plus, she admits her own past actions in Talcon totally canceled her reputation forever. Kella steps in to lay down phase 1 of the master plan, construct a hardcore dungeon base. The guy seriously needs to farm some major street cred. With pure boss energy, he announces that he has to flex his raw power before any demon actually bows to him. The girls instantly catch the hype, realizing this achievement-hunting grind is an absolute galaxy brain move. Rin gets super hyped, claiming that as his stats go up, an army will naturally flock to his banner. And just like that, he will legitimize his crown and ascend as the ultimate demon lord. It is literally foolproof. Turning back to the blueprints, Kella locks in the southern drop zone, ready to map out their survival guide. The squad's morale skyrockets as they cheer, totally pumped to kickstart the grind. But inside his own head, Kella is sweating bullets, thanking his lucky stars. They bought his completely unscripted bluff. He finally scored the ultimate dream team, but the threat level is still flashing max red. A terrifying flashback of Curdley crashes his thoughts. Going head-to-head with the White right now is pure suicide. With a dead serious glare, he knows he has to data mine the secrets of this twisted reality. Looking around, he realizes everything from the spellcasting to the beast drops, screams hardcore role-playing game mechanics. He starts connecting the crazy dots if this universe actually links. Straight back to his previous run, the whole meta shifts. Armed with that wild theory, he is ready to milk his royal demon bloodline for every single perk, while weaponizing his past life gaming strategies to stay breathing. He is locking in there as a clear win condition here, and getting a game over is not an option. Boom. Hard cut to a random demon settlement, completely engulfed in raging flames. A terrified demon clutches a toddler, throwing up his hands and sobbing for a truce, literally begging to team up with the human invaders. But no one cares, and a devastating blast of black fire absolutely obliterates him on the spot. Dee strolls through the smoke with a sick, twisted smirk, mockingly asking if the guy was speaking because his ears were ringing. Another survivor loses it, screaming that blasting someone with their hands up is pure evil. Out of nowhere, a massive battle axe cleaves the air as a completely unhinged voice spits the word, demons. Audrey tells the guy to eat dirt and die, violently swinging her heavy weapon without an ounce of hesitation. Dripping thick crimson, the edge leaves zero doubt it was an instant kill shot. Not missing a single beat, Kalka spins around and reports to the captain that the job, he wraps up, but a sudden shock rocks his face, total disbelief. Smash cut to Killian, getting the wild intel from Curdley. Kella literally hitched a ride on a dragon. Killian connects the dots, pinning their drop-off point right near the Earth Demon turf. Curdley flexes her tracker skills, already unleashing her magical butterfly swarm to scan the whole zone. Doing the math, Killian figures Kella isn't dumb enough to step into demon lands while they're burning to ash. Barking out orders, Killian tells the squad to wrap up the slaughter and rally at Curdley's spot. But Audrey totally loses it, practically foaming at the mouth about the surviving demons, wanting to wipe them off the map right then and there. Killian shuts her down fast, chilling her out by promising the massacre can wait. Taking Kella's head is priority number 1. His villain arc is fully showing as he vows to eradicate the exact bloodline that dropped his brother. Hard cut back to our boy Kella, catching a random, bone-deep shiver that spikes his anxiety. The crew keeps riding, with Shrills pointing out that the freezing vibes track perfectly since they've been pushing south for a straight 7 days. Kella checks their 6-0 signs of the Talon on their tail, and he's praying their luck holds out. He desperately needs a breather to get his master plan locked down. Out of nowhere, their rides just hit the brakes hard, slamming their hooves into the dirt like they hit an invisible wall. Rin gets majorly spooked, demanding to know why the unicorns are throwing a tantrum. Stepping up, Wood translates the beastly behavior. These majestic creatures are straight up refusing to take another step. Their survival instincts are screaming that the path ahead is a total death trap. Kella just brushes it off, totally chill, deciding it's the perfect time to cut the mounts loose, since they've officially hit their target point anyway. Giving his ride some sweet head pats, Wood whispers his thanks and tells the unicorn to get home in one piece. Left standing in the freezing wasteland, the squad spots bizarre beasts dashing through the snowdrifts. Rin is practically rattling from the frost, complaining that this weather is absolutely brutal. But Kella? He's thriving. Flashing an insanely cocky grin, he tasks the crew with scouting the ultimate spot for their new headquarters. The camera pans away, catching the unicorn sprinting back, under a killer starry night and a massive full moon. But trailing their hoofprints? A glowing, icy blue phantom butterfly locking onto their scent. This magical bug cuts through the pitch-black sky like a neon sign. Miles away, Curdley's eyes snap open. She caught the unicorn's retreat. These beasts hate the cold, yet they bolted from the south. What really hooks her interest, though? The exact head count of 4 empty saddles. Back with the squad, they hit a desolate shoreline, and Kella zeroes in on an island cave as their ultimate safe zone. He taps Wood for a monster check on the landmass, but Wood admits his radar only picks up plant life and nature vibes. Right on cue, Shrill's gestures towards some busted, ancient rowboats, noting this place looks completely abandoned for ages. Kella does a quick quality check, and after she gives the green light on the boat's durability, the gang hops aboard. They kick off the 200-meter paddle to the rocky outcrop. Kella observes the gap isn't massive, but the dark, crushing depths and aggressive waves make it sketchy. To him, though, that's prime real estate. Any enemy trying to pull a sneak attack would be spotted a mile away. Pulling up to the cavern, he stares down the massive, gaping entrance and signals Shrills to work her illusion magic. She smirks, calling it light work, instantly throwing a hand up to weave the cloaking hex. A deep purple aura flares up, spinning into a grid-like magical shield. Right across the opening, the mirage clicks into place, literally erasing the massive cave mouth from existence. Pushing inside, Kella gets the vibe that someone camped here way back in the day, so he launches a full-scale exploration. A few steps down into the dark, the tunnel violently forks into a dead split. Kella pivots, pressing Wood, to scan the cavern's blueprint. Tapping into his senses, Wood reveals both skinny tunnels actually funnel into the exact same central chamber. He goes on, adding that the deepest room actually links to a tiny, hidden escape hatch. Digesting the layout, Kella calls for a split-up to sweep both sides at once. Shrills wastes zero time, latching onto his arm and pitching a dynamic duo team-up. Rin totally blocks that play, yelling a hard nope while declaring herself Kella's partner. Flustered, she scrambles for an excuse, arguing that the 2 heaviest hitters absolutely need to take separate routes. Shrills can't argue with straight facts, so she bites the bullet and gets stuck with Wood. Looking stupidly happy about the setup, Kella lays down the law scan every inch and regroup at the core. Cut to the B-team tunnel, where Shrills and Wood are trekking. She eyes the glowing rocks illuminating the damp walls. Wood drops some lore, identifying them as classic lightstones, forged by someone flexing dual-core ice and light magic. Shrills just glares daggers at him, making it crystal clear that he is strictly on her blacklist. The dude looks insanely lost, completely missing the hostile energy she's throwing. She ruthlessly reminds him that he's only breathing the same air as her because Kella allows it, and she definitely isn't looking to add him to her friend group. Taking the verbal beatdown, Wood stays dead silent, absorbing her toxic vibes. The air gets thick with hardcore tension, her side eye practically burning a hole in his head. Then, with zero emotion, he tells her to chill out, dropping the insane line that she can literally treat him like a piece of property. That wild statement totally breaks her brain, leaving her speechless for a solid second before she just whips her head forward and flat out says she despises his entire vibe. Wood doesn't even flinch, keeping his stone-cold poker face locked in, completely unbothered by her massive disrespect. Over on the A-team side, Kella casually mentions how clutch it would be if they could craft those glowing rocks themselves. Rin screams at him to watch his step, totally freaking out that he might trip over a random rock. He's completely clueless about her panic, chuckling at her over-the-top energy. Out of nowhere, this squishy blue slime bounces right into their lane. Kella drops his jaw, totally mind-blown, seeing a real-life slime right in front of him. The dude starts geeking out hard, since he's only ever fought these in video games, and he's always dreamed of poking one. But Rin, she is absolutely furious at the disrespect, and immediately flexes her dark magic. She vows to literally vaporize the mob for having the nerve to block Master Kella's path. Dark energy crackling in her palms, she gets ready to nuke the squishy pest out of existence. Once she obliterates it, she stares at Kella, practically begging for a gold star. So he gives her a quick thumbs up, and she absolutely beams at the praise. She swears she'll demolish any threat that pops up, but Kella gently asks her to chill out for a sec. Suddenly, the entire cavern rumbles with this crazy, bone-rattling earthquake. They both freeze, staring into the dark and wondering what on earth is going down. Slowly stepping out from the shadows, a massive stone golem locks onto them with a single glowing red eye. Pure terror hits, and they both shriek their lungs out at the nightmare fuel. Kella screams about the sheer size of the beast, shoving Rin behind his back and ordering her to hide. But she totally ignores him. Flashing her fangs with dead-set resolve, Rin channels her inner protector, sparking up her dark magic to blast the rock giant. Meanwhile, over in the other tunnel, Shrill stops dead when she spots something glittering in the dirt. Her eyes instantly light up. It's this stunning crystal necklace that screams ancient and insanely expensive. Hyped beyond belief, she snaps it around her neck and turns to Wood, asking if it gives off main character energy. The guy just hits her with a dry grunt, showing absolutely zero emotion. Shrills deflates immediately, totally bummed out by his deadpan vibe and wishing Rin was there. She pictures Rin hyping up her outfit, imagining them teaming up for a massive loot haul. Sighing hard, she mutters that she's totally over this, wishing she had better vibes around. Wood just keeps quiet, completely ignoring her salty mood. Cutting back to the chaos, the golem goes all out, yeeting Rin across the cave with a single brutal swing, but she bounces right back up. Convinced that if she can shatter this hunk of rock, they're in the clear. The stone beast winds up a devastating punch, zeroing in straight for the tiny demon. The fist connects perfectly, hitting with a raw force that violently rattles her entire skeleton. Rin gets sent flying backward, coughing up blood and looking completely wrecked. Kella screams that going barehanded against this boss is straight up impossible, but even broken, she refuses to tap out, screaming that she's not done fighting yet. She recklessly charges forward with her magic blazing, determined to wreck the monster, but the golem just swats her down again, the crushing blow nearly knocking the wind out of her. Kella screams her name, begging her to stop throwing her life away. Dragging her bruised body up, Rin somehow finds the willpower to keep challenging the stone titan. Gasping for air, she cries out that if she quits, she won't be worthy of being his attendant. He stands there totally lost, struggling to figure out what she's rambling about. Right on cue, a flashback hits, taking us back to her first day ever stepping foot in the castle. Kella's dad glares down at the boy, aggressively questioning if he seriously wants to buddy up with the help. Tiny Kella, sobbing his eyes out, stubbornly nods and says he wants Rin as his friend. His dad just snaps at him, coldly stating she's merely a servant, before ordering the official contract to be drafted. Kella keeps bawling his eyes out while young Rin just stands there, super awkward and out of place. Fighting back his own sadness, he chokes out an apology and officially claims her as his attendant for the Khaldoon. Little Rin goes beet red from the embarrassment, but manages a sweet smile of gratitude. Truth is, she was just over the moon that he actually wanted a real friendship with her. Later that night, watching him cry himself to sleep, she made a silent oath. She swore on her life to always have his back, pushing him to become the most legendary demon ever. With her whole heart, she promised to grind endlessly to keep that vow alive. But fast forward, castle life was an absolute nightmare for both of them. Kella turned out to be a massive coward, a total crybaby who constantly dodged death because of his brutal brothers. Day in and day out, it was the exact same script, him sprinting through the dark halls in a full-blown panic. He'd burst into Rin's room in tears, blubbering about how he almost got dusted again. Even when she tried acting icy and strict to toughen him up, it was a massive fail. Because at the end of the day, young Kella was literally incapable of catching a win, and because of his weak vibe, she caught all the stray hate from the castle staff. They literally made her eat out of the trash, laughing that she was doomed to go down with Kella anyway. Poor Rin choked down garbage, and bullies even tossed scorching lava her way just for laughs. Nighttime was no better, as she was locked away alone in the freezing stables. But even hiding there wasn't safe, as the cruel servants would hunt her down just to terrorize her in the dark. They twisted rumors about her seducing Tarmi, backing her into a corner with a wicked-looking blade. Trembling in pure terror, Tiny Rin cried and begged them to just leave her alone. It was during this exact nightmare era that she admitted something dark. She actually started hating Kella. She genuinely believed this whole contract was a curse. Their lives were totally linked. If he went down, she went down with him. So, hitting absolute rock bottom, she figured taking them both out was her only way out. Driven by pure desperation, she went for the ultimate double knockout, but things totally backfired. The blade slipped from her shaking hands, Taking Kella out was straight up impossible, thanks to his absolutely busted healing factor. Trapped in a literal nightmare, where not even the grave offered an escape, she completely broke down. After shedding endless tears, she just clocked out mentally, existing like a total zombie. But then, Rin screams about his insane, out-of-nowhere transformation. Literally overnight, she claims the dude flipped a switch and turned into an entirely new guy. The current Kella was dripping with heavy boss energy, way more brutal, endlessly confident, and radiating pure demon vibes. Screaming with fresh fire in her veins, she declares he finally looks like the legit successor to the demon throne, and charges straight back into the madness. Tanking a massive golem strike with her magic, she totally vents, hating how she has been nothing but dead weight to him this whole time. Refusing to be the party weak link for another second, she decides to risk it all right here, right now. She screams that if she cannot pull her weight, she has zero right to stand beside him. Boom, her mana violently detonates, completely flooding the cavern with shattered rock and blind dust. But the blast barely scratches the target. Completely drained and covered in bruises, she collapses, whispering through agonizing pain. Tears streaming down her face, she chokes out her deepest fear that getting left behind by him was her ultimate nightmare. Kella just stands there, locking eyes with her, and absorbing her emotional breakdown with stone-cold focus. Out of nowhere, the rock giant shakes off the hit and winds up a massive punch to flatten her. She stares death in the face, completely out of gas, and unable to move an inch. Right at the buzzer, Kella steps up, charging a blinding sphere of neon blue aura in his palm. He lets that chaotic energy rip straight into the golem. The blast connects dead center, vaporizing the monster in a massive sapphire shockwave. Snatching her up, he aggressively asks if she lost her mind playing the hero for his sake. Staring her down, he lays down the law. There is zero chance he would ever ditch a loyal subordinate like her. Completely stunned, she can barely stammer out his name. Flashing a rare smirk, he seals the deal, telling her that even if she tried to ghost him, he would drag her right back. That hits her right in the feels. She immediately bursts into fresh tears, completely overwhelmed by pure relief. Wrapping her arms around him in a vice grip, she bawls her eyes out while screaming her master's name at the top of her lungs. Having absorbed all her past memories, he knows her loyalty is 100% real. Right then and there, he vows to level her up into the most overpowered sidekick ever. Meanwhile, down the second pathway, the duo steps into a massive opening that stretches way further than anyone expected. Serial totally loses her cool over a glowing diamond bangle and shoves it in his face, instantly claiming dibs even though the dude could not care less. Wood just shoots her this deadpan glare, asking if she is actually that clueless, or just trolling him right now. She stands there looking goofy until the jewelry pulses with a sketchy aura. In a flash, it snaps shut around her wrists like magical neon handcuffs. Thrashing around in full panic mode, she screams at the top of her lungs, demanding to know what kind of sick trap this is. Out of nowhere, a heavy, creeping chill crawls up her spine, and what she turns back to see completely paralyzes her. A monstrous hoarding arachnid drops into view. Her jaw hits the floor. The whole shiny bracelet thing was literally just a bug trap, and she fell for it hard. Boiling with rage, she totally unleashes on Wood for just standing there like a statue instead of warning her. While the eight-legged freak closes in, he casually shrugs it off, claiming he figured she knew the risk and was just letting her do her thing. Zero time for bickering, the giant beast lunges with razor-sharp pincers. Wood keeps yapping, swearing he thought she had some big brain strat queued up, hence the VIP seating. She mentally kicks herself for getting so greedy, totally distracted and completely separated from her magic rod. Freaking out, she slaps on a poker face and lies, claiming getting captured was a totally calculated move just to test his skills. He easily sees through the cap, raising an eyebrow at her so-called test. She doubles down on the bluff and dares him to actually prove his worth. Not even blinking, he whips out his blade, promising to shatter the cursed cuffs. He brings the steel down with absolute maximum force, but she shrieks in pure terror, shouting that physical damage does absolutely zero against a mana-based lock. He freezes mid-swing, watching his heavy strike bounce off without leaving a single scratch. Taking advantage of the chaos, the monstrous bug hurls a massive glob of toxic green sludge right at their faces. Wood throws himself in front of her as a human shield, yelling that the venom is highly corrosive. Completely nerfed by the lack of plant life underground, he demands a backup plan. Frustrated beyond belief, Serial snaps that she could easily vaporize the ugly thing if her hands were free, telling him to brain up a solution right this second. The creature gives zero breathing room, launching another toxic barrage. Wood aggressively shoves her out of the drop zone, taking a nasty venom burn straight to the leg in the process. Sensing blood in the water, the monster winds up its massive pincers for a brutal execution strike. The sheer force of the ambush launches Serial across the rocky cavern. Hitting the dirt hard, she boils with rage, finally clocking that this freak is completely obsessed with hunting her down. Pinned down by the invisible force field, she can only watch as the monstrous arachnid hoists a razor-sharp talon, zeroing in for the kill. Frustration gnaws at her as she grits her teeth, totally helpless until Wood suddenly throws himself into the crossfire, tanking the brutal blow while her jaw drops in absolute disbelief. Coughing up blood, he vows to pull out all the stops just so she can cast her spells again, literally using his bare hand to suck the dark energy right out of the beast. The creature unleashes a deafening screech as he slices open his own palm with a dagger, hijacking that stolen mana to completely obliterate the lockdown. A massive blast of sapphire light erupts, totally shattering the cursed bracelet, keeping her in check, and Sriels just stares at her trembling fingers. She is literally shell-shocked that her chains are gone, while the eight-legged freak throws a massive tantrum, realizing its main course just slipped right off the plate. Seeing red, the monstrosity goes absolute goblin mode on Wood, battering his broken body into the dirt as Sriels screams out his name in pure panic. Forced to watch this nightmare unfold, she catches his final words as he collapses, breathlessly telling her to step up and obliterate this thing. Locking eyes with her one last time, he whispers her name, leaving her completely frozen, a total mess of heartbreak, trauma, and absolute rage. Seeing her guy bleeding out on the floor flips a switch inside her, and she summons her staff, instantly igniting it with a blinding, toxic violet aura. Pure fury takes over as she screams at the top of her lungs, absolutely insulted that a filthy bug thought it could actually step to her. Eyes literally glowing with murderous intent, she locks onto her target and unleashes her ultimate move, Purple Torch. A massive wave of mystic fire swallows the arachnid whole as the commander channels a totally unhinged level of destructive mana straight into the beast. The raw magical heat is so insane that it instantly vaporizes the colossal nightmare into nothing but scattered ashes. With the smoke clearing, she practically collapses from the crazy mana drain, but then her head snaps back to see Wood. Even though he is basically hanging onto life by a thread, he struggles to stand, leaving her completely dumbfounded as she demands to know how he hacked that unbreakable hex. He casually drops the fact that he just assumed his own flesh wouldn't trigger the monster's defense system. Mind blown, she presses him on what his backup plan was if he had guessed wrong, meaning he would have straight up died on the spot. Without missing a beat, he admits he literally did not care if he made it out alive, because following her orders was the only mission, leaving her entirely speechless. As she processes the insane level of loyalty he just flexed, her brain forces a brutal flashback to the surface, showing cold steel tearing right through her own chest. The cinematic shot zeroes in on a blood-soaked blade protruding from her ribs, unlocking some seriously heavy childhood trauma where she took a massive hit. But young Shriels just flashes a totally psychotic grin, revealing she tanked the strike on purpose just to trap her enemy, immediately launching a deadly counterattack. Watching from the sidelines, her old mentor points out how she literally used her own meat shield as a tactical advantage to secure the win. He issues a harsh reality check that an inch closer to her heart meant game over, but she fiercely brushes it off. For her, the mission to eliminate the target was absolute law, leaving the veteran warrior totally amazed by her unhinged level of dedication despite bleeding out. Seeing that kind of hardcore grit, he officially declares that she has cleared the brutal trial, snapping us right back to the current timeline. Staring at Wood, it hits her like a truck. He has that exact same dead inside, mission-first glare she used to rock back in her rookie days. The puzzle pieces finally connect. This crazy kid willingly gambled his own heartbeat just to keep her safe. Gripping her weapon, she closes the distance and drops the bombshell that he has officially passed her vibe check, totally catching him off guard. She formally claims him as her own squadmate, instantly following it up with a strict commander's mandate. Stop throwing his life away like it means nothing. He is completely stunned, trying to process this massive shift in her normally ice-cold personality, while standing in a literal graveyard of monster remains. Nodding slowly, he locks her words into his memory bank. Yo guys, did this chapter absolutely cook or what? Because I am obsessed. If you need to see what drops next, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and stay tuned for the next upload. Anyway, fast forward to the rendezvous point. Voices echo out, checking if the girls survived the chaos. The crew spots a battered Wood, who casually mentions that the commander already patched him up, while she immediately flames Kella for letting Rin take damage. Rin instantly covers for him, but Kella pivots the vibe, demanding a sit rep on Wood's squad, only to find out they had to throw down with a massive golem. Kella is totally weirded out by that enemy lineup, making the squad leader guess this dungeon is hiding some seriously dark lore, so she prioritizes getting Rin's HP back up. Telling everyone to take a breather, Kella starts scanning the creepy interior, noting how it straight up mirrors the Demon King's twisted crib. His gaze locks onto a massive stone figure, admitting that the highly questionable loot box sitting there is setting off all his red flags. Rin gets literal stars in her eyes, hyping up the chance of epic loot, and even the commander loses all chill. yelling that they need to crack it open as soon as possible. But out of absolutely nowhere, the ancient altar statue's eyes ignite with a sinister neon glare, triggering everyone's fight or flight response. Screaming at the squad to freeze, Kella instantly weaves a heavy-duty warding spell, throwing up a massive magic shield to tank whatever is coming. He barks at the team to hit the deck, and a split second later, the Stone Guardian blasts a lethal shockwave that violently detonates against their magical cover. Rattled by the sudden ambush, the commander shouts out, wondering if the whole loot drop was just bait all along. Rin is completely shook, swearing she never saw that twist coming, while Kella aggressively roasts them for falling for such an obvious setup. Zero time to argue. The cursed figure charges up round 2, forcing the boss to scream for a tactical retreat as she physically launches herself out of the danger zone. Rin and Wood immediately jump up, totally ready to throw down, but Kella violently shuts that idea down, ordering them to stay benched. He bluntly claims they'd just be dead weight in this clash. Swallowing their pride, the duo backs off and agrees to chill on the sidelines. Rin shoots Wood a side-eye, demanding to know why he folded so fast. He just shrugs, deadpanning that he's prioritizing his healing exactly like the boss man ordered. Visibly salty, Rin groans because she can't even fault that logic. Pleading with Kella to just survive until they heal up, the guy is already cooking up a high IQ strategy. He volunteers to pull the statue's aggro. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashes a barrage of glowing projectiles that violently smash against a hidden force field, protecting the stone figure. Capitalizing on that perfect bait, Shriel goes full pyromaniac and yeets a massive fireball straight at the target. The scorching flames explode against the invisible shield, but it absolutely tanks the hit with 0 scratches. Shriel screams in total disbelief, demanding to know how a lifeless rock is dual-wielding offense and defense simultaneously. Kella is low-key shook too, completely baffled by how it's flexing multiple high-tier spells at once. Brainstorming on the fly, Shriel narrows it down to 2 wild theories. Either some god-tier mage coded this thing, or there's literally someone piloting it from the inside. Catching on to that vibe, Kella barks at Wood to run an X-ray scan on the enemy's core. Wood instantly triggers his sensory skills, revealing to the squad that the freaky monument is completely hollow. Dropping the bombshell, Kella yells that they're definitely dealing with a squatter inside. Shriel practically shrieks that they need to shatter that shield and obliterate the rock right now. Channeling a ridiculous amount of aura, Kella violently strikes the barrier, but it doesn't even leave a dent. Out of nowhere, the stone floor shatters as 2 massive, crimson-eyed golems crawl straight out of the earth. Locking eyes with the new threats, Kella is absolutely stunned. These rock monsters are way beefier than the trash mobs from before. And right on cue, a colossal nightmare drops from the ceiling, sending chills down everyone's spines. Shriel freezes, eyes wide in pure terror at the absolute unit of a treasure spider looming over them. Muttering that the previous bugs must have been literal babies, she frantically charges up another spell. But the beast strikes first, spitting a lethal venom blast straight at Shriel. Barely dodging the fatal shot, the terrifying reality clicks. This is the monstrous Queen Mother. Wasting no time, Kella blitzes the Titan, landing a heavy blow that physically shoves the gigantic beast backward. Gritting her teeth, Shriel curses, swearing she could easily nuke this thing if they weren't trapped in this claustrophobic dungeon. Barely deflecting a brutal counterattack, Kella gets knocked back by a devastating golem punch. Backed into a corner, he debates just unleashing his full mana pool to vaporize everything, but the terrifying realization hits him: if he goes all out, the White Talon assassins will instantly track his signature. Just as panic sets in, a massive light bulb goes off in his head, and he screams at the squad to hold up. Squinting at the battlefield, he points out the statue is acting mega suspicious. He clocks the fact that the statue's magical aura completely vanished the second these raid bosses spawned. Processing this, Shriel starts connecting the dots, wondering if all its juice is being funneled into controlling the monster army. Flashbacks hit Kella. The mobs only crashed the party exactly when Shriel threatened to blow the statue to pieces. It's an automated defense mechanism. It sensed the lethal threat and panic summoned the heavy hitters. Screaming that the weird monument is their main objective, he begs Shriel to hold the line for just a few seconds. Desperately questioning his insane strategy, she still clutches up, conjuring a blazing inferno wall. The roaring barricade of fire successfully halts the monstrous army dead in their tracks. Kella's brain is operating at max capacity. If the statue is playing Puppet Master, its personal shield has to be deactivated. Sprinting with a fiercely glowing fist, he delivers a catastrophic right hook into the hollow monument, completely pulverizing the stone exterior. He aggressively tumbles right into the belly of the beast, obliterating gears and rubble along the way. Shriel's jaw literally drops as she screams that this madman just punched his way inside the artifact. Their connection cut off, the glitching golems instantly lock onto Shriel, forcing her into a desperate combat stance. Meanwhile, the Titan spider totally ignores the mages and brutally crawls straight toward the breached statue. Catching that horror movie movement, Rin shrieks that the eight-legged nightmare is hunting Kella down. To make matters worse, the massive golems suddenly pivot, charging like freight trains toward the wounded duo. Panicking as the rock giants close the distance, Rin yells that they have to jump into the fray together, but Shriel snaps back, insisting it's absolute suicide to brawl on one hit point. Slamming her hands down, she manifests a magic shield, barely tanking the devastating opening strike. From the towering twin golems, Rin aggressively shouts her name in panic, but Shriel coldly states that all their chips are on Kella now. Deep inside the dark stone cavity, Kella spots what looks like the glowing motherboard of this whole operation. He winds up for a lethal strike, betting it all that smashing this core will end the nightmare. Out of the darkness, a high-speed torrent of sticky silk blasts him. Taking it straight to the chest, he's instantly glued to the wall, tightly paralyzed like a fly in a trap. Struggling against the ridiculous constraints, he screams in pure rage at getting outplayed like a total amateur. Then, the monstrous spider's terrifying face emerges from the shadows, making him curse his absolute trash luck. Back outside, Shriel is practically crying that her mana is bottoming out, begging him to speedrun the boss kill. Still hopelessly cocooned, Kella yells back that he'd love to, but this alien superglue is unbreakable. Looming over its prey, the queen spider raises its razor-sharp, scythe-like legs for the execution. In a blur of motion, the beast thrusts its blade straight at the helpless hero. Watching death approach in slow motion, he just lets out a blood-curdling scream. Completely defenseless and out of options, he internally debates if it's time to trigger his forbidden hell-tier powers. In that split second of doom, a sinister, shadowy phantom materializes, violently berating him and calling him an absolute brain-dead clown. Then, reality snaps, and he's suddenly floating in pitch-black nothingness, instantly recognizing the terrifying chill of the abyss. The shadowy figure starts roasting him, absolutely disgusted that he's getting clapped by such low-tier trash mobs. Pissed off, Kella snaps back. Like, bro, where were you 5 minutes ago when I was fighting for my life? But the entity just tells him to shut his mouth and pop his vassal skill right now. It drops a massive lore bomb. Sure, his base stats might be garbage, but this hidden power literally lets him hijack those monsters. Brain buffering. The dude wonders if this has something to do with his previous pact with Rin. The shadow instantly calls him an idiot, forcing Kella to ask how to actually pull this off. The truth finally comes out. Demon King blood courses through his veins, and triggering this insane hack is all about intense, focused eye contact. Muttering under his breath, he repeats the instructions. Just one overwhelming, unshakable desire. The phantom entity spells it out. He just needs the raw willpower to dominate any lesser foe and force them to submit. Locking in, he zeroes his mind on his ultimate craving. The voice roars in his head, hyping him up to conquer every beast in the room and turn them into his personal army. Staring into the darkness, he stops fighting his heritage. He embraces the dark energy flooding his system and finally hits the switch. The vassal authority awakens. His eyes snap open, practically radiating a whole new, terrifying aura. Fueled by pure ambition, he stares down the colossal arachnid without a flinch. His voice booms across the room, declaring that Kella Khaldun is officially the new boss. Instantly, the crystal embedded in the monster's skull pulses, reacting to his overwhelmingly cracked energy. Eyes glowing with pure dominance, he claims absolute ownership over the beast. The gigantic nightmare creature completely freezes, dead silent in front of the kid. A razor-sharp leg violently halts just inches from slicing his face open. A weird surge of connection hits him, proving the tide of the battle just flipped. A glowing system interface pops up out of nowhere. Right there on the screen, it shows the massive beast officially bowing down to him. In reality, the towering terror drops its head straight to the floor. Even though he's still pinned, it instantly clicks in his brain. He just tamed a boss. He looks dead at the treasure spider. The once terrifying threat is now completely chained by his sheer willpower. Smirking down at his massive new pet, he whispers that it belongs to him now. But the chaos isn't over. Outside, a squad of golems is absolutely hammering their defense shield. Panicking, Sriel screams at him to make a move because the glass is cracking. Standing tall on his newly tamed mount, he yells back to stall for just a few more seconds. The reality check hits hard. One giant bug isn't going to wipe out an entire stone army. Locking onto the dungeon's heart, he realizes he has to hijack the entire system. He squares his shoulders, screaming out that he's claiming the core this exact second. The Crimson Vassal energy flares up again, shooting straight past the walls to lock onto its new target. With a piercing glare, he orders the control mechanism to submit. In a split second, the shockwave of his skill fries the rock monster's aggro. Sriel blinks in pure shock. The heavy hitters pounding their shield just straight up shut down like broken toys. Wood suddenly gestures at the ceiling, telling the girls they need to see this. Rolling in on his massive spider, our boy drops down, trailed by an army of completely pacified golems. Flexing a huge grin, he holds up a jar with a squishy little blob inside. He announces he just bagged the real mastermind behind this whole raid. Turns out, this tiny jelly was the actual dungeon boss. Juiced up on some wild, high-tier mana, he instantly cuddles the thing, fanboying over how crazy soft his very first slime feels. Sriel just stares at the jiggly creature, super confused because a domination skill like that doesn't exist in any of her textbooks. Catching on, Rin drops a massive observation. The missing piece of how the legendary Demon King mind-controlled his unstoppable hordes finally makes perfect sense. Kella casually declares they are about to start a crazy base-building arc. Squeezing his squishy new pet, he officially dubs the Slime Stone, leaving Rin completely speechless at the absurdity. Totally jealous, Sriel starts whining, demanding to know how she can unlock a broken cheat skill like that. Wood brings the vibe back to Sirius, asking what actually happened to the original residents here. Scanning the dusty ruins, Rin guesses they probably packed up and bailed ages ago. Sriel drops a darker theory. She bets they got completely wiped out defending their home against human raiders. Cradling his new jelly buddy, Kella smiles, honestly just glad he could rescue this lonely little boss. But then, his mind flashes back to that mysterious shadow demon who saved his skin. Shutting his eyes, he runs through the possibilities of how to trigger another encounter with the Phantom. He goes quiet, just gently squishing the blob in his palms while deep in thought. Snapping back to reality, he hypes up the squad. It is officially time to renovate this ruin and build their ultimate evil lair. Taming Stone was a massive W because it basically handed him admin access to the entire monster roster. Moving like a true tactician, he deploys a net of scouts to lock down the borders of their new territory. He sets the creepy crawlers as the first line of defense at the front gates, while posting the heavy-duty rock giants at every major choke point. The rest of the mob gets assigned to VIP guard duty in the throne room. With the defense grid up, it is finally unboxing time for that shiny boss loot. Weighing a pair of sleek twin blades, Rin questions if these will actually give her the DPS boost she needs. Sriel steps in with the stat breakdown. Those blades act like focusing lenses for dark mana, a huge upgrade since Rin has basically been throwing raw, messy punches this whole time. If she actually masters dual wielding, her lethality is going to absolutely skyrocket. Eyes full of resolve, Rin vows to grind her weapon proficiency just to keep our boy safe. Turning her head, she checks in on Wood, asking if his new bulky shield is going to slow him down. But the dude is thrilled, pointing out how the wood still hums with pure, living nature mana. Watching his squad geek out over their gear, Kella laughs, amazed at how elves literally vibe on a whole different wavelength. Sriel grabs a dusty spellbook, totally unimpressed by its basic-looking aura. She tosses it aside and looks dead at Kella, insisting the party leader needs to claim the absolute most overpowered sword in the stash. Dropping into a crouch, he eyes the loot, totally doubting if that specific weapon was actually the most OP of the bunch. Scanning the pile, a completely different blade suddenly grabs his attention. It gives off major trash tier vibes, but he claims he is looting it anyway. Gripping the hilt, he flexes that the weapon had been calling his name since the exact second he laid eyes on it. He smirks, claiming it feels exactly like reuniting with his day one blade. Gear secured, the squad whips out the blueprint to literally craft their own underground fortress. Mixing up raw rock and water, they mass-produce every single foundational material needed to get this massive architectural project off the ground. Fusing Shrill's raw magical output with Wood's big-brain architecture skills, they spawn an absolute stronghold straight out of thin air. He plays it cool, admitting the layout is pretty basic, but heavily flexes that the entire thing was born from his personal blueprint. Flashing a smirk, he calls it his first and maybe final masterpiece. Cut to the peaks above, where the lookouts are currently keeping their eyes peeled for trouble. Strolling up to the little guy, he checks in to see if Stone is vibing with the new setup. Watching the slime happily bounce around, a grin sneaks onto his face. He kicks back, musing that, chilling out here and dodging the Talon after dark is honestly a massive W. Their brand new safe house feels completely untouchable and dead silent. But out of nowhere, a glowing, pure energy butterfly totally shatters the peace, gliding solo through the pitch-black sky. Hard cut to Arsal. Inside the massive palace, a sorcerer formally greets Hayden, thanking him for pulling up to the royal court, but the king instantly shuts down the pleasantries. Absolutely snapping, he roars that he is definitely not taking any garbage excuses for that embarrassing flop of a battle. Forcing himself to chill out, the ruler immediately barks an order to drag the elemental casters into the throne room. Pronto. He drops a bombshell. He is going to personally level up the squad using the legendary King Stones. Sweating bullets, Hayden questions why his own crew needs to get dragged into this brutal training arc. The royal claps back, laying out the harsh reality that the White Talons still have zero clue where their targets are hiding. Pitching the rest of his master plan, he swears that bagging the fugitives first will completely save Arsol's reputation. Hayden nods along, but nervously points out that those artifacts come with some seriously lethal side effects. The king just scoffs directly in his face, mocking him for stressing over trivial details at a time like this. Snapping, he physically snatches Hayden up, flaring his magical aura to brutally flex his dominance. Staring him down, the ruler makes it crystal clear exactly who calls the shots, reminding the lackey who put Arsal on the map in the first place. Pushing the threat further, he hisses that Hayden should be counting his lucky stars that he has not been permanently deleted yet. Laying down the law, he tells the guy to quit whining and get the casters on standby. Outside, the ridiculous, sprawling palace of Arsal just looms under a bright blue sky, masking the intense drama inside. Bailing from the throne room, Hayden speedwalks through the bustling city streets, looking completely stressed out. Internally panicking, he knows they absolutely have to track Kella down before the White Talon beats them to it. Out of nowhere, a shady, hooded guy rolls up on him, dropping his name from the shadows. Whipping around, Hayden demands to know who is creeping on him, only for the stranger to casually ask if he is currently hunting for Kella. Flashing a sly grin, the mystery man guarantees he can track the target down, leaving Hayden standing there completely stunned. Jumping back to the squad, Kella awkwardly questions if his massive new chair is a little too extra. Rin instantly shuts that down, hyping him up by claiming a throne like that is bare minimum for the future demon lord. Still posted at the dining table, Kella sighs, pointing out the one massive flaw in their setup. They are literally stuck eating fish for every single meal. Locking in, Rin immediately volunteers to push deeper into the wild for a hunt, insisting her boss needs top-tier nutrients. Kella tries to hit the brakes, warning her that roaming around is basically a death wish with the Talon lurking, but she just shoots him a wholesome smile for caring. Groaning, he whines that he is insanely burnt out on the seafood diet and is craving some actual red meat. Hearing this, Wood steps up to the plate, promising to bag some local carnivorous game. When questioned about his strat, the guy reveals a brand new trick he cooked up during his grind sessions. He breaks down how he can plunge his shield into the dirt, using his radar skill to track beasts right under their feet. Shushing the crew, he seriously warns them that the magical roots have to creep through the soil dead slow, or the whole hunt is an instant bust. Fast forward 2 whole hours, and the squad is literally just sitting there staring at the dirt, getting absolutely 0 hits. 4 hours drop, and nobody has moved a muscle, just hardcore camping the spot. By the 6-hour mark, Rin completely loses her mind, snapping at Wood to ask if he straight up fell asleep on the job. Just as she complains, Wood's eyes snap wide open. He finally got a massive ping on his radar. The dude suddenly gets yanked forward as the glowing roots violently pull taut. A terrifyingly huge mole explodes out of the dirt, and Rin immediately starts screaming that they finally scored some real dinner. Shrills watches, totally hyped, handing out major props to Wood for reeling in an absolute unit of a monster. Catching feelings over the hype, he stammers out a thank you, clearly stoked to get her approval. Meanwhile, Kella is just staring at the beast in disgust, questioning if that thing is even biologically safe to consume. That instantly triggers Rin's competitive side. Sweating that the rookie is stealing her spotlight, she scrambles to reassure Kella, promising to whip up a gourmet meal out of this monstrous catch. As the sun dips, casting everything in darkness, the lookouts stay frosty, holding their positions high up on the mountain ridges. Cut to the kitchen, and Rin is internally screaming because she massively overpromised. Hacking at the beast's hide, she realizes its natural armor is insanely thick, and a regular blade cannot even scratch it. Defeated, she heavily debates swallowing her pride and begging Kella to step in, just to get the monster chopped up for cooking. Peeking at the disaster, Kella drops a brutal comment about how tragic it is that she cannot even slice the raw ingredients. Absolutely devastated by the blow to her ego, she screams that there is 0 chance she accepts this massive L. Then, it clicks. She suddenly remembers those sick gifted daggers stashed in her inventory. Shutting her eyes, she hovers her hands over the dual blades, remembering their insane passive ability to funnel her entire mana pool into one ultra-sharp, pinpoint strike. She locks in, desperately funneling her raw aura straight into the twin blades, dead set on mastering them, keeping her eyelids slammed shut. Out of nowhere, the aura violently erupts, tearing a terrified shriek from her throat as panic sets in. The terrifying truth hits her. The artifact is aggressively devouring her mana reserves. Frantically trying to drop the cursed weapon, she realizes it is practically glued to her palms. Agony rips through her as she realizes this parasitic drain will leave her completely empty. Meanwhile, deep in the ancient spellbook, Sriel uncovers a massive lore drop. This tome was custom-built for this exact labyrinth. Despite its entry-level vibes, the creator's actual power tier remains a total mystery, creeping her out. Flipping to the next chapter, a crucial hidden detail catches her eye. Right at that second, a brutal shriek echoes through the halls, making Kella jump out of his skin. He instantly demands to know what is going down with Rin. Wood volunteers to investigate the chaos, but Sriel shoots that idea down immediately. Choosing to give the girl some space, the mage casually lies, claiming their assassin is just aggressively prepping dinner, and tells the boys to chill. Reluctantly swallowing the excuse, Kella backs off and decides to sweat it out in the waiting game. Cut back to the adjacent chamber, where a deafening shockwave violently rattles the door hinges. Back in the thick of it, Rin's composure shatters. She screams into the void, desperately hunting for a loophole to tame these rogue blades. A sudden flashback hits hard. Kella, constantly throwing in the towel during their old combat seminars. Back then, she had hardcore grinded to memorize every single lecture, just so she could secretly tutor him later. Harnessing that core memory, she ruthlessly digs through her mental archives for a survival tactic. The old master's voice echoes in her head. Enchanted gear demands a dominant wielder. To actually wield an aura blade, you have to connect with its absolute core. The puzzle pieces snap together, and she finally grasps the hidden mechanics behind a weapon's soul. The professor had drilled into them that raw mana must be physically sculpted by willpower. By channeling absolute laser focus, a hunter could bend reality itself using their internal aura. The epiphany hits Rin like a truck. She needs godly tunnel vision to physically forge her magic. Re-entering the fray, she forcibly wrestles her erratic aura, commanding it to sync with the cursed steel. Pushing her body to its absolute limits, she successfully fuses her life force directly into the hilts. She roars at the top of her lungs, ordering the unruly artifacts to bow to her authority. Gritting her teeth until they almost crack, she claims absolute dominion as their one true master. Still bleeding raw magical pressure, her mind zeroes in on breaking the twin dagger's resistance. She screams to the heavens that if she fails here, keeping Kella safe from Talon is nothing but a pipe dream. Flooding the circuits, she violently detonates her entire mana pool in one massive surge. As the explosive dust finally settles, she gasps for air, completely drained by the insane power trip. Peering through the smoke, her eyes widen. The blades have successfully ripped through the monster mole's unyielding armor. Yanking the steel free, she shifts her stance to finish the butchering job. That is when it registers. The violent vortex of aura wrapped around her weapons has stopped cannibalizing her reserves entirely. A triumphant smirk crosses her face as the intoxicating rush of taming the artifacts washes over her. Fast forward to twilight, Kella starts pacing, getting low-key anxious about her massive delay. He makes a move to bust the door down, but Shriel aggressively intercepts him, ordering him to let the girl cook. Right on cue, Rin kicks the door open, proudly hoisting the butchered meat and announcing that dinner is served. Shell-shocked by the entrance, the squad interrogates her about the chaos, but she effortlessly plays dumb. Waving off their concerns like it was a walk in the park, Kella instantly clocks the ridiculous amount of sweat drenching her face. Sriel steps up with massive props, hyping up how insanely quick the assassin pulled that off. Totally lost, Rin questions why she is suddenly getting the MVP treatment. Flipping open the ancient manual, the mage drops the lore. The mutated mole's defense stats plummet when it is dragged above ground. She adds the crazy kicker: only an elite user manipulating pure sword aura could even scratch that beast's hide. Mind completely blown, Rin admits she literally felt like she was hacking into solid titanium. Wood chimes in with a solid fist bump, though she humbly tries to brush off the epic feat. Closing the distance, Kella hands out genuine praise for her hardcore carry, dropping a legendary head pat with a warm smile. He hypes up how stoked he is to devour her epic feast. Her brain totally short-circuits from the affection, turning her face crimson as she stammers his name. Riding the high of his absolute validation, she silently swears to weaponize every ounce of her potential just to remain his ultimate shield. From the sidelines, Shriel watches the wholesome moment, realizing that she is now the squad's weakest link. Flashbacks of their recent brawls haunt her, forcing her to accept she was practically dead weight in the trenches. Fueled by pure frustration and a need to level up, she declares it is time to unlock some seriously heavy-hitting, multi-target magic. Relocating to a totally isolated chamber, she gears up for a brutal, solo grinding session. Tossing the spellbook to the floor, she enters a trance, forcefully pushing her internal mana reserves to the absolute brink. Deep in meditation, guilt hits her hard. Her dad literally assigned her to be Kella's bodyguard. Yet lately, the guy has been doing all the heavy lifting and saving her skin. Hardening her resolve, she sets a ruthless goal. She absolutely must forge her legendary fourth magic circle right here, right now. Realizing the clock is ticking against their enemies, she desperately needs a massive stat buff. Triggered by the memory of those vicious dirt demons, she actually considers hijacking their cursed mana techniques. Going full ride or die, she whispers that she would gladly throw away her own life if it guaranteed Kella's safety. Out of nowhere, the discarded tome on the floor ignites with a blinding, radioactive aura. The ancient pages start violently flipping themselves like a poltergeist, leaving Shriel utterly paralyzed by the insane supernatural display. Mind racing, she questions if this cursed relic is actually resonating with her desperate magic output. In that exact moment, glowing golden runes violently tear themselves from the parchment, creating a blinding vortex of ancient text right in front of her eyes. Those ancient runes? Suddenly, they make perfect sense. But before she can even process it, a massive shockwave of pure energy blasts her right in the chest. She shrieks as the raw power slams into her. Begging for it to stop, she's completely swallowed whole by the grimoire's ancient magic. The atmosphere shifts in a heartbeat. An eerie presence materializes out of thin air, snapping Sariel into defensive mode. Scanning the void, she scrambles to figure out what kind of dimension this is. Out of the shadows, a spectral woman steps forward, announcing that the heir to the king's power has finally shown up. Totally lost, Sariel demands her identity. Did she track down her father? The ghostly figure just shakes her head, demanding answers about the glowing book. Sariel gets the shock of her life. The spirit confesses she used to serve the legendary ancient god, Turk Khaldun. Sariel's jaw drops. She screams, asking if she's actually talking about the literal ancient demon king. Dropping to her knees, her mind races. How is this even real? Is the universe pulling the strings here? The phantom hints that destiny itself orchestrated this exact moment. Panicking, Sariel begs to know, did Turk Khaldun build this nightmarish dungeon? The spirit explains her master traveled across realms, leaving behind breadcrumbs for whoever came next. The puzzle pieces finally click. Sariel's arrival was planned all along. Desperate, she screams for help, sobbing that humanity slaughtered Khaldun. But the ghost hits her with a harsh reality check she can't interfere. She's nothing but a lingering magical echo. Reality sets in. The ancient legends are truly gone. Still, Sariel pleads for raw power, desperate to protect the last descendant Kella. Smirking at her resolve, the spirit drops a bombshell. Forging new magic circles is completely up to the host's willpower. The catch? The literal feeling of dying will rip through every single nerve in her body. Still on the floor, Sariel screams that she's ready, begging for the upgrade. The entity goes cold, warning her that the torture will feel like a straight 14-year nightmare. Staring death right in the face, she doesn't even flinch. Suddenly, a vision flashes Turk Khaldun standing right beside little Kella. Eyes burning with resolve, she declares that keeping Kella safe is her absolute only reason for living. Clutching her heart, she vows to tank every ounce of the suffering. Feeling her insane aura, the phantom nods and reaches out. She declares she's about to completely overhaul Sariel's core, tearing her magic down and rebuilding it from scratch. The second the ritual kicks off, Sariel unleashes a blood-curdling shriek. Consumed by a massive aura, she thrashes as the explosive power wrecks her system. Barely clinging to consciousness, she mentally chants that she has to survive this if she wants to win. Hovering above, the spirit casually watches, eager to see her breaking point. Sariel wails in pure agony as her entire body goes through absolute hell to evolve. Cut to our boy Kella, casually hauling a tray of roasted meat. Strolling through the dark, his mind flashes back. He remembers Sariel vanished right after promising to scout the ruins. Out of nowhere, this massive, glowing orb blocks his path. Spotting her shadow trapped inside, his stomach drops and he screams her name. Sprinting toward the bubble, panic sets in over what just went down. He slashes at it, only for his blade to bounce off a heavy-duty magic shield. He swings with everything he's got, but it doesn't leave a scratch. Refusing to give up, he vows to shatter the hex, screaming at Sariel to stay with him. Dead silence. He yells for her again, watching helplessly as she suffers inside the orb. Miles away, Killian and his elite hit squad touch down, with him immediately questioning if they navigated to the right spot. Curdle nods, proving the unicorn's memories dragged them straight here. She points out there are over 400 islands in this chain, making Kelka complain about the insane grind ahead. Unbothered, Killian actually flexes, calling it a perfect setup. Yanking his blade, he confidently declares they'll just scrub every single rock until the mission is clear. With zero hesitation, Killian casually swings his sword, launching a massive shockwave. The sheer force of the slash hits the ocean, literally parting the sea. Audrey and Kalka's jaws drop at his god-tier strength. Right beside them, Deed is totally hyping him up, calling the move absolute fire. Pivoting back to his squad, Killian gears up for the next phase. Flashing a cocky smirk, he orders the crew to scatter and hunt Kella down as soon as possible. Back at the dungeon, Kella is relentlessly hacking at the energy dome. Panting hard, he's totally baffled by how insane this defense is. Watching Sariel locked inside, he freaks out as her blood keeps pouring out. Panicking, he mutters that he absolutely has to break her out. He refuses to lose her today. Out of nowhere, a crazy, loud rumbling from the surface breaks his focus. Totally confused, he wonders if a literal earthquake just hit. Up on a jagged cliff, two sketchy owls are dead-ass scanning the horizon. Seconds later, one of them swoops into the sky, running a full tactical patrol over the archipelago. Locking onto its prey, the winged scout goes into hyper-focus mode. Down below, Killian's radar goes off, making him freeze dead in his tracks. Verifying the coordinates, the owl's eyes flash with a blinding, sinister glow. Inside its tiny cage, Little Stone goes absolutely feral, flashing a blaring red alert. Catching the pop-up screen, Kella realizes Stone is hitting the panic button hard. His blood runs cold as he guesses, are the guys in white already here? Kella's heart basically drops out of his chest. He knows immediately that the White Token Squad is crashing their party. Panic sets in. What if Cardley's wicked magic already folded Shirl's? Sprinting for his life, he realizes if they get spotted right now, it is instantly game over. Skidding to a halt in front of Rin and Wood, he screams at them to fall back to the bunker. He desperately explains that the White Token Hunters are practically breathing down their necks. Rin's eyes go wide as it clicks that massive earthquake was actually them. She instantly turns to sprint back and rescue Shirl's, but Kella cuts her off, yelling that an enemy hex probably already has Shirl's locked down completely. Dashing toward the panic room, Kella barks that grabbing cover is their only shot at survival. Swearing the bunker's stealth tech will hide their heat signatures, he aggressively hustles the crew inside. To speed things up, he literally shoves Wood through the heavy doors. Swallowing his guilt, he mentally apologizes to Shirl's, accepting that saving her right now is a total lost cause. Seconds later, the massive vault slams shut, instantly booting up an impenetrable magical shield. Meanwhile, the camera cuts to Killian hovering over an island totally engulfed in hellfire. Dropping out of the sky with a heavy thud, he gears up to sweep the burning wasteland completely solo. Stalking through the scorched, jagged rocks, his eyes scan every shadow. He pauses, muttering that the air totally reeks of some weird, twisted mana. Right above him, that massive owl perches on a boulder, locking onto the surroundings like a living drone. Down in the dark vault, Kella aggressively questions Little Stone for enemy intel. The scout drops a bombshell. It is a dude rocking snow-white hair and a massive blade. Rin absolutely loses her mind. That description totally fits Killian, the apex predator captain of the White Token. Sweating bullets, Kella realizes they are insanely cooked if he spots the hidden door. Topside, Killian casually strolls right up to their magically camouflaged entrance. Slowly raising a hand, he reaches for what looks like a totally normal rock wall. The second his fingertips brush the stone, the barrier glitches, exposing the heavy illusion spell masking the lair. He blinks, caught off guard for a split second, before a wicked smirk spreads across his face. Bingo. He finally tracked down their little rat hole. His eyes turn absolutely lethal as he whispers that Kella is about to meet his maker. Deep underground, a wave of pure dread hits Kella. Their front door just got totally exposed. Getting ready to pop off, Killian slowly drags his blade from its scabbard, but mid-draw, he just stops dead in his tracks. Why would he drop a nuke on this place just to bag a couple of low-tier demons? Plus, blowing it up means he would totally have to hand the credit over to Deed. Flexing his aura, he literally just clips right through the fake holographic wall and casually steps inside. Crossing the threshold, he vows to personally butcher every last one of them. Instantly, Little Stone shrieks an absolute red alert. The monster just breached the dungeon. Backed into a lethal corner, Kella goes all in. He drops the signal, mobilizing every single beast in their arsenal for a massive, kamikaze counteroffensive. Right on cue, an absolute tidal wave of horrific creatures floods the hallway to block the invader. Killian just sizes them up, scoffing at this totally bizarre, mismatched monster squad. Without missing a beat, he completely blitzes into the horde. It becomes an instant bloodbath as he shreds through the beasts with blinding, god-tier speed. When the dust finally settles, Killian stands totally untouched, inside a massive graveyard of chopped-up monsters. Only one beast is left standing.